Welcome to Fiction Audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendations for novels, comment below.
Please join my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/fictionaudiobook.
Chapter 64, A Battle Between Two Kings ** bonus chapter *. Third POV. While the Knights of the Round Table and Neos Argonauts were fighting with each other with everything they had got, it wasn't their battle that was going to decide who would be the winning side, but rather the result of the battle fought above them between the two Artoria Pendragons was the main deciding factor. Goddess Rhongomyniad, being mounted on top of her white horse, used her divine lance to manifest several attacks of golden light which she shot at her other self. Artoria quickly nullified them with her Rhongomyniad, making the former's eyes narrower. "I see, you have it as well," she said in a calm voice. Artoria looked at her with a bloodthirsty gaze. Artoria quickly silently chanted a 7th tier spell, Chain Dragon Lightning, which shot a dragon-shaped lightning towards the goddess Rhongomyniad. It was one of the most destructive spells she had under her arsenal. The latter's eyes became wary as she used the holy lance to erect a powerful barrier around her to protect her, which succeeded in nullifying Artoria's attack. But that was just the beginning, as Artoria shot another Chain Dragon Lightning, with another 7th tier spell, Napalm Blast, and another 7th tier spell, Scorching Flame Wave, and she had used maximized enhancement on all of them, raising their power to fullest. Such an attack can destroy her previous self back in London Singularity even with her full powers easily, yet they barely managed to create cracks in the shield of the goddess Rhongomyniad, who was slightly surprised by such an outcome. Yes, she wasn't at her full strength as of now, manifesting only as a divine spirit, yet her strength was no joke, and despite the fact that the barrier ability of Rhongomyniad was very limited in her current form, it was strong enough to protect the entire holy city from the aftermath of the attack between her and Poseidon's meteorite strike. It could do more, and at her full power, even Ozymandias would find it difficult to barely scratch her barrier with his strongest attacks. Still, she paid it no heed and her face returned to normal, and she quickly used her divine lance to attack Artoria with her divine lance, manifesting several stripes of white shining in a golden light shooting towards the Artoria, who quickly used triplet chain lightning to counter them. For a moment the battle seemed to be at a stalemate, as both the parties kept attacking each other with attacks that kept nullifying each other's, but it was only for a short moment. Goddess Rhongomyniad decided to end her other self in close quarters and commanded her horse to gallop forward. Then, approaching Artoria at a speed faster than sound by several times, she thrust forward her holy lance with the intent to impale through her black armor, but Artoria, who had already used several spells to boost her prowess, easily parried it with her holy lance with such force that made Goddess Rhongomyniad's hands numb for a moment. Seeing the chance, she quickly thrusted her lance at her, but the Lord of the Ends of the World used her divine authority to escape the attack by briefly teleporting away, appearing hundreds of meters away. It annoyed Artoria to find herself losing such a good opportunity to bring the latter down in one move. She quickly summoned about 9 7th tier angels to assist her. The moment the Dominion authorities were summoned, a slight fragrance appeared in the air. They bathed in the bluish-white light as if the world itself was welcoming these holy beings. They quickly assembled together in a formation and shot fully powered holy smites which had the prowess of an 8th tier spell, and being shot by several angels it had reached the power of a 9th tier spell. Alas, the enemy they were dealing with was a goddess, and she dispelled these attacks at a moment's notice as if they were within her jurisdiction. Artoria was unfazed by the casual display of power by goddess Rhongomyniad, as she had expected this to happen. The only reason she had summoned this angel was to play the role of a distraction. They did their job as they charged at goddess Rhongomyniad at near the speed of sound, which further increased as they cast holy spells on themselves. Goddess Rhongomyniad quickly shot several beams of golden lights at them, but they were easily blocked and nullified by the golden mace they held in their hands. Just as goddess Rhongomyniad was immune to their holy attacks due to being a divine being, the angels were also immune to weak and moderate attacks from her, making them a great summon to distract her and keep her busy. Meanwhile, Artoria quickly unleashed the full power of her noble phantasm and shot it at her, the goddess who was busy dealing with the angels in close combat. The Dominion authorities quickly moved away from the core of the attack shot by Artoria. To them their lives mattered little as long as they could achieve their master's goal, and the only reason they moved away from Artoria was to not hinder her attack. The last thing goddess Rhongomyniad saw was a purplish-black tornado that moved toward her before it engulfed her entire being. The surrounding angels weren't spared as well, as they too were engulfed and killed by the lance that shines at the end of the world. Artoria looked at the scene with nervousness, wondering if she had managed to kill or at least injured the Lion King. Alas, her expectations were shattered as she saw a completely unharmed goddess Rhongomyniad without a single scratch on top of her white horse. An expression of disbelief formed on her face as she asked, "How?" Lion King looked at her other self and said, "We both have received protection from the ends of the world itself. The rank of mine is way higher than yours. Other than that, I have full control of the Holy Lance and I am God ruling over the authority of the end of the world as well. You cannot hurt me with the attacks from Rhongomyniad or of the same nature." Artoria became silent. Her other self in front of her was extremely strong, more than she had expected. To think that her trump card was completely useless in front of her was unexpected to her. She gritted her teeth in frustration, while the Lion King said, "Let's stop this meaningless war, we both are the same person, even if we are different. I ask of you once more, to work with me to save humanity, even your servants are invited by me to join in my noble cause." Artoria snorted and said, "I am not the leader of Neos Argonauts for your information." Hearing her words, Goddess Rangaminiad glanced at the Poseidon floating in the sky observing their battle and said, "It's him. That other divine being, right? You do not have to worry about it then, I will defeat him and then you can join me with the other willing servants." Artoria glared at her and said, "To join you? Not even in my dream I will betray my liege, so give up on that pesky try of persuading me, faker." Her words made Goddess Rangaminiad give up the hope of making her other self join her. In the end, she had no choice but to battle herself to save humanity, even if she didn't like it. Goddess Rangaminiad glanced downward, seeing her knights at a big disadvantage, not to mention the presence of another divine being watching her made her uneasy. She didn't want to spend much time dealing with her other self since it would put her at a disadvantage. She glanced at Artoria with a scrutinizing gaze and decided to put an end to the battle. She said, "Well, I guess we can't agree with each other, then let's end it now." Her words made Artoria shudder as she understood well the implications of her other self, and just like she had predicted, Goddess Rangaminiad started chanting, "I've expanded the land, built cities, crossed the ocean, and split the heavens. All for what? Holy Lance, tell me of the end." Rangaminiad. As she chanted, the holy lance in her hand shined brightly in golden color. She aimed it at her other self, who quickly used a defensive spell, after another to protect herself even if it seemed to be futile. A huge cone of golden light manifested in front of her, and then she shot it at her other self. It was the strongest attack that she could manifest as of now, it was the divine judgment. Artoria couldn't escape the attack, and neither teleporting would be of any help other than prolonging her life. In the end, she would just waste the mana of her liege and decided it would be better if she faced the attack head-on. It was stupid of her, yet this is just how she is, loyal to Poseidon and unwilling to put any burden on him. She thought it would have been better for her to die if she couldn't stand against such attack. The attack hit her, piercing through all the shields, and the sky shined brightly, so brightly that it momentarily blinded all the human soldiers and even the servants battling below. Once the skies became clear, they looked above to see who was the winner of the clash between the two kings. Only Goddess Rangaminiad remained above them, on top of her white horse, while any presence of Artoria was absent. It was clear that the Goddess Rangaminiad had won the battle. Her knights erupted in a cheer as they saw the outcome of the battle, but things were far from over. "May my wrath tear through your filthy souls," said Poseidon in a cold voice, as the beams of light started raining down on the human armies led by the Knights of the Round Table. The battle tilted on the side of the Neos Argonauts as the cannon fodder, who were proving to be annoying to the servants of Neos Argonauts, fell down to their death rapidly. The beams of light even injured knights like Tristan, Agravain, and Lancelot, though the Gawain, the darling of the sun, remained unharmed. As for the Mordred belonging to the faction of Lion King, was spared by Poseidon, as he well knew that Mordred wanted to kill her other self without any outside help. Author's note: I will call Mordred on Lion King's side Mo-san or Guerrilla Knight, and Mordred on MC's side as simply Mordred or Knight of Betrayal. The two Mordred who were battling each other paused. The one gifted by Lion King started laughing. "See that? Father is mighty and he defeated your father. Now come and die, my other self," said the Guerrilla Knight haughtily, clearly liking the fact that the father who recognizes her killed the other who didn't recognize her. Mordred gritted her teeth and said, "Why you?" Finally, she understood why other knights didn't like her much. "She is freaking annoying to deal with." She quickly shouted, "Clarent Arthur," and charged at her other self with the intent to kill her. Alas, she was stronger than her, being bestowed by a gift that empowered her on the cost of harming herself. Thus she was put at a disadvantage against her other self. The battle raged on, and the fight between the servants became more fierce with each passing second. Finally, the first real casualties of the battle were revealed, who were none other than Tristan and Lancelot. The former died due to being overpowered by the two servants, who were none other than Chiron and Medea, and latter died against the battle of his son's vessel, Mash. The Lion King, seeing her side losing despite her knights being assisted by the remaining enforcement knights created by her, she decided to intervene. To be continued. Chapter 66, Wrath of a God. Poseidon POV. Anger. I felt anger about the decision that Artoria made. She let herself be killed by Goddess Rangaminiad as she considered herself to be a failure and didn't want to waste my mana. While a show of finest fealty towards me, it was stupid. To give up like that is something I despise, and I am sure to reprimand her once I return to the throne. Thankfully, only her vessel had died and not her in actuality, otherwise I would have just broken off all the limitations put on me and killed all the so-called legendary knights and turned their soul into oblivion. Still, they had angered me, and it's time I show them the power of the Master of the Seven Seas. Greater strength, greater dexterity, greater vitality, dark vision, death mask, greater energy immunity fire, greater energy immunity thunder, greater energy immunity sun, greater luck, greater magic vision, greater shield, lion's heart, mind of undeath, blessing of Gaia, mercy of Sharia Robusta. I chanted strong power-enhancing spells one after another on all the servants on my side, which was made possible with multicasting, and casted them in less than a second using thought acceleration. Third POV. The bodies of all the servants of Neos Argonauts glowed in a rainbow shade, and then they could feel changes in their bodies. Their strength had almost doubled, and their speed and endurance as well, but that was just the tip of the iceberg, as Poseidon had used 17 different spells, one of which grants immunity to them instant death moves for a certain period of time, and they will also resurrect to their full strength if they were to die under spell's effect in another way as well. Goddess Rangaminiad well understood the powers bestowed to the enemy servants by their god, and she was indeed awed by it. A hint of respect formed in her eyes for the Poseidon who floated in front of him. Their eyes met and then it got locked. She could feel the seething rage coming from him, as his divinity was raging outside his body. While the level of the divinity of the divine being in front of her was incomparable to her own, she well knew that the person standing in front of him was a magician as well. Someone could perform miracles at his whim. Thus, defeating him would be no easy task. They kept looking at each in silence for a few seconds, till Poseidon broke the silence. "You have angered me, Goddess Rangaminiad. You killed my confidant with a divine judgment, huh? Let me show you the divine judgment of mine." The skies changed as black clouds formed over the desert, and in no time a storm raged upon the sands. It was not an ordinary storm, as the lethality of the winds was enough to kill even peak athletes. Yet it managed to do no harm to them. Rangaminiad got ready with her lance to attack Poseidon and started chanting to activate the full power of the holy lance. Poseidon quickly cast spells at himself, maximized greater strength, maximized greater dexterity, maximized greater vitality, maximized dark vision, maximized false data, life, maximized false data, mana, maximized death mask, maximized greater energy immunity fire, maximized greater energy immunity thunder, maximized greater energy immunity sun, maximized greater energy immunity holy, divine radiance, maximized greater luck, maximized greater magic vision, heavenly aura, maximized greater shield, boost paranormal intuition, lion's heart, mind of undeath, transmutation damage, maximized mercy of Sharia robusta. Poseidon's body gleamed in a rainbow color, and then a strong magical energy radiated from his body, stunning all the combatants battling below. "Rangaminiad," said the Lion King, as she used her divine judgment on the god in front of her, and to her surprise Poseidon didn't dodge the attack and let it hit him. The confused Artoria's doubts were cleared in the next moment as her attack failed to affect the god even a bit. She was shocked to see her strongest attack fail. Poseidon then glanced at her with an emotionless look and said, "Now it's my turn." Rangaminiad got wary and saw the space twisting in front of her. A/N, for those who think it's cliché, Poseidon is doing physiological stuff here. Let me see who can figure it out. She tried to avoid the attack, but how could she avoid the literal twist of space? The attack hit her, ignoring all her magic defenses, and she was thrown to the ground, and her body passed through several buildings of her own utopia as she destroyed them, and only stopped when she hit the wall that was the manifestation of her holy lance itself. She coughed out huge amount of saliva and tried to stand up back again. "My king," Gawain got worried seeing his king being shot away in the distance like a rag doll. The next moment he barely dodged the attack from the Mordred, and glanced at her angrily. Mordred laughed and said, "I have killed my other self, and now let me prove that I am stronger one between us." Gawain was baffled by the shamelessness of the Knight of Treachery, whose confidence had reached new heights after being blessed by Poseidon. She finished off the Mordred bestowed a gift from the Lion King. He said, "You shameless son of a." Gawain stopped, realizing he was going to call his own king a bitch, and gritted his teeth and swung his sword, battling with Mordred head on. Meanwhile, Poseidon's figure hovered in front of the Lion King, who for the first time showed an emotion on her face, and that was pain and anger. In fact, due to her being a high divine spirit, it was no easy task to kill her, as gods in general were immortal beings. That was more true in the Fate verse, where killing even a lesser divine spirit needed an Excalibur worth of power. "Aghahav," screamed Rangaminiad, unable to cope with this newfound emotion, and with burning anger towards Poseidon, she unleashed holy attacks at him, which were none other than stripes of white manifesting from her divine authority. To block her attacks, Poseidon chanted a 7th-tier hell wall, which summoned a wall of hell flames that blocked and consumed all of her attacks. She was further angered by this and increased the intensity of her attacks by several-fold. Seeing this, Poseidon retaliated with a huge pillar of flames that burned away all the attacks of Lord of the Ends of the World into ashes. It further struck her, making her feel the agonising pain from the heat. The land around her melted into lava from the sheer heat, and even from the kilometers away the Neos Argonauts could feel the heat. But it was nothing, as Poseidon chanted a spell that was sure to turn everything to dust and even split atoms of everything apart. Maximized nuclear blast, he chanted, summoning a ball of white nuclear energy, and then the next moment an explosion erupted, blinding everyone till several kilometers. The buildings around them were swept away and a quarter of the holy city was destroyed. Though the Lion King was unharmed, but more distorted as her anger increased, seeing her perfect utopia being destroyed. If she was in her normal mood, then such a thing wouldn't have affected her a bit, but since in the state of anger anything displeasing fueled anger, this made her angrier. "Rangaminiad," she said as she cast off the dust and radiation with her lance, and the moment she saw Poseidon she charged at him. She broke the sound barrier in less than a 1/10 of a second and thrusted her lance at Poseidon with her full strength. Unfortunately for her, Poseidon teleported away, not a bit taken off by the surprise attack. But Rangaminiad didn't stop and quickly charged towards the Poseidon who had teleported, who this time stayed in his place, and just as about she was to strike, a hand grabbed her lance stopping her in her tracks, but no, it wasn't Poseidon. Rather, in front of Rangaminiad there was a humanoid angel-like being, who radiated off an extremely pure holy aura. It was none other than the son of God himself, a being who rivaled Ain's Ulgaun. Poseidon has summoned after he used nuclear blast. In fact, he knew that an attack that could even split atoms would do no harm to the goddess Rangaminiad, and it was nothing but a distraction to get some time to cast the super tier spell. And while he could not silent chant super tier spells, but again he didn't have to say it loud. Thus in the little time he got, he managed to summon the highest ranking of all angels. The goddess Rangaminiad was quickly caught off by the involvement of a new being in their battle, and thus Poseidon got a chance to punch in her guts and throw her on the ground like a rag doll. Aghhhhhhh, goddess Rangaminiad screamed as she summoned the entire power of her lance. Cracks appeared in her lance as the last seal of it opened, unleashing the true power of an anti-world phantasm. A conical rainbow-striped shining attack moved towards Poseidon. It was an attack capable of giving the divine judgment to the whole world itself. Poseidon's eyes narrowed as he quickly created barriers around the Neos Argonauts with his divinity and spells, and then looked at the angel who nodded and summoned all of his mana and shouted, "Holy flames, destroy the adversity in front of me." Uriel, a huge burst of flames rushed towards the anti-world noble phantasm. Both the attacks made the world tremble. The space started cracking even before the two attacks met each other. Through these cracks one could see the glimpses of other world lines, indicating that this level of power has long surpassed what the world could handle. The holy flames met the divine attack head-on, and the space around them got completely torn off. The layers of the world got destroyed one by one, and although both the attacks seemed to be of similar magnitude, the divine judgment tore through the flames that cleansed all the evils of the world. Angel, seeing this, quickly used his body as a shield for his master, and just as he predicted, the divine judgment completely overpowered his flames and then crashed against his body. Thankfully, due to his holy nature, his body managed to cancel out the remaining power of the attack, though it cost his life and his body vaporized. The divine attack by Rangaminiad still persisted, though it was no more dangerous to Poseidon, who easily nullified it by a vermilion nova. The 60% of his mana was already used up at this point, so he waited no longer as the opportunity to defeat Lion King was visible in front of him, and teleporting in front of her, he stabbed his hand through her body and grabbed her divine core and destroyed it. The place became silent as goddess Rangaminiad looked at Poseidon in disbelief. She could feel her divinity and immortality fading away. Even the strength of her body became weaker as it barely held together. Poseidon took out his hand of her body and said, "You lost." The body of the Lion King fell on the ground, and she coughed out blood. Poseidon glanced at the battlefield where his servants had already finished up the entire knights of the round table. A certain white-haired knight was though running towards them. He teleported him in front of them as he stumbled, seeing the changed scenery. Then he glanced at Poseidon, understanding everything, and gave him a grateful look. Then he shifted eyes towards his dying king. He knelt and said, "I am back, my king." Lion King asked him weakly, "Who are you?" She could feel nostalgia seeing him. He said, "I am the one who made you suffer through all of this. That's why I had been searching for you for years, so that I can apologize and let you rest in peace." The armor on his right hand transformed into a sword. Her eyes widened seeing it, as glimpses of it ran through her mind. He gave it to her, and the moment she held it, almost all of her memories returned to her, while Bedivere, who was fading away, said, "Thank you, Lord Poseidon. If not for you, then I wouldn't have got to meet my king." Poseidon just nodded and then glanced at dying Artoria. Her situation didn't change and only got worse after she grabbed Excalibur. She looked at how her most trusted knight faded away. "I see, so you have been for all these years," she muttered, and then glanced at Poseidon. "We might be enemies, but let me thank you for letting me remember these memories once again," she said. Unexpectedly, Poseidon blasted her body into smithereens next moment. "Thanks, but I am not in the mood for this drama," he said as he killed her. Chapter 67, this where the fight ends. Poseidon POV. I glanced at the destroyed crater and the last of the golden particles that disappeared with the death of the goddess Rangaminiad. I sighed. This time it was more challenging than I had assumed. Maybe I should just stop underestimating others even if they are a lot weaker than me. Perhaps I could have killed her more easily if I was in my peak form. Still, that matters little now. I had won and did so while being nerfed, and I had been weaker than she was from her true god form. Still, I wasn't content. I wanted it to be a perfect victory, yet it cost the life of my subordinate, though she is fine for the most part. I sighed and just accepted my fault and decided to do better next time. Still, this reminded me that I am not strong, not even by peak universal standards. Finally, I decided it was time to meet up with the team that I had gathered together in the Singularity and the ones who made it possible to complete the second quest that I had taken up. I floated in the air and then flew towards them. I landed in front of them. "You are finally here, my lord," said Jalter with an expectant smile on her face. Then she leaped forward, hugged me tightly, and started rubbing her head against my body. "Did my performance satisfy you, my lord?" she asked. I gave a direct reply, "Yes," since I could already see that no one died, and that was a big accomplishment in itself. This would surely boost my merit points by a lot. Meanwhile, I was cuddling a happy Jalter when Ristuka came forward and asked me, "Lord Poseidon, where is Sir Guinevere?" I looked at him, and then the holographic projection of Romani came in front of him, who had a nervous look on his face, and I replied, "You should already know about it, doctor." He coughed and said, "Yes, I had some doubts, but you had made it clear." He then went on and explained how Guinevere was a human all along, much to everyone's shock. "I see," he muttered with a sad face, "it sure is no easy task being the last master of humanity when you are just a normal base human with additional poison nullification, and when I am added to the equation who wants to use you as merit booster, it sure is hell for him." I thought, a bit amused. The worn-out night of betrayal, Mordred approached me, knelt before me in a knightly way, and asked me, "Lord Poseidon, can you tell Father that I performed excellently and slew all those who stood in front of her, so she can forgive me, even if only a bit, for my crimes?" Her body armor was broken at my places, and red blood could be seen oozing out of her wounds. It was apparent to me that the fight for her was no easy. Heck, it wasn't easy for anyone except Astolfo, who had only light scratches. Making me look at him with a scrutinizing gaze, I could see he was the least injured of all. Even Ritsuka had far more injuries than the femboy. "Hey, Lord Poseidon, did you finally realize just how cute I am?" he asked me with a smile on his face. I replied with disgust in my voice, "Why the hell, you are the one with the least injuries." My blunt reply froze him in his place, and everyone erupted in a burst of laughter. I broke my hug with Jalter and took out the almost emptied Holy Grail and threw it to the Ritsuka, who caught it. "This is the Holy Grail, Mash," and Ritsuka gasped. Da Vinci nodded as if she already had predicted this situation. The singularity slowly started repairing itself, and I said, "Thanks to every servant here that I was able to do my task." All of them nodded, and Mordred finally stood up and said, "Haha. Since Father is not here, I can call you Mr. God again. Anyway, Mr. God, if there is next time, do call me as well. I want to meet Father again." I just nodded, and Dr. Romani said on the holographic screen, "Ristuka, Mash, and Leonardo. We will be doing ray shifting." Finally the protagonist said goodbye to everyone, and I hugged Jalter, who was in a bliss, and teleported back to my divine throne. I opened my eyes, and glanced at the Artoria kneeling in front of me. My eyes twinkled, seeing the fierce divine aura radiating from her. She said, "My liege, I shall apologize for my defeat." I replied to her in a blunt tone, "No need for that. It wasn't a fight that you had to win, and again, even if you lost the battle, you won the war. It would seem you have ascended to a god." I asked the system, "Show me her status." Here you go. Status. Name, Artoria Pendragon. Affiliation, loyal knight, servant, devotee, lover, and personal bitch. Again, too kinky. Strength, A+. Endurance, A. Agility, B. Mana, EX. Luck, A+, D. It has changed due to meeting you. Noble Phantasm, EX. Personal skills. Divinity, A++. Authority of the End of the World, EX. Master of the Storm, A++. Breath of the Red Dragon, EX. Charisma, B, E. Due to your influence, her charisma had regained a large portion of her original capability. Protection of the Ends of the World, EX. Tier Magic, A+++, up to 7th tier. Silent Casting, A+++, up to 7th tier. Multicasting, A+, 5 spells at once. Maximized Magic, B+, up to 7th tier. Noble Phantasm. Invisible Air, Anti-Unit C. Rangaminiad, Anti-Fortress EX. After looking at her status, I could easily say that she is the strongest here after me. Her divinity was even higher than what I possess, and her parameters had increased by a large margin, not counting the fact that she could utilize her magical boosts to increase her parameters to ridiculous levels and use her divinity to increase the level of attacks. Again, as she was a god now, the only way to kill her was to destroy her divine core, thus despite what her endurance showed, it had increased to a level no longer bound by mortal shackles. Suddenly Jalter, who had awakened, asked with disbelief in her voice, "Wait a minute. You became a god?" Indeed, it would seem that battle aroused me to break my limits and ascend to godhood, much like my other self in that singularity, she replied. Her words annoyed Jalter, who had realized she was no longer the strongest one among my subordinates. I suddenly said, disrupting their talk, "It is much more than what you think, Artoria. Unlike your other self, who had ascended to godhood after sacrificing her human part and losing her memories, you have mastered the power over Rangaminiad, hence you should be stronger than her." A blush crept on her face, and a smile formed on her lips hearing my praise. "Thanks for the praise, my liege." I smirked and then said, "Though I am displeased by the fact how you self-sacrificed yourself, thinking a burden to me. Do you think if you are unable to fight any longer would matter to me? Or the fact you are consuming my mana? That was completely a stupid and unnecessary decision on your part, hence I will be punishing you for it." Her smile faded away upon hearing that, and then I continued, "So make sure, as I won't be going easy on you on our next session." Her heart trembled hearing that, and a depraved smile formed on her face. I see, then I will be waiting for my punishment." Jalter clicked her tongue hearing that. "Master, you are a real sadistic and your women are real sadomaso," said System. I replied with a grin, "Of course, I know about that, and I am proud of it." "Ahem, can you all stop ignoring me?" said Scathack with a small pout on her face. I looked at her and said, You did expect us to come back in a few minutes or even a few seconds, huh? Well, you can go and do a warm-up for our fight, as I won't wait any longer. Her face became surprised, and then a sadistic smile formed on her face. Oh, taking it earlier, huh? Can't say I don't like it. After having a small chat with them, they left to do a warm-up training before the fight. Even though they understood that I needed some alone time after every time I returned from a singularity, they were quite smart in this matter. Though after getting thought acceleration that mattered little. So the system gives me my rewards, I demanded, quite eager to get my new abilities. Well, you completed 2 voluntary quests and 2 hidden quests, and you get quite a bit of merit from this singularity. Ding. 1. You have completed the quest, a safe haven. Completion condition, create a huge and paradise-like haven in the world of desert, where people have lost hope in their lives. Save more than 2,500 people and give them refuge in your paradise during the duration of your descent. Reward, January 5th, th of the perfect divine realm has been granted. Advantages, a part of the perfect divine realm for the king of gods, the strongest divine realm under complex multiverse level. It is a safe haven, the existence of immortality, and a source of divinity for its ruler. Disadvantages, you will need at least 3 parts of the perfect divine realm to establish it. 2. You have completed the quest, no more legendary knights. Create a group of powerful servants or people and take them under your command, let them clash against the Knights of the Round Table, and win this battle without your direct intervention. Reward, Apostle bestowal has been granted. Advantages, you can bestow a mark of the Apostle to any selective individual, it will create an intimate connection between God and the Apostle. God can know the location of its Apostle, and the soul of the Apostle regardless of outer intervention stronger up to 100 times the God will always return to the God. God can also bestow its divinity to its Apostle, which can empower them greatly, and can also share a part of his abilities if required. Also, the power of God will increase with any growth in the power of the Apostle, and God has a conceptual level of immunity from the attacks of his Apostle, and any function mentioned above can be cancelled and activated on the will of God. Also, multiple marks can be bestowed. Disadvantages, it is not absolute, and the mark can only be bestowed to those who are willing to become Apostle. The mark works better with the feelings of the Apostle towards God. The Apostle can also rebel, though the mark can't be broken without the will of God. You have completed the secret quest, kill a god. Completion condition, kill a god. Selecting an appropriate reward. Reward, your divinity has been increased to A+++. Note, a reward chosen by the system based on the master's circumstances. You have completed the secret quest, bring down the Holy One. Completion condition, kill a holy being equivalent to a god, or equal to God. Reward, holy attack nullification has been granted. I gasped a bit seeing all of the rewards. It would seem the poor scat-hack would lose more faster than she expected to. It would seem this is where the fight ends in the first place. To be continued. Chapter 68, It was not supposed to be like this. Poseidon POV. I stood in front of Scat-Hack, the queen of the land of shadows, ready to battle with me in her full glory, wearing an extremely appealing, sexy, and tight uniform, and thighs that would make any man of culture like me to be pressed between them. I nodded to myself, proud of my choice, while Scat-Hack frowned and said, "Can you stop ogling me and focus?" Her words were blunt. She was indeed a bit new to the matters of love, but she was no woman to shy about such matters and even about sex. I respected her words, knowing well how much effort she had put up to get strong enough to give me an extremely good battle or even have a chance of defeating me, while her god killer would be more lethal to me due to my increased divinity, but that would be but meager compared to my increased prowess after my divinity had increased more than 50 times. I got serious and took a battle stance, summoning my trident. A cruel smile formed on her face. "Poseidon, do your best, otherwise you will be up for a beating, and remember that, I won't go on easy," she said, showing her sadistic nature. Her words made me smile, one that contained pride and cruelty. "I will break the pride of warrior," I thought as a cruel glint appeared in my eyes. Then the time slowed in my vision and I charged towards breaking the sound barrier on my first step, reached a speed 10 times faster than sound, and thrusted forward my trident only for her to teleport away, and attack from behind. I smirked and used my noble phantasm, World of Water, and the next moment we were in a different place. "You used your noble phantasm?" she asked with narrowed eyes and quickly gazed around. She was showing such a reaction because she knew I hadn't used such an ability till now, at least from Jalter she knew about it. Meanwhile, I breathed excited, feeling all my parameters increasing by a single rank. My abilities increased as well, including my personal skill divinity, which had reached the EX rank. I couldn't completely comprehend why the difference between A+++ and EX divinity was so big unlike its other counterparts, but I could understand it now, what Arjuna Alter must have felt, because the level of my authority had temporarily risen to new heights. It wasn't as shallow as it previously used to be, but rather more powerful, and more conceptual. Balg alternative, Scat-Hack had completed her chant of the noble phantasm, but that wasn't what made her so confident against me, rather the fact that her parameters had been increased by a single rank and she had boosted all of them to EX rank, and using other powerful spells as complementary, her attack had reached a terrifying EX rank level. "It's really strong and deadly," I thought as I saw the red spears living linings of mirages coming towards me, it was imbued with the curse of death sure to kill any high-ranking divine spirit, even a top one, but it had been over since the beginning. I thought as the divinity raged around me and I silently chanted, time stop, but Scathach's attack didn't stop, as it pierced through the magical effects. My eyes narrowed as I was hit by the several attacks of her spears and then I was pinned in the air, tacky. This, she shouted as she threw her other spear at me. My body met its attack head-on and I cast no spells to defend myself because I knew it would be useless. Finally, the attack ended. She had put her entire strength and almost her entire mana. "Ho how," she said, horrified seeing me unscathed. Again, it had been over since the beginning. I thought as I looked at the reality marble crumbling. She clicked her tongue and got ready to attack me again, but I stopped time and then teleported behind her. I grabbed her waist forcefully with my left hand and her breast with my right hand. Finally, when the effect of the spell wore off, she tried fruitlessly to break my grip and I squeezed her breasts. I whispered in her ears, "That was amazing, you broke through the constraints of time, even if it was for a short moment, but that attack took nearly your entire strength, and I still have enough mana to spare, so in short you lost." I squeezed her breast tightly. She moaned, "Ah." Her cute voice resounded through the fading reality marble. "Damn, it was not supposed to be like this," she said complaining, as although her attacks had been amazing in reality they hadn't done even a single scratch to me. I chuckled and my left hand ran through the belly and reached her crotch and then I rubbed there lightly. Third POV. "Fuck it. Till when that bitch is gonna hoard Lord's love," said Jalter with anger and dissatisfaction in her eyes. It had been days till Poseidon and Scathach had been engaged in the obscenity. The sounds of their lovemaking, which was quite loud, made her feel hotter at the same desire for Poseidon's love and his thick cock inside her vagina. Artoria, who too had dissatisfaction and a frown on her face, said, "It's her first time so I shall let it slide, but after this, I should get most of his love and attention." Jalter's eyebrows twitched hearing her and she said, "Just because you have gotten stronger, doesn't mean you can boss me, Artoria." Artoria looked at her coldly and said, "I have gotten stronger, thus my body is more suitable to engage in intense lovemaking with him, hence giving him more pleasure than you two are ever capable of. It's only right that I spend most of the time with him." Jalter glared at her with anger. "Do you want to fight, bitch?" Artoria snorted, summoning her divine lance, and her divinity erupted from her body, signifying her status as a high-ranking divine spirit, a summon who could tear down the entire world. Jalter quickly summoned her flag and got in a defensive position, feeling suppressed by Artoria's overwhelming presence. "Why don't we try? Who is more worthy of him? You or me?" she said as a smirk appeared on her face. As the fight was to erupt, a voice suddenly froze them in their tracks. "What do you think you two are doing?" said Poseidon coldly. They quickly unsummoned their weapons and looked at him. "Lord. This bitch is trying to hoard you all for herself due to the sudden increase of her prowess," said Jalter, trying to put the entire blame on Artoria. Artoria calmly retorted, "I was just telling her how I should be rewarded for my increase in strength." Her voice contained confidence. If it was before, then she would never be able to win against Jalter, but now that she had become a goddess, she was literally the strongest subordinate of Poseidon. She didn't put Jalter into her eyes anymore, at least till she became as powerful as her. She was confident that Poseidon would choose her for sex now. Why? Her charm had tripled, her face had become more beautiful, and her body had become even more voluptuous. She was more aware of her charm and hence was confident that Poseidon, who liked strong and beautiful women, chose her. "With my bountiful chest and my breedable ass, I doubt Lord will put this woman with only big breasts in same position as me," she thought. Unfortunately for both of them, Poseidon was not in the mood for their bicker and said, "I will be resting for a bit, then don't fight and even bicker. I will look into this matter, but if you were to fight before that and argue, I won't have sex with you both for a year." Both of them froze and then looked at him with begging expression. Their faces could make any weeb on their knees and lick the ground. But Poseidon remained unaffected and left the place for his much-needed mental rest, while Artoria and Jalter looked at each other in fear. "How about a temporary truce?" asked Artoria, and Jalter didn't deny that. Not being able to Poseidon's love for a straight year will be plain torture. They didn't want such a miserable fate. Chapter 69, Apostles of the Poseidon. Poseidon POV. I yawned as I opened my eyes and looked around. I was sleeping on the seabed of small seas of my throne. I teleported back into the castle, into my private room where Scathach still lay on the bed sleeping peacefully. I sighed and came near her, and then caressing her cheek I said, "It's time to wake up, Scathach." Her eyelashes started fluttering as she slowly woke up. It was a nice sleep I had," she said, sitting up, then a blush appeared on my face. "Damn, I had done that," she said, embarrassed, most probably remembering her behavior during our lovemaking. Then she glanced at me with embarrassment oozing out of her expression. In the heat of the moment she did something that no one would normally do, though I just gave her a smirk and said, "Do not get embarrassed, since every woman that I have made love with had become the same in the end. You should be named as god of sex, not the god of the ocean," she said with an apparent pout. I gave a small smack on her head and said, "Now stop with this drama, I have something important to do, though you can take a rest if you are feeling tired." She rubbed her head and said with a small smile, "Don't worry, I have recovered, not to mention being heroic spirit does wonders." After that, both of us went to the hall, where the throne was, and I sat on it like always. I called Jalter and Artoria, and they quickly reached the hall, meanwhile glancing at each other from time to time with disgust and anger. They were fighting over me, of course, it was apparent to me. It just satisfied my pride feeling two beautiful women fighting each other to get a piece of my attention and affection, of course as long as they don't take it too far, though I doubt they will be able to kill each other as immortal heroic spirits. Well, I have an important thing to do now, and it is to make 3 of you my apostles, I said, revealing the reason why I gathered them here. My words made Jalter's and Artoria's eyes glisten while frowns appeared on Skathak's face, who raised her hand. I gave her a nod and she said, "As you know, my liege, I am a god slayer having characteristics of a divine spirit, so I might be incompatible with your blessing." "Master, don't worry, as I said earlier, the apostle bestowal is a perfect ability, at least within a certain limit, hence such things are of no worry. The system told me before I could ask it anything, and I was indeed impressed by its quick reaction." After understanding that I didn't gain the ability in vain, I said, "Do not worry, I have a separate ability for the bestowing blessings which can solve such problems." She was surprised to hear it, and then she looked at me curiously, trying her wisdom to find my ability but in the failing to do so. "A bundle of mysteries as ever, Lord Poseidon," she said softly. I also noticed how she addressed me formally, but it was expected, as she had told me before. She would become my servant, my confidant, just as Jalter and Artoria are, and hence despite being my wife like them, she was my servant as well. "My lord. Can I get your blessing first?" asked Jalter with anticipation in her eyes and expectation of her request being granted. Artoria remained silent, deciding to not bicker anymore, and I nodded, granting her the privilege. She quickly came before me and knelt, summoning her flag. I stood from my throne and got in front of her. I started patting her soft hair. A blush crept up on her face, as a smile formed on her lips due to my affection. "Jalter, you had been my first servant, at least from my new beginning, thus you deserve to be granted the privilege of becoming my apostle foremost. I, Poseidon, Trianical Lord of the 7 seas, God of the gods, grant you the title of my apostle," I said as I bestowed upon her my divine blessing. My divinity surged up and started rushing to her body rapidly. A huge amount of mana left my body flowing through her body, and our spiritual bodies started intertwining together as a powerful link between us formed. "Ah," she moaned softly, feeling me being extremely close to her very being, literally. "Congratulations. The hidden quest, you are my sexy apostle, had been completed. Completion condition, you must make an extremely sexy woman, one that could make even goddesses of beauty and sex jealous as your apostle, and you must share an intimate bond with her, preferably a sexual one. You have been rewarded with the soul corridor. A soul corridor had been formed between you and Jalter. The status is upgrading. Successful." The sudden surprise given to me by the system made me even merrier. Using my thought acceleration, I decided to look into its function. Soul corridor, EX, forms a soul corridor or a connection between you and your apostles. It helps you to locate them even if they are in a different world. Also, upon death, their soul will return to you, and you can resurrect them without any cost. Even if their astral body was to be destroyed by a higher dimensional being, their ego, or true soul, will be safely transported back to you. Grants them an intermediate level of immortality type 5. My eyes lit up seeing this, and I asked the system, "It means it applies to me as well?" Well, while it is more of a one-type connection, it is possible for the master's soul to be stored in his apostle's soul as well. Though it is weaker in the case of master, the system replied to me. I wasn't a bit disheartened by the answer I got, and not to mention the fact that my lovers or servants would be safer made me more comfortable. I have already imagined some bad scenarios where they might die. After all, even if I don't seek death unnecessarily, it will seek me. That's a thing that never changes, even for guys who are immune to the concept of death. A/N. This is a reference to Yogirai Takato, that overpowered bastard who can possibly even kill Anos, since that guy kills what is unkillable, even if you are already dead, even if you are above concept of death, this guy just kills them with a single thought. Thus, I might be forced to leave my lovers back. In a logical way I can ensure my safety topmost and leave them, since as long as I get powerful enough I can resurrect them even if their very existence is erased, but that's where feelings come in play. Even if might understand it might be a better choice to leave them in such a case, my heart will never allow it. Hence, it is better that my lovers get strong and have layers of safety. Finally slowing down my thought acceleration, I looked at Jalter, who had been successfully blessed by me and had become a rank stronger, which was impressive. "Thank you, Lord, for all the love and trust you have put in me. I shall devote myself to you for eternity," she said as she knelt further and then suddenly kissed my feet. Artoria and Skathak gasped, and I patted Jalter's head. "Don't worry, I will make sure to reward you later for all your hard work and dedication." Her smile widened hearing that as she happily moved back. "Isn't she adorable?" I thought as I nodded to myself. "No, every one of them is adorable," I thought as I glanced at cute Artoria, who had a pout on her face, obviously jealous of Jalter's promised reward, and Skathak, who took had twinkling eyes, wanting to do something naughty. Artoria came in front of me and knelt like a knight while summoning and holding her divine lance with her left hand, and she put her right hand on her chest. "My liege, I thank you for the opportunity to be with me. Give me love and affection. I know this is going to be twice, but I, Artoria Pendragon, shall pledge my eternal loyalty," she said, and then just like Jalter, she kissed my feet. I caressed her head and granted her my divine blessing, and then the same thing happened, a huge amount of my mana rushed to her body, while my divinity surged and rushed inside her body as well. Our soul started linking at a spiritual level and Artoria moaned as well. I feel so close to you, she said. Congratulations, a soul corridor has been formed between Master and Artoria Pendragon, the system announced in mind, doing cliché system stuff even if it was not needed. Sorry, but I need to do my job, Master, said the system a bit displeased by my complaint. I shrugged and then focused on Rangaminiad who had received a boost in power as well, not as much as Jalter though. She stood up and then I glanced at her anticipating face. Well, I have already promised Jalter, though I thought as I suddenly kissed her. Pure bliss appeared on her face as we both kissed each other with our tongues. Red heart slurp, red heart slurp, red heart slurp, red heart chew, red heart. After having a passionate kiss for several minutes, we separated from each other. I smirked and asked, "Did you like your gift?" She nodded happily, as this kiss was filled with more intense love than desire, though I am sure she would love a kiss filled with lust during sex anytime. Finally, it was time for Scathach, who came in front and knelt just like the other two and summoned her lance. I hereby pledge my eternal loyalty to my master and my husband, and dedicate my soul and body to you. She too kissed my feet, though unlike the two, she started licking my feet and toe, covering them with saliva erotically. Fucking pervert, said Jalter angrily. Artoria nodded, supporting her, while Scathach didn't mind them as she knew they were hypocrites. Finally finished with her lewd act, she looked at me with a smile, and I bestowed my blessing on her. My divinity flowed from my body to hers, a huge amount of mana again rushed out of my body flowing to inside her, and this time my mana was completely drained, but the blessing wasn't complete yet, thus my heart started pumping rapidly at a fast rate, supplying me with much needed mana and completing the blessing, though it took longer in her case. Congratulations, a soul corridor between Master and Scathach has been successfully formed. I could feel my body completely drained out of mana, and my heart getting even stronger, even if slightly pumping out mana more rapidly than ever. I sat on the throne a bit tired, while Scathach enjoyed the feeling of power rushing through her body. System shows me their status, I said, and the system replied, here is the surprise. Status. Name, Jalter. Affiliation, devotee, servant, lover, and personal bitch. Too kinky. Strength, A. Endurance, B. Agility, A. Mana, A++, A++. Luck, A+. Noble Phantasm, EX. Personal skills. Divinity, A. Divine protection of the seven seas, B. Authority of the earthquake, C. Avenger, B. Self-replenishment, A. Self-modification, EX. Dragon Witch, EX. Fire Dragon Sword Style, A. Tier Magic, EX, up to 9th tier. Silent Casting, EX, up to 9th tier. Multicasting, B+, 4 spells at once. Maximized Magic, A+, up to 9th tier. Class Skills. Magic Resistance, A. Noble Phantasm. Lugrandment du Haine, Anti-Army EX. Wrath of the Seven Seas, A. I looked at the status of Jalter carefully. It was apparent that she had gotten a lot stronger than before, since her base parameters had increased and she had gained new skills including Divine Aptitude and My Divinity, and most especially a new Noble Phantasm. Again, her parameters were monstrous, since even the strongest heroic spirits didn't have even A in all parameters except servants like Enkidu and Gilgamesh, and even then the former had an ability that balances his parameters. Finished with reading her status, I moved to Artoria's. Status. Name, Artoria Pendragon. Affiliation, loyal knight, servant, devotee, lover, and personal bitch. Again too kinky. Strength, A+. Endurance, A. Agility, B+, A. Mana, EX. Luck, A+, D, A+, it has turned permanent. Noble Phantasm, EX. Personal skills. Divinity, A++. Love of the Lord Poseidon, B. Authority of the horses, A. Authority of the end of the world, EX. Master of the storm, A++. Breath of the red dragon, EX. Charisma, B, A. Protection of the ends of the world, EX. Tier Magic, A+++, up to 7th tier. Silent Casting, A+++, up to 7th tier. Multicasting, A+, 5 spells at once. Maximized Magic, B+, up to 7th tier. Noble Phantasm. Invisible Air, Anti-Unit C. Rangaminiad, Anti-Fortress EX. Wrath of the Seven Seas, A. Her increase was prowess as expected, since her parameters are way above Jalter. The increase shown wasn't that much, but still it was quite a lot. Finally, I checked Scathach's parameters. Status. Name, Scathach. Affiliation, loyal general, servant, devotee, lover, wife, unofficial, personal bitch. Whoa, how do you get the best perks over and over again? Sure you are not some secret supreme god of sex or harem. Strength, B, A. Endurance, A. Agility, A. Mana, C++, A. Luck, D, A+, damn. She broke the curse. Noble phantasm, A. Personal skills. Divinity, A. Authority of the fear, C. God killer, B. Primordial rune. Tier magic, A+++, up to 7th tier. Silent casting, EX, up to 10th tier. Multicasting, A+, up to 5 spells at once. Noble phantasm. Gi-Balg alternative, A. Wrath of the Seven Seas, A. I raised my eyebrow seeing her perfect A+ status, which was quite a coincidence. Maybe she just had the destiny of being a perfect woman. I mean, her body, her face, her breasts, everything was nearly perfect, and now even her parameters were. Anyway, it was also apparent how fast she had managed to learn Yggdrasil magic, clearly having a great affinity for them due to already having learned primordial runes, and it was definitely connected to it. Again, she gained a new noble phantasm, and her god killer ability surprisingly increased, showing how worthy apostle bestowal was of its name. I slowed down thought acceleration, and looking at them I said, "You all have gotten quite strong." Hearing my compliment, their expression became sweet. Roar! Suddenly I heard a loud voice, and looked to find the Zilla in its chibi form running towards me. "It's not fair, Papa. How come you didn't make me your apostle?" he asked with dissatisfaction. Meanwhile I sighed, tired. Am I gonna be completely sucked out? I thought. Chapter 70, Cutie of Monsters. Poseidon POV. I glanced tiredly at the Godzilla, who wasn't liking a bit that I left him out of such an important event. It even had a jealous glint in his eyes as he looked at my lover, of his mother's. At least that's what he likes to call them. He then looked at me with a pitiful face as if I had abandoned him in some dumpster like that of a cliché third-rate story. "Quit with this drama, I will bless you as well," I said. His eyes lit up and he started dancing happily. Gotta admit though, he looked quite cute dancing in his chibi form, not to mention his tail which swayed like a dog's. After having enough load of happiness, he came at me like a loyal commando who was ready to go to the battlefield. "Lord, are you sure about this? I can feel that you are tired," asked Artoria with apparent worry in her eyes. I shrugged and said, "No worries, something like this isn't enough to hurt me." Then I proceeded with the blessing. Putting my hand on Godzilla's head, I granted him the title of my apostle, and a huge amount of mana started leaving from my body, and my divinity flowed into his. Suddenly the surroundings started trembling as Godzilla roared madly. My heart started beating rapidly as it pumped and purified the absorbed mana. The rate of absorption was extremely rapid and was straining my heart, which already had an almost emptied mana reserve. A feeling of pain assaulted me, but I calmly took the pain, though it can be said, it was quite suffocating. Well, I wonder how much strong my transcended mana heart will get with this, I thought, feeling my mana heart slowly adapting to the drain and beating even faster. My mana reserve started increasing at a rapid pace. I looked at Godzilla, who seemed to enter some comatose kind of state. I knew what was happening from my unique skill investigator. The little guy before me was using my mana subconsciously to grow into an adult and evolve into a being capable of taking human form. The process continued for more than 10 minutes, and finally, once it was done, the Zilla under my eyes transformed into a woman, even surprising me. Congratulations. A soul corridor between Poseidon and Godzilla. Godzilla has selected its gender to be a female. Godzilla has successfully become king of all monsters. Godzilla has become a special apostle under you. She had gained a new ability. Queen of the Seven Seas. Notice. Godzilla had acquired the divine name, Amara of the Seas. Notice. Godzilla has chosen you as her eternal mate. I almost blurted out the non-existent tea that I was drinking hearing the last message from the system. Then under my eyes, Godzilla completed her transformation, turning into an extremely beautiful person. The only noticeable difference between her new form and humans or gods like me was that she had some majestic horns on her head, which again was weird considering she was a dragon killer, not some dragon. "Daddy," she said in a cute voice, and leaped on tired me, who had no option but to hug her, and sighing I asked, "System, show me her status." Status. Name, Amara. Affiliation, familiar, adoptive daughter, pet, eternal mate, I quit. Species, divine titan lizard. Gender, female. Familiar bond level, 95%. Age, 7 years. Strength, B, A+. Endurance, C+, EX. Agility, E. Magical energy, B+, EX. Luck, A. NP, X. Personal skills. Divinity, C.A. King of Monsters, E.X. Authority of Lightning, D.A. Magical Nuclear Fusion Reactor, B, EX. Nuclear breath, B, A. Magical nuclear breath, B++, EX. Red lotus flame mode, N/A, A+. Divine magical lotus flame mod, N/A, EX. Dragon slayer, D, A, EX. Noble phantasm. Iamara ton eptathalassin, anti-army A++. Compatible classes, caster, berserker, archer, beast, candidate. I continued looking at it for a few seconds before erupting in a burst of laughter. Meanwhile, my daughter, who was hugging me, separated and said with a smirk, "Is Daddy really dazzled by my current appearance? Much better than the mommy's, right?" she said haughtily, instantly earning the rage looks of mothers who were having the itch to discipline their daughter. "It seems your intelligence has been lowered, Zilla. As your mother, it's my responsibility to give a punishment," said Jalter, crackling her fists, which casually sent strong shockwaves throughout the place. Amara shuddered and quickly hugged me. "Daddy, save me. Mommies are angry." Then she looked at them, said with a pout, "Also, I have a proper name now. It's Amara. Amara of the Seven Seas. I got up with her still sticking to my body to koala. "Get down, Amara." Hearing my voice, she shuddered, glancing at the dangerous eyes of Artoria. "It's time to insert some fidelity inside you," she said, and not to mention Scathach, who was eyeing her like prey. "Now that you have got a human form, I can finally train you to a fit warrior," she said. Her teacher instincts have apparently flared up, which came with the package of the sadism, of course. Amara gave me puppy eyes. "We can talk about just the eternal mate ritual you committed later on, but see, your mommies are really eager to provide their love, so you should respond to it," I said. Her face became pale, and then with a smirk, she said, "As you heard, old hags, I'm the mate of Daddy as well. Which makes me his wife as well. Thus I am no longer your daughter, but rather a sister." "Is that true, my liege?" Artoria asked me with a frown on her face. I nodded and replied, "Yes. This idiot performed some ritual and now I am the only person she can ever become mate to. Still, I haven't accepted your confession yet, which means dash." I glanced at them and they nodded. Amara's face became pale as I separated her from me and she started crying. "Please, Daddy. Don't do this to me." Ignoring her pleas, I handed her to Jalter, who grabbed her and said, "So we are old hags, huh?" Amara's face froze, realizing the gravity of the words she had just spoken earlier. "Of course not, Mommy Jalter. My tongue had just slipped. Not to mention, with such a sexy body and big boobas, how can you be an old hag? Though they are nothing compared to mine," she said, digging her grave even deeper. Jalter's grip became stronger, and Amara finally realized that she had fucked up. Thus, while crying tears of pain, Jalter took her away, with the other two who had united themselves for a single great purpose, which was none other than disciplining their haughty daughter. What a pervert daughter I have got. Well, it should be obvious considering me and my harem are degenerates, I thought. "So, master, what will you do? Even if it's not possible for you to break her mark of mate on you, in the future you will be able to do so, not to mention despite her feelings she is rightfully your own daughter," asked System, curious about my opinion on this concerning matter. I smiled and replied, "System, you must remember, even if you had fused my soul with my human self, I am God first, then a human. I am Poseidon, a god. Even if my ideals had changed, even if I had changed, there is something that has never changed. I am a god, even if I am not perfect, which I used to visualize about myself. Even if I were to become a being who needs no support, I would lean for support and yet support all of them. I will make sure no betrayal is to strike me, whether it means drowning them in love or giving them punishment for their actions. Even if I am the strongest, standing on top of everyone, I will have people beside me. Even if a god needs no one, I will be the one who doesn't need but will have his own people. I won't strive to become perfect anymore, rather what becomes of me will be the perfect one." "I see, that's quite a speech, I must say, Master. You are most intriguing of all my previous masters. Some had been burdened with the morals of humanity that chained their actions, or my 8th master who loathed the entire world, willing to go as far as killing anyone for getting stronger, only to be killed by a guy who was truly a hero. My 9th master, who left all the morals yet adapted a moral bottom line in the end, was a hypocrite through and through, shining brightest of all my previous masters, yet meeting his doom due to being alone against adversity he couldn't win over. Even if it's late for me to say, Master, you shine brightest of all, with a light that seems to absorb darkness itself instead of fading it in your glow. You might be the only one to inherit my creator's legacy," System said. "Shut up, System, your words do make me pleased, but talking too much will sure rile up my luck," I said telepathically. Then I continued, "Also, I have no problems if Amara was to join my harem. I have banged my sisters in the past and even slept with Hera behind Zeus' back, thus incest is no concern to me, not to mention Amara isn't my true offspring, though she is my daughter nonetheless. Still, if she really wants me, then she will need to plant those feelings inside me. I won't accept her if she fails to do it, and if her current decision was only driven by pure familial admiration, then I shall let her on the right path." Well, first is a possibility, but second is no. I can confirm it. She really loves you as a woman, even you know that, Master." I smiled and replied, "Well, I am new to being dad, but if that's the case, then I will give her a chance, not one but several." Then I closed my eyes and continued, "Also, I should take some rest. I am already drained out," I thought. "Well, then have a good sleep, Master." 4 months later. "Finally I will be leaving this stupid place," said Amara gleefully. I just gave her a glance making her freeze. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, Daddy, she quickly said with concern. I chuckled and said, no need to fret over it, I understand your feelings, Amara, being in the same place since your birth must have been boring. She quickly hugged my arm and said, with Daddy here, it wasn't that boring, in fact, I enjoyed many times staying alone with Daddy. Alas I am happy with my mommies as well, though they are helpless perverts. Master, it would seem your daughter is being cheeky, I guess she is trying her best to get in your heart, said System. I just smiled. We had a talk later that day, and I had already told her that she needed to make me see her as a lover if she needed to succeed. Also, after training my martial arts further and learning 2 new super tier spells, I am ready to visit the final singularity before I return to my original world of gods. I already have intentions to return there. I already have achieved a strength that no god, even primordial, possess in that world. Zeus' strongest move, which is literally him punching faster than time, is no opponent for me, who can stop time. Thus, I will give that moronic brother of mine a lesson once I return. Also have an equal fight with Sasaki and get back my honor that I lost in front of those pipsqueak gods. Not to mention I am quite eager to meet brother Hades. Yes, it will be my last trip to the singularity, though I will return, I thought, glancing at the missions I had taken for this 7th singularity. You have taken the special, restore the singularity. Objective, you are free to act in the singularity as much as you can to restore the singularity, and in the end, you will get a special reward depending on your performance. Reward. You have taken the quest, Bad Mother Needs Some Punishment. Objective, kill or stop Beast 2 Tiamat from destroying Babylon. As the quest says, the Bad Mother needs some punishment for being such a problematic mother. Maybe spank her a few times while at the quest. Reward, Dragon God Race granted. Note, your current race will not be replaced, instead you will possess both the races at 100%, an enigma made possible by the system. You have taken the quest, God and Amun. Objective, help Gilgamesh against this adversity, not as his servant but someone as his equal. I mean, this guy won't admit you are superior even if you are. Reward, final part of the Divine Dividing Gear. Current parts, 3/. Note, the last 2 quests do not restrict the first one, as you are allowed to act however you want, and taking the 2 quests is based upon that, thus no rewards are lessened. I have taken the best quests for the singularity, where I will finally meet one of the beasts, those who can destroy universes, and trample upon the counterforce of any iteration of the planet once they reach their full might. I know this isn't going to be easy, heck, this time I might actually lose, though I will have all my lovers, and my daughter with me. Hey, Daddy. They are staring at me weirdly, said Amara, hugging me even tightly, glancing at my woman who didn't like a bit of her attitude. Well, although I don't mind all of you playing with each other, this time the situation needs us to be serious, so don't take it lightly and don't fight against each other, I said, although I didn't mind their fights, which just showed how much they like me. It will surely be annoying against the Tiamat. They nodded seriously. Don't worry, my liege, I won't disappoint you this time, said Artoria. Well, fighting a beast will surely be interesting, said Scathach. Meanwhile, Jalter just had a serious face. The next moment all of them hugged me, and our consciousness descended. 3rd POV. Babylonia Singularity. Upon a mountain, a hooded figure walked towards the peak. Its steps were slow and unsteady, as if she would fall down any time. Once reaching the peak, she glanced at the vast forest in front of her, and the beasts roaming in the distance. How long has it been? The figure said to itself, her voice hoarse though the tone indicated it was feminine. A gust of wind blew the hood away, revealing the face, one which was extremely beautiful yet seemed faded somewhat. Her dirty blonde hair cascading down her shoulders swayed along the wind. Her amethyst-colored eyes glanced at the vast expanse in front of her with longing and anticipation. When I will finally meet you again. Lord Poseidon Ag. She let out a painful grunt, as if by speaking by the name she had violated something. Then she glanced at the sky and said, no matter how much you curse me, Lord, no matter how much pain you give, I know I have betrayed you, but I will continue searching for him. I will continue betraying you again and again, waiting for the day where I can feel his warmth again in his arms. Suddenly she fell to the ground as she felt a horrible pain coursing through her body, but then biting her lips, she summoned her holy flag, which was half torn. Then, using it as her support, she continued walking towards the small outline of the walls she had seen in the distance, heading towards the demonic front in hopes of meeting Amun, a god, who had stolen her heart. Chapter 72, Jeanne d'Arc. Jeanne d'Arc POV. How long has it been? I don't remember it well. It just feels like yesterday when I was attempting to go near him while he lay on the grass peacefully, or just a few hours ago he told me the harshest words that cracked my heart to pieces. There are many things I don't accept about you, he said. Why? 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 What did I do wrong? Is there really something wrong with me? Am I really such a big sinner that he can't accept me? There are many things I like about you, he continued. His words that relieved me the most, yes. I am really not that bad, and not all hope is lost. It's my own selfishness, I can't accept someone like you. These were the last words that gave me the most pain. I understood there was some reason he couldn't accept me, even if his face remained calm and nearly emotionless. I understood why it should have been. He was never a good guy, and I understood he had reasons behind saving humanity back then. Whatever his reason may have been, I didn't fall for his act of saving, nor for his body. It was just I fell in love with his soul. Maybe I am just lying to myself, but I fell in love with him, and him only. As if he was my destination, the place where I just needed to be, the person whom I needed, no matter how he was. I wanted to tell him it was all right, to give me a second chance, but alas, I vanished before I could achieve it. Then I tried to meet with him again and ended up getting summoned to the Age of Gods, in Greece. I searched, I finally found Poseidon, yet the person I found was not him. He was someone else entirely, who was entranced by my body and tried to attack me, to defile me, but that was the biggest mistake he had made, and what I had done after it was the biggest mistake of mine. I killed him. I don't comprehend how I was even able to do it, but in the end, he lay on the ground dead, fading into dust while his 3 broken divine cores lay on the ground. I vanished thereafter, but not before dooming an entire timeline, enticing the wrath of gods who punished humanity, in the cruelest and most painful way possible. I doomed humanity, interfered with one of the pan-human histories, and completely destroyed it. Even then I didn't stop searching for him, going from timeline to timeline, disrupting it entirely no matter how much I tried to just search for him and not interfere. I killed trillions and before I knew it, I was cursed by him, the Lord, a curse that makes me in constant pain, even as I walk, even as I breathe, each time I feel as I breathe acid, burning my lungs. Each step was as if I walked on needles, each time I looked, I felt as if my eyes burned. Yes, it was punishment for me, who doomed several pan-human timelines and killed 1 trillion humans. It is a fitting punishment for a sinner like me, this is what I believe, and no matter what excuses I would try to give, it was true. It was painful at first, and even now, it hurts just so much, but it has become bearable. I never stopped for searching him, even as if my soul was in constant pain. I wanted to meet him again, confess to him yet again, and hopefully earn his love. Even if he was to turn me down, the second time, I just want to see him once again and then whatever years in torture and bear the punishment for my crimes. This time, yet again I am in the Age of Gods, or rather at the age near the end of it. I could sense a powerful terrifying being present in this twisted spiral of the world, who had long sensed me, and my affiliation to God, and raised its aura towards me as if challenging the Lord, himself. A/N, I hope Yahweh doesn't angers mommy *cough*, otherwise it would be really bad. Its divine aura is something that dwarfed any god I had ever met, even that white-haired thunder god, the one with ravens on his shoulders, or the even one with 9 fox tails behind her, that made seem the heroic spirits like us joke. I could still remember how she easily created a second sun in a few seconds and then turned me into ashes, including the entire large mass of giant planet behind me. A/N, yeah, R.I.P. Jupiter. Yet, a terrifying entity like that is present in this world, radiating an evil aura that would send shivers to every being capable of sensing it openly, an extreme danger that was sure to bring doom and disaster. Yet, I paid no heed as I continued walking towards the large wall I had seen earlier, its outline visible in my eyes. Roar. Dozens of beasts suddenly surrounded me. I took a deep breath and got in battle stance somehow, my pain intensifying with every rapid movement I made. A beast leaped at me from the front. I summoned my sword and accelerating myself I easily pierced through its body, and made a big cut around its chest. Unfortunately, while fatally injured, it was still capable of fighting and its speed rather intensified than decreased. I sighed at my own weakness, and the invisible chains binding me weakening my every parameter and ability. I still haven't seen if he is here or not. I thought with determination as I channeled mana through my body, breaking my limits for a while and tripling all of my parameters. It was an ability I refined years ago while fighting the gods of Asgard and grasped in ancient Greece. Although it was weakened by the curse as well, my current boost was enough to defeat them. Slash. I slashed through the beasts, killing them with relative ease, ignoring the pain that had tripled as well. Suddenly a larger horde of monsters surrounded me, roaring with bloodlust in their eyes. I gripped my flag tightly and charged at them. Then I killed for minutes, for twice as a minute, and in the end, I finally reached my limits. Arg! I screamed in pain as the invisible chains tightened, weakening me to the realm of common humans. Several beasts still surrounded me and I just sighed at my fate. Though unexpectedly the next moment a strike of lightning tore through all of their hearts and turned them into ashes. My, to think I would find you here, Jean, said a cold yet similar voice, one that I was extremely familiar with. I looked to the source of the sound, to find a woman possessing the exact face, and exact body except for some parts being fattier. Her hair was a pretty mixture of blonde and white, with shimmering yellow eyes. It was obvious that she was some alter version of me or didn't belong to pan-human history. I tried to stand up and barely managed to do it, and then held my flag tightly defensively, sensing the hostility from her. Well, I can indeed kill you right now and would like nothing but to deny that stupid god of yours, who is, of course, incomparable to my god, she said. Her voice is extremely sweet and affectionate, calling her own Lord. Suddenly something struck me, sending shivers to my entire body. Sniff sniff. I smelled the scent she was covered with hiding her own, there was no doubt about it in my mind. It was his smell. My eyes lit up, my heart started pounding on the realization that I had struck upon the chance to meet him again. Whoa, what with that dog-like behavior, huh? She asked, not a bit worried about me being able to do anything to her. After all, I didn't stand a chance against her. With the spirit origin she had completely surpassed my prime one, even the one I managed to attain in ancient Japan, slightly. I ask you, do you know Lord Poseidon? I asked, with hope burning bright than ever. Alas, it could have never been easy, as I felt my arms being cut off the next moment and her attitude changing greatly. How do you know about him? Her eyes looking at me coldly, demanding nothing but answer. Meanwhile I fell on the ground, feeling the pain of my arms intensifying thousands of times. I bit my lips with force, trying to shift my focus from the pain of my hands, and then muttered weakly, I met him in the Great Holy Grail War, and then she didn't let me speak any further, cutting off both of my legs. Argha! I screamed out loud, feeling the intense pain. Suddenly I was kicked in the stomach, making me cough out blood. Then she put her feet clad in metal on my face. I looked to see her cold gaze, one that could even terrify the bravest. I see, then did your god send you with some mission? I remember we did quite a number on you back in Orleans Singularity, or rather the other version of you. It matters not, since you will meet your end here, she said. I shouted with all the perseverance and strength I could muster up, I love him. Her hand that had just unsheathed the sword stopped, as her eyes widened, and then she broke out in a burst of laughter. Ha 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 ha, I see, well do you know that I am his woman? Yes. That's why I am covered with his scent. You see, we were just making love together hours ago, she said, her words piercing my heart. She achieved what I couldn't. I remained in disbelief, seeing my other self boasting about her achievement. She suddenly got onto my level, her face close to me, and she said with a disgusted look, my lord has many women, you see. I see no problem in that, and I have no say in stopping him to choose who he likes, but there can be only one Jean beside him, and I will be the one, not you fucking stupid alternate version of me. Remember that. My name is Jalter, and the only one of all of us who will be ever blessed to be graced by his love and seeds, she said. Tears started rolling down my eyes, not because of her words which threatened to be an obstacle between me and him, but rather from the fact that she managed to become his woman. To get the love that I had been carving for countless years. From the fact that I was so close to meeting him, I failed in my endeavor. From the fact that she had what to become his woman, I am so pathetic, I thought. She raised her sword and just was about to swing it when she stopped, her eyelashes trembling, creating confusion for me. My eyes blinked, and then I managed to glance upon a face, one that was carved in my soul. Jalter moved back, his words as if the command of the highest being made the other version of me leave me and move back. I started crying. He was finally here, in front of me. Lord Poseidon, I love you, were the final words I could muster up before fainting from the intense pain and weakness, as my figure threatened to disappear. Yet a gentle light graced me before my last bit of consciousness faded. Status. Name, Jean Dark. Strength, E+++, B+. Endurance, E-A+++. Agility, E+++, A++. Mana, E+, A++. Luck, B. Noble Phantasm, E, EX. Personal skills. The Path of Love, EX. The Curse of the God, EX. The Chains of Binding, EX. Revelation, N/A, A. Charisma, E-B. God Killer, E, A++. Faith Manifestation, N/A, EX. Betrayer, EX. Reinstatement of the Radiant Holy Light, E-A++. Class Skills. Magic Resistance, E-EX. God's Resolution, N/A, A+. Noble Phantasm. Luminosite Eternel, E-A+. La Pucelle, E-EX. To be continued. Chapter 73, Demonic Front Babylonia. Third POV. Arriving at the Singularity, the first thing Poseidon did was to fly towards Babylon at a supersonic speed, scaring the hell out of some poor people who thought gods were going to show their wrath on them. His second quest demanded Gilgamesh's presence, and thus he had to do the work of a hero, saving the world again, though it didn't matter since the quest didn't crush his pride nor its rewards were bad. It was about the damn time he got the last piece of the divine dividing gear. He had already decided not to go on such quests again unless the artifact was worth it. The chain quests took too much time, and even when they pop up are unknown. Meanwhile, a certain Babylon king who was going through the affairs of his city sat up from his throne, and activating a mystic code he flew from his castle to the skies. His eyes narrowed, glancing at the powerful divinities approaching his city. He quickly activated Malama Dignir and was ready to give the divinities the feel of being showered with noble phantasms at a speed faster than sound. Before deciding whether the approaching divine beings are hostile, he used his omniscience. A terrifying amount of information gushed into his mind, and layers of the world vanished one by one, revealing the truth before him. The ultimate fact that the approaching divinities had no hostility made him breathe in relief. He didn't want to waste any of his power before dealing with Tiamat, and Malama Dignir was one of the weapons he made with heart-wrenching pain. Thus firing it before even the final game began seemed quite a bad decision. He deactivated them and let his soldiers continue using the normal mode of it. His omniscience again got sealed while he frowned from the headache. "You caused quite the commotion," he said, looking at Poseidon, who stood in front of him the next moment. His subordinates remained outside the wall, scaring a few of the soldiers. "So what a foreign god is here for?" he asked, knowing well despite not being hostile they had a goal to approach his magnificent city. It is simple, I am here for an alliance," Poseidon said, his eyes calm and facial expression remnant of a being who would even not look at humans with his eyes. An amused smile came on Gilgamesh's face. "Oh? An alliance? Indeed, you see I am here to deal with Tiamat as well," he said. Gilgamesh knew that what the foreign god in front of him wanted just by his facial expression alone, and so did Poseidon. It would seem both of them were assessing each other just by a single glance despite their calm and emotionless expressions. "State your goals," Gilgamesh said, demanding to know the full extent of his goals. "Well, it is to defeat her, train my subordinates, and help humans," Poseidon said, and then continued, "I do not want anything special, just an adequate housing and the famous food of your country." Gilgamesh's smile further widened and he finally asked, "Are you doing this because of faith?" Poseidon replied, "Gods who use faith are pathetic." His words disregarded every god who needed faith to power up and beings who needed faith to descend into the mortal world. Gilgamesh broke up in laughter, signaling he had accepted their equal alliance. "Well, then follow me to the castle with your subordinates," he said. Finally, Poseidon signaled his subordinates, who followed them to Gilgamesh's castle. He looked at Siduri and said, "Siduri, assign a room to each of them in the castle and let them have a taste of the food of Babylon." She looked at him surprised and then glanced at Poseidon and the women following him. She quickly recognized the fact that 3 of them were emitting divinity. "Gods," she said, surprised, and then flinched. After all, even if she knew Gilgamesh well, and while surprised by the fact that he invited gods, the fact that there were several gods in front of her was more concerning. As one of the devout followers of a certain Sundara god, she had a deep respect for gods, despite Enkidu's incident. Meanwhile, a certain last master of humanity and his servants made their way to the castle, where they were again surprised to see that the situation looked like nothing they had expected. "Lord Poseidon," said Mash, not understanding why he was again in front of them. By now it was already clear that Poseidon was involving himself deeply in the human incineration act and the singularities. Thus, they had expected him to appear again, but not in this fashion. Their hearts almost got out seeing a floating Gilgamesh and Poseidon in the sky, facing each other. They had hoped that soon a big war was going to happen. "It's you," said Arjuna, looking at the guy who killed him mercilessly in the 5th singularity. Yes, this time including Kyoheim, Mash, and Hector, the hero of the Mahabharata. Arjuna was accompanying them as well due to the courtesy of a certain white-haired wizard who appeared out of nowhere, coughed and said, "Not gonna lie, Artoria, you look handsome." He winked, looking at Artoria, who looked more feminine than ever. "Wanna kill him?" Poseidon asked her casually, and she nodded. Gilgamesh returned to his throne and holding a report he said, "He is still important, just make sure he doesn't die." His words froze the half-succubus, who gulped down his saliva seeing the Rangamini ad in Artoria's hand. Ritsuka and others shuddered seeing the situation. "Sorry, I have some important work," Merlin said, teleporting away. "Feudal," said Artoria, releasing a casual blow, which tore through space and hit the teleported Merlin, frying him alive. "Fufu, fuff. A certain bundle of cuteness cheered from Mash's head, seeing Merlin's despair puzzling Mash and others. "Miss, kill him. Take his guts out and tear them apart," Fo said, cheering for Artoria, his words being not cute at all. Primate Murder wanted to see some murder, especially Merlin's. "You fucking bastard," Merlin cursed the beast and then flinched seeing the teleported Artoria. "Artoria, you won't do anything to your tutor, right?" he said with a half-broken smile. A twisted grin appeared on her face. "Oh, teacher, I always wanted to thank you for the lessons you gave me as a child." Despair appeared on Merlin's face, followed by a heart-wrenching scream that even scared the surrounding beasts. Meanwhile, Ritsuka's gang followed Poseidon's group, wondering about 2 extra faces. "Haha. It is nice to see you again, Lord Poseidon," said Romani on a holographic screen appearing from Mash's shield. What is this?" said Amara with twinkling eyes, seeing the holographic screen for the first time. Romani looked at her speechlessly. As she analyzed the holographic screen, Poseidon grabbed her head and then lifted her like a potato and placed her away from the screen. "It is a hologram," said Poseidon. Romani and Da Vinci weren't surprised by his knowledge of modern information. "Really? Is this what you used to tell me about, Mommy Jalter?" she asked, surprising Ritsuka's group about the way she called Jalter. "Yeah, and it's no big deal, just some pesky magic," she said, belittling the magecraft that could cross through time and space. Da Vinci's eyebrows flinched hearing it from Jalter's mouth, but she knew it better than to argue with her. "Ahem, who you might be, miss?" asked Romani while sweating. They could detect a powerful level of divinity emitting from her, and according to Da Vinci beside him, she was most likely Poseidon's daughter. "Oh, who I am, you ask?" Then let it be known I am the king of all monsters. The queen of the seven seas. Amara, she said haughtily, announcing her identity. Her words stunned the poor Romani while Ristuka just nodded, not understanding the gravity of the situation. Mash just looked at her amazed, while Kyoheim hid back, feeling a certain fear from Amara. It was as if the prey had met its predator, and despite not being an actual dragon, her noble phantasm classified her as one, making her fearful of the divine titan lizard. Correction, she isn't queen of seven seas, I am, said Jalter, earning a glare from Artoria and a frown from Skathak. I am the queen of the seven seas, as only a powerful god has the right to stand beside Poseidon, said Artoria, her divinity making the world tremble, which became confused about whom to bestow the divine title. What about me? I am a god killer. So I should be the tyrannical queen of the seven seas, right? Asked Skathak with a smile. She had most unique circumstances, with possessing a body having immortality of a divine spirit while not being one, being a divine apostle carrying divinity in her body despite possessing a skill for killing divinities. In simple words, she was more likely to beat Artoria than Jalter if a battle was ever to happen between them. The two glared at her. Skathak just smirked, not scared at all. Their rivalry scared the poor saviors of humanity, who were frightened by their powerful presence. Meanwhile, Poseidon looked at interest, wondering who would win. Why do I feel I will die? Thought Ritsuka, wondering if he would drop dead any second. Amara, on the other hand, quickly got behind Poseidon, looking at her mothers fearfully. So scary. She thought, remembering the torture each one had put her through. Her body shuddered, and she looked at her father, hoping he would stop them, but seeing his nonchalant look, her face became pale with dread, and she quickly glued to him, since no matter what her mothers were to destroy, harming Poseidon will be out of their list. Fuck. These goddesses are about to bring their divine wrath. Thought Arjuna, and quickly said, Master. I have an important job assigned by King Gilgamesh, and he quickly flew away, fleeing from the battleground. TCH, Hector clicked his tongue, and Kyoheim looked at the betrayer with rage. I shall purge him like Lord Anshan. She thought. Ahem, said Siduri, announcing her presence and garnering their attention. She gulped her saliva, wondering if she would die as soon she announced her king's words. King Gilgamesh has said you all are being noisy, she said, then freezing the next moment, cursing herself to say the exact words he had spoken. Poseidon erupted in laughter. Ha ha ha, well then tell him we shall go outside to settle this matter, he said, making the poor chief priest of Babylonia breathe in relief as she lived to tell another tale. Amara, Poseidon said, glancing at his daughter, and she asked cheerfully. Yes, daddy, he continued. Go and help with the tasks. In this way, you can also explore the wonders of civilization. She nodded, delighted, and then glanced at her mothers and didn't ask anything further. Then she glanced at Ritsuka's party, and said, now inferior beings. Show me the wonders of this city, her words making Kyoheim want to punch her, but with the fear she was getting from Amara's presence alone, she used her right to remain silent. Soon, Poseidon and his three waifus were outside, and then they decided to compete with each other, and started arguing in what way they should do it. Poseidon calmly gazed at the sky, letting the three quarrel for a few minutes. My lord, we have decided, said Jalter, garnering his attention. We will see who can kill most of these pesky monsters after our powers are sealed to the level of our original level, added Jalter. Is that so? Well then here we go, he said, sealing their powers to their past level with a single thought, showing the prowess of true apostle's ability. Also you can unseal it whenever you want, and it will also automatically be unsealed if danger arises, he explained to them. They nodded and then began their bloodbath. The soldiers on the wall looked at the spectacle, stupefied, seeing some unknown women killing monsters as if they were slaughtering chickens. Soon they ventured deeper into the barren lands and jungle to kill more monsters, and Jalter, who had decided to venture the outskirts of a forest, frowned when she heard the sound of fighting. She quickly arrived there to see that Jeanne d'Arc was fighting. A cruel smile rose up on her face as she decided to help her alter self. To be continued. Chapter 74, Love That Crossed Time and Space, Part 1. Poseidon POV. I looked at the unconscious Jeanne in my arms with a weird feeling. I could sense the gruesome curse cast upon her, something that dwarfed even the curse upon Rama, and it gave me no doubt upon who had cast it on her. This was the feat that could be only performed by the Almighty, the Yahweh. It also went alongside his strict rules of Christianity. I sighed as I felt a being looking at me. I couldn't find the direction from which came, but there was just a single thing that came into my mind. I released my entire divinity, as I made my presence known to the entire Babylon pantheon, but I didn't stop as I released my water battle god aura combined with anti-immortality Tuki. My eyes gleamed fiercely as my mystic eyes of terror manifested. The law of terror made the space around me tremble ferociously while Jalter quickly made some distance between us. I quickly released my entire magical aura as well, shaking the entire continent as the mana purer than Holy Grail was unleashed. The entire singularity trembled as if it was to crack at any moment. I glanced above and said, fuck off. My words seemed to enrage the Almighty, who released an intense holy aura upon me, but he was met with disappointment as my might didn't dim by a bit. My entire amalgamation of different auras destroyed the holy aura as if blowing away the smoke with the power of storm. This was the power of holy attack nullification, one of the most broken resistance abilities of Tensura. An ability to nullify the holy power, and instead of covering it on my body as a barrier I mixed it with my aura. I said, didn't you hear me? ISAIDFUCKOFF, my entire aura attacked the metaphysical entity overpowering its might, the space around me shattered and pieces of space fell near my legs shining like shards of the rainbow glass. Time seemed to stop as another entity joined our confrontation, the primordial aura of creation crashed against us, but I remained adamant, as the anger boiled inside me. I could see the gruesome cruise cast upon Jean and its effect, the pain she was in can't be described in mere words. I was calm yet intense anger boiled inside me, my aura became fiercer fighting against the two auras at the same time. It wasn't a direct confrontation, it was the battle of our will, and despite having an overwhelming advantage over God of creation, I held no such advantage over primordial mother of creation, and I felt my aura being crushed under her might. Master, don't give up. Your 0.5% merit points have been consumed. The divine origin of your vessel has been upgraded. Your divinity has tripled. The system seemed to see the situation I was in and automatically used my merit points to increase my vessel's divinity to the level of my original one, and as my divinity tripled, all of my auras mixed into one, and glancing at the two auras with rage I said, "Fuck off, bastards." My aura with full force repelled their auras, the space around me became turbulent as the mana flow of the entire continent was disturbed. Soon the gaze of Yahweh upon me faded while the primordial mother of creation withdrew her aura. As the battle ended, I calmed myself down and felt that half of my mana had been drained in the battle, but it was understandable as I possibly repelled the strongest god's omniscience while another universe-level destruction being's aura. Finally, I glanced upon the unconscious figure and felt the curse upon her weakening severely. Meanwhile, Jalter said, my lord," her voice laced with fear, as she held her head down. I looked at her and said coldly, "I won't punish you, but remember to not make such stupidity again." She nodded, visibly relaxed hearing my words, and then glanced at Jean in my arms and bit her lips. I teleported back to Babylonian Castle, ignoring the worried and fearful looks of Ritsuka, his gang, and the other 3 servants summoned by Gilgamesh. "Lord Poseidon, what is that now?" asked Mash. I remained silent, looking at unconscious Jean in my arms, and caressing her face I bestowed my apostle's blessing on her. Others soon realized the presence of another entity within my arms and became shocked seeing her face. My wife and self-proclaimed wife, Amara, were here as well. Even Gilgamesh was here as well, as the commotion caused by the battle between me and Yahweh had shaken the entire singularity. I felt more than a quarter of mana being drained, and my divinity fell to E rank from A+++ as it gushed to Jean, and started breaking down her curse. If that wasn't enough, I used my anti-magic, weakening the curse severely, and soon it was broken down and undone. Finally, the rest of it was consumed by the unconscious Jean. "Congratulations, Master. Jean Dark has become your 5th apostle." The system gave me the good news as I felt my legs weakened. "Are you fine, Daddy?" asked Amara with intense worry as she could feel the regression of my divinity clearly. Artoria quickly grabbed my body and she channeled her own divinity to me. Others, seeing her doing that, started channeling their mana and divinity to me, and my divinity rose to its original rank. I took a deep breath and said, "Thank you." Artoria hugged me from behind and said, "No need, just relax for now." I nodded and closed my eyes, as my body fell upon her, though my arms never weakened their grip over Jean. I lost my consciousness. Third POV. Everyone remained silent as Amara and Artoria placed Poseidon, who was still hugging Jean, gently on the bed, and Jalter and Scathach quickly sat beside him with worried looks on their faces. Finally, Scathach asked Jalter what happened with him. She flinched, and then tears started pouring down from her eyes. Ritsuka and others couldn't believe in their eyes that Jalter was crying. I met her. She was another Jean in the middle of our competition. Seeing her I got enraged and separated her limbs, and questioned why she was in this singularity. I was suspicious that God was somehow involved, but upon hearing her confession of being in love with Deer, I got clouded in anger, and decided to kill her. She became silent as she rubbed her tears with her hand. Immense guilt washed down her as she thought of Poseidon's cold look. She had enraged him. She had hurt someone he liked. She was so stupid. She had hurt him, and in fact that she did so out of her own will, to the person she loved most, the one who was literally her entire world, pained her more than anything. Everyone remained silent, not wanting to cause any more discomfort to her. After some time Artoria asked, "Then what happened?" None of them understood why he was weakened, and they waited for the answer from Jalter's mouth, who replied, "Then Lord Poseidon looked at the sky, enraged, and unleashed his entire divinity. The next moment I knew an invisible holy aura struck upon us, and he fought against it, shielding both of us. Then another strong one struck us, he fended them off, and then teleported here." Gilgamesh finally decided to intervene. He fought off against the Tiamat's aura and also the Christian god's omniscience. If that wasn't enough, he also broke his curse upon that girl he is hugging, him becoming severely weakened after that is to be expected. His words surprised everyone, even the entire staff of Chaldea, including Romani, froze as they realized the weight of his words. As for how Gilgamesh knew about it, he was omniscient as well. "Wait a minute. King Gilgamesh, do you mean the god as if the only god in Christianity?" asked Ritsuka, shaken by his words. Gilgamesh nodded, while his lips formed a smile. "Ha ha. It was worth making an alliance with him," he continued, angering Poseidon's wives. Artoria stood up as she glared at him. Rangaminiad manifested in her hands as she unleashed her divine presence. "Do you think it is some kind of joke?" I don't care if you are king of heroes or not, I will kill you for making fun of him, she said in a deep voice as Rangaminiad started spinning slowly, scaring Ritsuka and others. Gilgamesh remained unfazed, glancing at her for a bit and then sighing, do not misunderstand me, I am just joyful that this alliance between us was more worth it than I thought, and for the time he is weakened. I promise on my name, I shall honor the words between us, and I shall protect him from whatever it might be with all of my life. His words didn't calm the enraged Artoria any bit. She was ready to descend with her true might and destroy the entirety of Babylon. Seeing her being serious, Gilgamesh narrowed his eyes and taking a deep sigh, he took out of Ea of his treasury, and his divinity regained its prime strength. The sword of rupture glowed eerily as it was ready to clash against another anti-world noble phantasm. Stop it, Artoria, your clash against him will injure him, said Skathak, seeing the severity of the situation. The clash between two anti-world noble phantasms will surely destroy the entire Babylon city or even the entire singularity. One might think destroying the singularity will restore the timeline, but it will harm the timeline if anything else. Artoria, hearing her words, calmed down and recalled Gilgamesh's words, which held the truth. She decided to stop her wrath and withdrew her aura, making the Mash who had activated her noble phantasm alongside other servants who were ready to activate their noble phantasms breathe in relief. Gilgamesh too kept his EA back, and his divinity weakened again, revealing that he was who weakened himself in the first place. Again, it was only his divinity that was weakened by his own will, since he hated some gods, but could regain its former rank by suppressing his hatred, not to mention he was long past his prime and continuously used his prana to create a barrier over Uruk. He also used a lot of his treasury to create the cannons that guarded the Uruk from demonic beasts. Thus, if not for EA, he had little hope of winning against Artoria in his current situation even with his peak divinity. Well, then I shall take my leave. I have a lot of work to do, my words will remain the same unless you try to harm any of my people, he said as he left the room. Oh, we should leave as well, said Romani from a holographic screen, wanting Ritsuka and others not to stay near these crazy women any longer. Finally, when the room was empty of most of the former people, Amara sighed and took a seat near unconscious Poseidon. Suddenly eyelids of Jean started fluttering as she opened her eyes. Where am I? She thought, and then her eyes widened seeing Poseidon's face and realizing she was in his hug, her face blushed heavily. His scent invaded her nose, and smelling it, butterflies flapped in her chest. She started rubbing her cheeks against his chest with a happy smile. I feel much better already, as if my curse is gone, she said, and then paused as she realized her curse was gone. She was surprised and wondered what happened when she saw four women looking at her scarily. I am Jean, nice to meet you all, she said, not sure of her current circumstances. Why don't you just leave his arm for a bit? Asked Artoria, her eyes red from anger, seeing that Jean had taken advantage of Poseidon's unconscious state. Jean nodded as she reluctantly broke from his arms, and then looked at them, somewhat aware of their identity from the fact that their scent was heavily covered with Poseidon. She looked at Jalter and flinched. Jalter suddenly knelt and said, I apologize for the earlier act. Please forgive me. Jean was surprised and said, don't worry, I did get angry a bit knowing you are Lord Poseidon's woman, most jealous, but since I got to have his warmth, I am not angry at all. She looked extremely cheerful of the fact. Skathaka's eyebrows twitched and she asked, so why don't you tell me about your true identity and your relationship with Poseidon? She didn't get an answer and then found Jean to be staring at Poseidon's sleeping face in a trance, while a drool escaped from a corner of her mouth. Suddenly she blushed as if thinking about some naughty things. It can be said that Poseidon's women will have an headache getting some answers out of her. To be continued. Chapter 75, Love That Crossed Time and Space, Part 2. Third POV. So basically that's the gist of the things, said Jean cheerfully with a radiant smile on her face, making her cuter and more beautiful than ever, while Poseidon's woman remained silent and tried to process the absurdity of the situation. So let me get it straight, to search for Lord Poseidon you doomed various panhuman timelines, killed trillions, slayed gods, and then got cursed. One so notorious that would break any human's sanity, and yet you kept searching for Poseidon, asked Jalter trembling, and looked at Jean carefully for any lies. Yes, she said, and then nodded like a little girl. Then she shifted her focus back on the unconscious Poseidon and continued staring at his face, while her eyes involuntarily moved around his body. The whole situation was absurd, and Jean, who had been freed from a curse far stronger than anything present in this world, was like an unshackled kid who got the toy she wanted. She had an extremely bubbly personality which showcased that she had not changed much despite everything that had transpired. It made them question just how strong Jean's willpower was. After all, what she did was not just out of the norm, it was out of possibility. A pain that would make them feel like their skin is melting, yet also pierced by needles, and then amplified by 1,000 would break anyone, yes, anyone except her. Damn, to think you killed more gods than me, you have earned my respect as a warrior and a fellow godslayer, said Skathak as she looked at dazed Jean. Can I get near him? She ignored her words and asked a question, which raised the brows of Poseidon's woman. Of course not. Who do you think you are? Huh. I will not let you ogle my father and husband, said Amara, defensively protecting her father's chastity. Ouch, cried Amara the next moment as the hand of Artoria landed on her head. you aren't his wife, yet, she said, and then looking at Jean she sighed and said, my liege allowed you to be in his embrace, thus I think it is fine. Her words made a big radiant smile erupt on Jean's face, who quickly hugged Poseidon and got on top of him, then with a happy smile she closed her eyes while laying on his chest. If it was any other time Jalter would have outlasted. After all, in her eyes letting Jean be the lover of Poseidon was a slap on her face, but after the events that happened she decided to let go of her hatred, of course only for this specific Jean. Scat didn't have many problems either, not to mention she understood Jean was worthy to be Poseidon's lover, way more than her. The only girl who had a problem was Amara, ignoring Poseidon's well-care, she didn't care a bit about what the big-boobed blonde went through. Why should she care for someone she hadn't met? In her eyes her daddy's safety and life were topmost priority, then hers, and finally her mother's, and she understood it was Jean who was the indirect reason for his current condition, so she didn't like her a bit. Alas, she could not go against her mother's, at least till the stakes weren't that high, and could only pout in dissatisfaction. These old hags always claiming daddy for themselves. Just wait, bitches. I will make daddy love me more than you can dream of. Amara thought as her eyes turned cold, not to mention the fucker who harmed daddy, be ready, I will fucking rip you apart. Her eyes turned even colder. All of them could see Amara's not-so-hidden foul mood, but they kept quiet and ignored her. Meanwhile, Jean, who was beyond saving, now looked at Poseidon's lips like a hungry wolf. Oh. He is in front of me. A peck wouldn't hurt, right? I mean, he is unconscious, but it is just a peck. Not to mention I need to give my first kiss to him. She thought, and then gathering her willpower she closed in and kissed him on the lips. Red heart, chew red heart. A soft voice rang throughout the room, while the four looked at Jean in front of them who had attacked Poseidon speechless. This girl is beyond saving, Artoria concluded, realizing Jean might not be so alright after several centuries of that torture, and decided to separate her from Poseidon lest she does anything else. But suddenly Poseidon's hand grabbed Jean's waist, taking her and everyone by surprise, then Poseidon's tongue invaded Jean's mouth and started battling against hers. Something that started with a mere peck turned into a passionate kiss, as Poseidon's tongue explored the taste of Jean's mouth. Red heart, chew red heart, slurp red heart, chew red heart, slurp red heart. Jean melted in his embrace, enjoying the passionate kiss between them, which continued for several minutes before their tongues separated, leaving a thin trail of saliva between them. You are in front of me, said Jean softly, looking at Poseidon, who looked her back and replied with a smile, yes. Then Jean hugged Poseidon tightly and started rubbing her cheek against him. I missed you, so much, she said while Poseidon got up, taking her into his lap and started caressing his hair, while Jean enjoyed it like a pet. Meanwhile, Poseidon looked at her in deep thought. This is something I never anticipated, even if she had fallen in love with me, to go this far, just to meet me. Master, maybe this what you call love? Sometimes it can be plain stupid, plain painful, and sometimes obsessive, and beautiful. The fact she even waited for centuries to be with you and endured all that, I can just say one thing, she is someone that is freaking obsessed with you. Indeed, Poseidon concluded, after what Jean did was something she would have never done, whatever the case might be he could care less of it, and he had already accepted her love. There is no need to give her more pain. He would accept her love, her innocence, her care. Finally, he would accept her everything. Jean's smile was extremely radiant, it adorned her face, and just the look of happiness of her face could make anyone smile. She was so cute and pure, well, partially pure to be more correct. The moment Poseidon woke up he got hugged by other females, who were none other than Artoria, Jalter, Amara, and even Scat hugged him. Poseidon released a deep sigh, realizing that he wasn't alone anymore. He had a family, even if it consisted of his bitches and a daddy's girl. Makes me remember Hades, Poseidon thought, remembering about his elder brother who once fought the Titans alone, not telling him about it to keep them safe. Ahem. Lord Poseidon, if I am not intruding, said Siduri, only to be glared by Jalter, who looked her as if saying, you have fucked up, by Artoria, who looked as if saying, get ready to be cleaved in half. And by Amara with a look as if saying, how dare a insect ruin my moment with daddy. Only Scat kept her head clear, still she disliked the disturbance. As for Jean, as long as she is with Poseidon there is only peace. A/N, the irony. Normally Siduri's mood can even make Gilgamesh change his decisions, but Poseidon's women were crazy, and last thing she wanted was to deal with crazy. You are here to invite us to food, right? Asked Poseidon, saving Siduri's life, who nodded. Why yes, Lord Gilgamesh has said that the food and wine has been served and you should have a taste of it to clear your mind, she said. Poseidon nodded and said to Jean, stand up Jean, she pouted and asked, can't we stay a little longer? Like just for a few months like this, Poseidon instantly replied, no. The poor Jean almost had another heartbreak as she was stolen from Poseidon's lap. Humph. You crazy woman. Daddy's lap is my birthright. And I shall have it, Amara thought while looking at Poseidon's lap. A/N, she is going all ball Gungadar to Luckbois, just hope doesn't go Sabosh mode. Finally, Poseidon and his followers arrived at the dining hall, which was wide and grandly decorated. Intricate patterns were carved on the walls, and dozens of vases of flowers highlighted the beauty of the place. Gilgamesh sat on the cornermost seat on the dining table while gracefully drinking wine. "Ah, you have arrived. Very well, taste the food and wine of the Uruk," said Gilgamesh in a proudful tone. Poseidon just nodded and sat on his chair surrounded by a woman every side, and especially Jean who under everyone's eyes directly sat on his lap. "Lord Poseidon. How about I feed you?" she asked cheerfully, and Poseidon let himself be indulged to her desires. Jean had beard pain and suffering that would have broken the mind of any other, just to have a glimpse of him again. Such love, he didn't have words for it to explain and neither had the desire to deny her after all through she had went. Thus, Jean took a piece of mutton, and cutting it elegantly, she took it with her hand and then feed him with an happy and satisfied smile on her face. Poseidon took it into his mouth as the rich flavor busted out in his tongue. "It is delicious," he thought, realizing that food of Age of Gods was really something else, truly befitting of the finest food of Uruk, ruled by their king Gilgamesh. Poseidon suddenly took a piece of meat from his plate to front of Jean. Reacted the Holy Virgin confused. "Open your mouth, Jean," he said, making her eyes lit up with joy. She opened her mouth and took the entire piece in a single bite while sheer happiness radiated from her. Meanwhile, Poseidon's women looked at them baffled and with jealousy. After all, they also wanted to enjoy such fine food while on Poseidon's lap and then doing what they are doing. Alas, it was Jean's moment as Poseidon cared for her, caressed her hair while her fed her, and vice versa. In the end, with a sour mood they could only eat food. Gilgamesh drank another bottle of wine, making Siduri concerned about his health, but in the end she let her king enjoy. After all, it was first time in months that Gilgamesh was having a feast, and she couldn't help but smile seeing Poseidon and Jean. After all, their love seemed truly pure. "Hee, my turn." "Open your mouth," said Jean, taking another piece and feeding him. Poseidon glanced at Gilgamesh and gave him a thumbs up for the food, who just smirked as if he was the greatest king of the greatest chef, not knowing Poseidon already had copied all the dishes and could recreate them whenever he desired. Soon they finished up with the feast, and Jean like a little girl asked Poseidon to go with her to see the stars. He went with her, and soon both of them were sitting on the edge of the Uruk's wall stargazing. "It's truly beautiful," said Poseidon as he looked at the shimmering dots. "I am happy that I can be with you again," said Jean as she hugged his arm. He smiled as he looked at her, and she closed her eyes while with a happy smile formed on her face. Makes me think as if it was just yesterday I met her," Poseidon thought, recalling his first meeting with Jean, and how cute and dumb she acted all the time. "To make her suffer, you sure have guts," he thought as his eyes narrowed, but his face quickly became serene and calm. He took Jean on his chest and laid on the wall. "Sweet dreams, Jean," he muttered while closing his eyes. Jean's smile became bigger as she laid on Poseidon's chest. To be continued. Author's note: okay. Give me your power stones. Please make sure to give them 12 minutes after this chapter is released. By the way, I am really ill, high fever, coccyx pain, full body pain, weakness, so I will upload the character images tomorrow, don't have the strength to do it. Chapter 76, Goddess Problem. Poseidon POV. It was finally morning, and another day for the Mesopotamia. I could feel that the air was behaving weirdly as if wanting to announce something terrible is going to occur. Jean meanwhile sat happily beside me as we gazed at the horizon. Her head leaning on my shoulder, and her hand on my lap. I looked at the hordes of monsters galloping towards the walls from kilometers away at the demonic front. The wall that protected the fortress city Uruk, also known as the demonic front. I could see the servants summoned by Gilgamesh fighting there against the demonic beasts. "Poseidon, do you want to help them?" she asked while glancing at the distance. I paused and glanced at her, realizing she was way stronger than ever before. "I want to test some spells, and since I am in alliance with Gilgamesh it wouldn't hurt to help them," I replied, and she nodded, then standing up while summoning her holy flag, which had gotten a white hue surprisingly, she said, "Then let's go and free those beasts of their pain." Her words sounded as if she was a frantic devotee of some hypocritical goddess of light or god of darkness in some third-rate isekai manga. Heh, I looked at her jumping on the ground and then blasted off there in a sonic speed. I looked at the blonde speechlessly before muttering, "Stupid," then I teleported directly at the battlefield. The cries of soldiers rung throughout the place as a few died while fighting against the horde. I could see around thousands of beasts at the distance, and then summoning my trident I grabbed it tightly and then threw it towards the beast. Shring boom. A sharp sound traveled through as my trident pierced the air at a supersonic speed, clearing out all the beasts near its path, and then it struck against ground a few kilometers away, creating a huge crack and shockwaves that turned the nearby beasts into gore. My move garnered the attention of everyone, and soldiers looked at the scene baffled. I ignored them as I floated on the air and started thinking of which spell I should test first. I decided to go with super tier spell, Wind of Corruption, and a large number of magic circles surrounded me as I weaved the spell. Wind of Corruption, I chanted, and then the entire place became silent as wind remained still. Then a wide and powerful gust of wind with a brown hue blew towards them. It threw thousands of the monster back due to enormous force it contained. But it was not over. The bodies of monsters started decaying at a visible rate under everyone's astonished eyes. As the spell said, the Wind of Corruption is basically an AoE spell that not strikes the enemies with a powerful shockwave and gust of wind, but also has corrupting and decaying properties that does immense damage to living creatures. Even if they are monsters and corrupted beings in a way, they still are made by the goddess of life and creation, thus the spell was immensely effective against them, though I doubt that will be the same for the corrupted humans that Tiamat will make. Well, I have a bunch of super tier spells and dozens of summoning spells that I want to try against her and her army of new humans. Lord Poseidon, said a servant carrying a shield and spear while wearing a Spartan mask. Leonidas looked at me with respect, awe, and admiration. Thank you for helping us, he said formally while doing a weird kind of salute. Let me thank you, Lord Poseidon, said another servant, a female this time, wearing extremely samurai clothes and carrying a Japanese katana. We were in a pinch, and to come and help us directly, I would like to express my and others' gratitude on their behalf, she continued while looking at me with a slight blush. That's not fair, Lord Poseidon, said Jean arriving beside me while looking at me with a pout and small blush. She had arrived here just the moment before I casted my spell and watched how I absolutely pulverized thousands of beasts in a few seconds. You should have waited, you just jumped from the wall and started running like a brute, I said, her face reddened while she became embarrassed. Suddenly 2 hands wrapped around me and asked, Yes, Amara, I received a dissatisfied reply from her, that's not good, Daddy, you are never surprised. She was correct, I had extreme awareness of my surroundings, even what is teleporting beside me. As a billion-year-old god, the one of the last thing I would do is to lose the awareness of my surroundings when I am in a place where enemies can come from anywhere. What are you looking at, insect? Amara said while glancing at Leonidas, whose body froze the moment she looked at him. Amara was a divine beast and a natural enemy of dragonkind, thus she was extremely high on the racial hierarchy. It was normal for Leonidas' body to freeze in fear, and well, this girl is too spoiled despite being humbled by her mother several times. I grabbed her arms and swung her body, and in no moment she was leaning against my chest. I patted her head and caressed her horns while she looked at me with a blush adorning her face. Oh, Daddy, she muttered happily. Leonidas, I want you to continue doing your impressive work. Not to mention a new horde of beasts should be arriving here soon, I commanded him, and doing a salute he replied, Yes, sir. It looked a bit funny and weird for me. After all, Leonidas from my world hated gods to the boot and would just like to plummet Apollo's face with his fists. So, you are Amara, right? Asked Jean as she appeared in front of us with a smile on her face, and looked at Amara, my daughter, with interest in her eyes. Amara ignored her existence and continued enjoying my pats. Poor Jean continued smiling while looking at the girl who didn't care a bit about her. Talk with her, Amara, I said, and quickly she nodded obediently as if she was not ignoring her a second ago. Yes, is there anything you want to say? She asked a bit rudely, but Jean didn't mind it, and instead taking her hands by surprise she asked with intense curiosity, Who is your mother? I want to know about Lord Poseidon, like everything. Thus I want to know who is your mother. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Or dash, she asked with rapid precision, her lips moving in a sensual manner. Stop, shouted Amara, stopping her, and then with a slight anger she said, Firstly, those 3 perverted women of Daddy are my mothers. None of them are my birth mothers, only Daddy is my real daddy. They are my mothers just because they are women of Daddy. Also I have no brother or sister, only I alone am the daughter of Poseidon. Her voice contained pride as she announced her identity as my sole daughter in existence. Jean's face looked satisfied, and well more curious enough to make Amara shudder and hug me tightly. Well anyway, going by your logic I am your mother as well. You can call me Mom. Also let's have a family hug, said Jean as she leaped and hugged us while burying her face on my chest as well. I sighed and then smiled a little. She is cute as ever, I thought, amused. Ahem, why are we missing this family hug? I am coming as well, said Jalter as she leaped and hugged me from back. Artoria, who had teleported with her, and Scathack joined as well, while Scathack sighed at the stupidity she was going to commit before joining the hug as well. All of them squeezed me tightly, while Leonidas gave me a thumbs up from the side, and Ushawakamara blushed lightly and looked away. Well, we are not doing anything lewd, this woman is just weird. Now, I would love to be hugged by you all for hours like this, but we aren't at our home, rather at a dangerous place, so I would like you leave me, I said as I looked at the supersonic goddess approaching us on her heavenly ride. Her twin tails swayed erratically as she approached us. The others too became wary as they sensed the approaching divinity. They quickly broke the hug. Dee! Shouted the goddess as she jumped from her mana, and performed a kick towards me at a supersonic speed. Her movement came to halt as Amara grabbed her leg in the midair, while intense wind and shock waves were produced by their clash as the ground below us cracked and rocks were thrown in the air. Wadash! She tried to express her shock only to be punched in the gut and thrown hundreds of meters away like a rag doll. Her body rolled in the air while hitting ground and dirt several times, until her movement came to an halt as she crashed on the rocky hill. Amara's body teleported beside her, while the goddess of beauty stood up with scratches visible on her body with an enraged look on her face. A mere divine beast dare dash, Ishtar tried to speak another cliché young mistress line, only to be punched on her face by a fist of Amara imbued with extreme level of divinity. her nose broke as a huge part of the hill behind her was pulverized as she was thrown back again, her body rolling like a rag doll. I looked casually at their clash, while Leonidas had his jaw dropped. Soldiers hid behind the wall as they witnessed the clash that left them stunned. Hills, ground, everything seemed to made of a thin layer of dried clay as it broke down, and pulverized as Amara clashed. It is over, I knew it as the goddess was knocked out, while her beautiful Rin face deformed slightly. She made the stupidest move by attacking me physically instead of the EX rank noble phantasm she took pride in. Hey master, it's getting boring here. I am just waiting here for the final boss to appear, not some spoiled daughter. Still, that spoiled daughter versus spoiled daughter clash was a bit amusing, said System. A/N, damn, I almost forgot him, her. You normally stay silent, and don't care about such matters. Now intruding here, I asked the System and soon received a reply, Master, I am a sentient being and I tend to get bored as well. My previous masters were humans and were weak from the start, so I got much enjoyment from seeing their growth while getting strong at least till they died. Even my last master, who was a god, ended up in hilarious situations due to his arrogance. It was fun, and for the first time I understood that I get bored. I teleported beside Amara, who had grabbed unconscious Ishtar by her neck, and said, System, well then I will talk with you more. I received a thumbs up, and then shifting my focus to Amara I said, leave her, Amara, and then she left the goddess, making her fall on the ground, while spitting on her and muttering, fucking insect, she dared to disturb me in my daddy's moment, be grateful bitch. Because of daddy I am leaving you alive. I didn't care about her insults, since I shared the sentiment, and then creating a rope of water with my divinity, I decided to try and attempt to get her on our side. She was a high goddess in the end with a fairly powerful noble phantasm in her arsenal. It could even pulverize Gilgamesh even if he was wearing his golden armor and other gods. It was the manifestation of the very concept of Venus, powerful enough to make king of gods fear. But in the end it didn't make a scratch on the enemy I am going to face. Tiamat is more powerful than I am, and thus I would need all the help I can. Now it depended on her whether she joined or sent back to heaven. Thus holding her body we both teleported back to the demonic front, and others became relieved seeing Ishtar unconscious. It was time for me to solve this goddess problem. Chapter 77, Goddess Problem. No more. Third POV. In the magnificent hall of the Uruk's castle where the king Gilgamesh resided on his throne, a loud laughter echoed throughout the castle. Gilgamesh was laughing loudly while Ishtar looked at him calmly. She was tied with a divine construction, or rather just a rope made up of water imbued with an extremely strong divinity far surpassing current her. Her body was filled with scratched, while her nose broken. Her beautiful face being deformed slightly weakened her current divinity significantly, and she could only helplessly watch the king of heroes laugh like a madman. Soon his laughter subsided, and she couldn't help but ask sarcastically, had enough fun, Gilgamesh? Seeing me, Anna, in such a state, her calm finally distorted with anger, and Gilgamesh said, actually I hadn't, ha 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 ha. Thus he continued laughing, making her angrier. She gnashed her teeth while eyeing Amara with an hateful glare. She was responsible for her current state. Control your eyes, insect, I might gouge out them if I get angry, said Amara, making Ishtar quickly look away while she started whistling. Tell me, Ishtar, why did you attack me? Asked Poseidon, ignoring Gilgamesh, who still laughing while Siduri looked at him worriedly. Why? You ask me why? After using such a disgusting magic. Did you know how much I loathe the corruption you spread? It made me disgusted, replied Ishtar, and the next moment she screamed in pain as her pinky finger vanished. Impossible, she muttered as she looked at Amara, who looked at her coldly as she held her finger, which started turning into dust. Gilgamesh's laughter came to an halt and an extremely serious expression appeared on his face as he glanced at what had transpired. A cruel smile formed on Amara's face as she said, be in your limits, bitch, I defeated you and had killed you if not for my daddy asking me to not to. Do you think on dying you would return back to heaven? Pfft, no, I will kill you, for real. Ishtar's face looked at her with fear and panic as she tried to ascend back to heaven, which should have killed the mortal's body she is occupying, but she couldn't ascend back and her face became paler. She lowered her head silently, and Amara said, good. Then she returned to Poseidon's side and hugged his arm between her chest with a look, I made this noisy bitch shut up, so praise me. Poseidon didn't fulfill her wish, knowing well that she just lowered the chances of them joining her, in the way he wanted. Anyway, Ishtar, do not fear, I will not kill you, and neither let Amara kill you. I have a proposition, I want you to become my subordinate, a temporary one alas, till I deal with her. If you accept the proposal then I will set you free after the war, and if not I will send you back to heaven, he said. I accept. I swear on my name of Ishtar, Inanna, and Queen of the Heaven. As long as this god abides through his agreement I shall serve him as his subordinate god till the end of the war, Ishtar replied instantly, swearing an oath on her divinity. Her this act meant she was betraying the three-goddess alliance, but she didn't care. After all, with such a scary divine beast capable of killing her for actual, standing beside him, she is supposed to deny him. Everything went smoothly, only Ishtar was at loss, her pride was trampled upon and she was taught a lesson that she would remember for the rest of her life. Finally I am free, said Ishtar as she cracked her fingers happily. Her face started healing quickly and soon she was in a better shape. Meanwhile, Ritsuka, Mash and Arjuna beside him came to the throne room to inform Gilgamesh about the completion of the quest he gave them. Eh? A Devi, said Arjuna as he found a new face who was none other than Ishtar. She looked at them as well and found them to be familiar. Wait, isn't she the person whom we met the moment we ray-shifted here, said Ritsuka, while Ishtar got a smug look and said, Ah. You are the people whom I graced by saving them from being ripped apart from the jaws of the demonic beast. So who is she? Asked Arjuna, not knowing the identity of the divinity, while Ishtar became stunned. Wait. You don't know me. Ishtar. The queen of the heavens, she asked, and three of them shook their heads. A hologram appeared showing the Da Vinci, who looked at Poseidon, who was busy with spoiling Amara, and then said, Ishtar is the Mesopotamian. After she was finished with explaining, they finally nodded. I see, so she is just like Dev Kama, said Arjuna, while Goddess of Beauty looked offended and was doubting life. There are still people who don't know me. She thought. Her pride had taken in another hit, and if that wasn't enough, the calm voice of Poseidon sounded in her ears. Ishtar, let's go, I have a task for you. Yes, asked Ishtar, wondering what kind of important task will be given to her. After all, even if she was defeated horribly and became a subordinate of Poseidon temporarily, it didn't change the fact that she was one of the highest goddess in Mesopotamia. Her reputation and prowess was spread far wide. Thus for her, Poseidon must have an important task for her, or so she thought. Clear the beast hordes and guard the demonic front, she shouted in disbelief, and then asked angrily, You want me, the queen of the heavens, to do a mere task as such, guarding a wall, so that the soldiers can rest? Poseidon's face didn't change and he said calmly, Yes, I want you to guard the demonic front for the entire night, his voice deep and firm. Ishtar's anger vanished and she recalled her situation and quickly saluted and said, It will be done. Then she quickly summoned her mana and flew towards the demonic front with teary eyes. While Gilgamesh, who had just stopped laughing again, started laughing loudly. Better leave, or I will be subjected to hear his iconic laugh for hours, Poseidon thought, and teleported away with Amara. King. Please calm down, said Siduri with worry in her eyes, as she looked at Gilgamesh. The king of heroes stopped laughing and said, Don't worry, Siduri, just a bit more. After all, such a wonderful spectacle I had been born to witness. Ha 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 ha, and continued laughing. It almost seemed that King Gilgamesh would die of laughing rather over work in this singularity. Finally we have arrived, said Anna, with her eyes gleaming with excitement as she stepped within the city of Uruk. Merlin meanwhile sighed as he glanced the figure of Ishtar flying away from the corner of his eyes. Well, I can say that it was quite cruel of him, he thought, feeling pity for the goddess as they shared a similar pain and had the same tormentor in a way. Anyway. Merlin, now take me to Poseidon, Anna demanded with a fiery expression, with a look as if she can't wait to see her childhood crush. Of course Poseidon was her biggest crush, due to the courtesy of her dear sisters. Merlin's eyebrows twitched. Very well. Then let's march towards the royal palace, he said dramatically, and Anna just ignored his antics. She knew this white-haired man was weird. Poseidon POV. Son, you must defeat your father, remember it. As long as you all work together, then you can free the cosmos from his cruelty. My sons, only by trusting each other you can achieve it, she said to us, her smile that seemed to give a ray of light in this cruel light to us, and the belief she had in us was enviable. Maybe the only person whom I had ever shed tears for and hated the most. She lied. You lied, mother. Gods didn't needed someone, they were perfect. They didn't needed help or support, only if you understood it, only if. I opened my eyes while gasping heavily. I felt something heavy lying on my chest, and on looking I saw a familiar face. It was Jean. She rubbed her eyes and asked me with a bit worry, Is everything right? Her voice contained a similarity to her. I sighed while thinking, a bit amused, to think I would have a nightmare. Sometimes it makes me laugh. I looked at Jean and patted her head. She melted on my touch, while her lips arched, forming a radiant smile, and I said, Just an unpleasant dream, no need to worry about it. She nodded cutely and then said, Even then. If you ever have nightmares, just tell me. I will hug you and vanish all those bad dreams. Her tone was childish. Sometimes it made me wonder, how can someone like her exist, someone so pure, yet had gone through events that would break anyone's sanity, still the same. She is truly a saintess. Well, then sure, I replied with a little smile on my face, and she hugged me. I am so happy. I have dreamed countless times to be like this, you and me together, alone she said, and then looked at me. I am grateful that I had fallen for you back then, otherwise I would have never experienced such joy. She finished her sentence. I caressed her head gently. She was cute and innocent. It even made a bloodthirsty god like me to protect her, cherish her, love her, and, oh, it would seem that Artoria wasn't having a good time. She looked at us, specifically at Jean, with slight anger on her face. Oh, you are here, said Jean with a slight blush, as if she had seen us doing something bad. Ah, she is also weird. I know, you went through a lot and want to spend time with my liege, but it is selfish of you to hoard him for . She stopped, seeing my eyes focused on her. She held her head down. It was obvious to me she was jealous of her, especially when I gave her all my attention and care for the past few days. There is something I had understood, that my woman never blamed me. Even if my mistakes are present, they won't blame me, they would normally shift it to other. The intense emotions, they were never targeted at me, testament of the unique bond we shared. Only a twisted being like me would make such relationships, where I did loved all of them, but nothing compared to what they did. They were obsessed with me, they cared for me, they put me above everything, I was their world. I slowly made Jean stand up and then moved towards Artoria, her eyes even lowered further, and then I grabbed her chin and made her look at me. She blushed and then I kissed her. She closed her eyes with happiness. Finally, after a few seconds, we both separated and she wanted to say something, but I said first, "No need to apologize, Artoria, if you ever need me, I am here." She nodded while a smile formed on her face. Yes, they are twisted just like me. I am the one who made them fall in love with me and obsessed with me, and I am slowly becoming the same, obsessed with them. Truly a fortunate and wonderful thing. I sighed and quickly teleported to demonic front while holding their hands. There was a huge number of demonic beasts attacking as always, but this time I could sense something else approaching. No, they are coming, I thought as a figure with long green hair landed before the place and the demonic beasts became silent. I didn't expect so many divinities, with such a powerful presence to be gathered here. Well, it doesn't change my mission, they said. Kingu, the son of Tiamat, here are on the orders of my mother to destroy this wall and defeat the gods who joined you, he announced confident. He was strong and laced with anti-divinity properties, but I could defeat with him ease, and so the two women beside me, who looked at they with different expressions. Artoria summoned her Rangaminiad and manifested a throne beside me. She knelt and said, "My liege, let me handle this insolent fool while you rest," her devotion oozing out in her words. Jean became stupefied in her sudden change in attitude while I nodded and sat on the throne, ordering Jean, "Go and keep the soldiers safe." She nodded and quickly left. While Ishtar appeared a bit away from us on her mana. It wasn't her, the servants summoned by Gilgamesh appeared as well. The demonic beasts stayed silent while eyeing them, showing they were under the control of Kingu. "Well, I brought a group of servants as well," they said, and a group of servants with a dark hue appeared. They were none other than Amakusashiro, Fumakotoru, Ibaraki Doji, and Tomoguzen. Servants summoned by Gilgamesh who perished before we arrived in this singularity. So a one-sided fight, I mused to myself as the tension increased. Chapter 78, Might of the Goddess of the End. Third POV. "Impossible," muttered Ushawakamaru as she looked at her former comrades. Gilgamesh had summoned 7 heroic spirits in this era with his might. His immense magical prowess helped him achieve this unsurmountable act. To summon 7 high-level servants and then use some spells and servants' own nature to their advantage and to let them absorb the ether emitted by the world, for their continuation. It was something that only he could have hoped to achieve, truly king of heroes. But he was neither at his peak nor he had the power to truly grant each heroic spirit enough mana to let them use their full prowess. In fact, even Gilgamesh understood in his current state he would unlikely defeat any of the women of Poseidon, much less him. If he was at peak with EA to adhere his wish and commands, then he would have even the arrogance and surety to defeat Poseidon. But he was old, way past his prime and not the arrogant king he used to be, thus it was another matter for him. Coming to present, Leonidas looked at Kingu enraged at the treatment of his comrades. He could see they were corrupted by demonic powers, a fate not befitting of them. It was a pure tarnish to their resolve and their heroic demise, and veins appeared on all his body as he squeezed more out of his strength, increasing his strength parameter by a single rank. Kingu meanwhile ignored the servants as he knew they were no match for him. His only concern were the divine spirits. 3 of them present before him, each one a top 1 easily, whether it was Inanna, the hailed queen of the heavens, or the mysterious blonde goddess who made the space trembled with her mere aura, but most problematic of them all was the man sitting on top of the throne, observing the battle that was about to unfold before his eyes. They could see that despite his divinity being slightly weaker than the goddess, he was the strongest of them. Another fact supporting this was that the goddess who emitted the strongest divinity, almost reaching the level of true manifestation of a god, or the level of king of gods as a divine spirit, was his subordinate. This was no joke, she could easily shred the servants he brought to assist him in mere seconds, such was the might of a god. Yet, she bowed and knelt before that man, with a devotion not less than a frantic occultist who would burn the entire world for their god and commit the most heinous crime in the name of the justice delivered by their lord. They had no fear though, for they was the son of the creator gods, a body shaped by the power of creation itself, with the nature that was very against their existence itself. They was the chain of heavens, the one who sang the song of earth. Artoria took her steps slowly, each one creating no sound but a unique vibration that announced her manifestation. The divine spear in her hand submitted before its master and summoned the powers of the world beyond the current, one that belonged to an era unknown to current, world never seen before. It was the outside of the world. Her spear grew eerily ready to shred the layers of the world any moment. Hey, dozens of golden portals appeared near his feet and chains with anti-divine properties shot out like missiles, each one's trajectory calculated and precise with the goal to stop the divinities in their path. Ishtar flew through them while dodging them with precision, a few scratching her skin leaving red marks. Artoria meanwhile just went supersonic and arrived in front of Kingu in less than a second and pierced his chest through her spear, destroying him. "Well, that was fast," said Kingu as he appeared in another place. "Clone, huh?" muttered Artoria as she glanced at the dozens of new Kingu appearing before her. Well, they aren't clones, but if it helps your meager mind to understand the complexity of the gift that Mother bestowed me, then sure, they said, and hundreds of golden portals manifested before them and shot out like torpedoes. That's unfair. You fucking cheater, shouted Ishtar as she tried her best to dodge the chains. Artoria meanwhile snorted and waved her spear while it turned anti-clockwise, and she said, Rangaminiad. A purplish golden light shot out, destroying the chains and shredding them into pieces that turned to clay. Dozens of copies of Kingu were slayed in a moment, but new one appeared, making Ishtar's face pale. Don't tell me he is in spirit of revenge. She thought, lamenting about her past actions. Meanwhile, from the castle, Gilgamesh gazed at the horizon, his eyes narrowing. I see, it's really you, or at least your body, he thought while a self-depreciating smile appeared on his face. Is something the matter? Asked Siduri from behind, and he turned with grace, and replied, it would seem they are fighting, and he is there. He, muttered Siduri as her eyes widened with realization. Gilgamesh calmly returned to his throne and looked at the reports. My king, doesn't that means, dash, she said as if wanting to ask his opinion. I have nothing to speak to them now. With their death, I became king of men. I had lost the right to talk with them long ago, he said while ignoring her any further. How about it? Ushiwakamaru, asked Tomo Guzan as she swung her spear, while Ushiwakamaru dodged it by a single inch. What about it? The fact you are like this pains me, but do you think I am afraid to cut you down? She said while Tomo rolled her eyes. Idiotic as always. Fine die, you emotional idiot, she shouted, ready to use her noble phantasm, only to get her chest pierced by a purple spear from behind. What the foo dash, she said as she looked behind to find Skathack. Were you thinking I will challenge you first? Well then forgive me, but I simply don't have the time to waste on you. Now perish, she said as she took out the spear from her chest while Tomo Guzan's body vanished. The curse of death had killed her for good. Then she glanced at the battle fought by the Artoria with eagerness on her face. She wanted to join and fight against a strong enemy like him as well. Despite her divinity, she was a god killer, so it would be extremely easy to go against the likes of Enkidu. Don't participate, it's Artoria's fight, Poseidon said to her, and she pouted lightly. You are really demanding, Poseidon. Very well, I shall betray my inner warrior and shall watch from the sidelines, she replied. Then they shifted towards Artoria, who despite the power gap was unable to defeat Kingu. The anti-divine nature of Kingu might be the only reason they was able to hold their ground against her. Artoria was starting to get annoyed. After all her greatest power, her own divinity was proving to be a burden against the foe in front of her. If it was her before ascending to godhood, then she would have ripped apart Kingu minutes ago, but seeing that her own status of being a divine spirit proved to be disadvantageous to her, she quickly stripped away all of her divinity, and gave it to Poseidon. The next moment the divinity from Poseidon surged as his spirit origin ascended to a higher rank, while Artoria's parameters weakened significantly and her divinity was reduced to F-. Seeing such a sudden change, Kingu's eyes glinted. In a way, the move of Artoria to give up on her divinity was smart, but it decreased her prowess by several times. Thus, even without the advantage of anti-divinity, he could win against her, far more easier than before. After all, he had the perfect A-rank parameter. Foolish, now die, said Artoria, knowing well of the Kingu's thought. He transfigured his hand to an axe, and then increasing his strength and speed to A+++, he flew rapidly towards her. Artoria simply teleported beside him and shot a powerful spell. Damn. Kingu thought as his copies vanished and his heart almost destroyed. He had sacrificed his endurance for the increased parameters. After all, he needed mana, strength, and speed to finish her. Unfortunately, his plan backfired and now he was at death's door. Artoria got ready to decimate him when he teleported away. Fuck, she said with anger, realizing her mistake. She was sure of her victory, and even after giving up her divinity, her strength was still reigned as a peak servant with the prowess of a magician. Thus, despite casting a spell that would teleport her along Kingu, the lack of mana and other enhancements strengthening it, Gorgon easily broke the spell, and she didn't have enough divinity to intervene in their teleportation. She failed, and by such a rookie mistake, shame filled her as her hands started trembling. Ishtar meanwhile breathed in relief and then looked at Artoria with slight fear. She is so strong even as mere servant, and her prowess as a goddess is no less than my father, she thought, realizing that Artoria's strength equaled to the king of a pantheon. It's over, muttered Skathack with disappointment. She didn't get to participate, and despite the mistake that Artoria committed, she didn't bother about it. After all, she could have made the same mistake. She isn't a perfect being after all, but she could see that Artoria felt greatly ashamed of herself. Poseidon teleported on the destroyed ground, and Artoria knelt before him in an instant. Her head lowered and she said with shame filled in her voice, My liege, I apologize, I was unable to fulfill your command. Poseidon just simply patted her head, making her feel warm in her heart. One might wonder why Poseidon's women had such exaggerated reactions. After all, Artoria was already wife of Poseidon, and the mistake she did was nothing big, but for Artoria she disappointed her love, she disappointed her liege, she disappointed her master, she disappointed her god. Artoria suddenly started panting heavily as her emotions exploded. Poseidon. 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 I love you. 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 Her thoughts started repeating in her mind. Poseidon grabbed her chin and then making her stand up he looked into her eyes. Artoria blushed profusely and opened her mouth knowing what is about to happen. Poseidon kissed her, his hand traced through her waist and then to her back. His tongue eloped with hers as they shared a passionate moment. Ishtar meanwhile blushed and covered her face, while peeking from the gap of her fingers. Her heart beat rapidly as she looked at their colliding tongue and Artoria's submissive look. Scathach looked at their kiss with a slight red hint on her face, as she got turned on. It was apparent she wanted Poseidon's attention. Jean meanwhile pouted with slight jealousy, not liking the fact that her lord Poseidon is sharing such a passionate moment with someone else. Still considering that Artoria was her new sister, she remained silent. Soon they were finished kissing, and Artoria leaned against Poseidon's chest while with a smile formed on her lips. Suddenly an extreme amount of divinity gushed into her, raising her status to a divine spirit, and she recovered her original parameters. I wonder if mommy did it to get attention from daddy, thought Amara, who had just appeared and looked at her mommy Artoria. Her eyes narrowed while a smirk appeared on her face. Well, she can't fool daddy, still just wait for me to become his favorite wife, she thought, then thinking about how she will take her revenge by keeping Poseidon by her side for weeks, she started laughing crazily in her mind. Do you want to get beaten, Amara? She paused and looked at Jalter, who was aware of her thoughts. Jalter really thought of Amara as her own daughter, since Poseidon claimed him her father, thus she had become aware of Amara's thought process, so she knew that Amara was making her plan to get revenge upon them. Amara meanwhile started sweating. She might be stronger than Jalter, but in the end she was the daughter, thus she could only submit before her mother's wrath. To be continued. Chapter 79, Clash of a Dragon Goddess and Godslayer. Third POV. The battle with the Kingu didn't last long. With 3 divinities each of high rank within their ranks, the victory was but meant to happen. The only significant enemy they had was Kingu, who was forced to flee after their clash with Artoria, the goddess of the end. It was no big surprise to Poseidon that Kingu, a being who was generally stronger than his single-class heroic spirit, was handled like a child before Artoria. Artoria's divinity itself was unique and special, making her capable of attacking targets from a different timeline altogether by peeling of the layers between 2 worlds, creating a passage that can propagate her attacks. Such an act completely outside the reach of other divinities, even the primordials. Rather, the fact that Kingu managed to flee was a bit surprising, but considering they had the help from Tiamat herself, it was still within Poseidon's anticipated range of possibility. Still, it reminded that even the gods in this world had lived only fraction of what he had lived. Poseidon was a being older than time itself. He had born before Big Bang happened itself. Like Zeus, while he might have been full of flaws, if one were to exclude his previous arrogance, then no one can compare him to real fight in an equal fight. Feints, moves, predicting enemies' next actions, he had learned a lot with his age, even if his power insignificant in this grand cosmos, and wanted her women to pick up these things as well. Now, he was relaxing in his chambers, his shoulder being massaged by Artoria while Jalter fed him fruits. He looked a king enjoying his life. Yahoo, it's me. Your beloved Mag Dash. Merlin, who invaded their privacy, became silent seeing the glare of Artoria. He smiled and then gulped his saliva. He had no idea of getting plummeted by Artoria. Last time she had smashed his balls with her legs, much to his horror. The pain lasted a few good minutes before his regeneration from being an incubus kicked in. Merlin changed his words and said, **I would like to meet great god of 7 seas, prostrate myself before the mighty ruler of heavens. This humble being would like to talk dash. He was interrupted by Poseidon. Shut up, stop buttering me and tell me what do you want. Merlin gulped, not liking the look Artoria and Jalter was giving him. Thankfully I am incubus. Otherwise I would have been completely traumatized by the beating I got, he thought, thanking his parents who God knows what identity they had. You see, there is a little fangirl you have, and she had the small request to see her idol, he said, and Poseidon's eyes shined. A small figure appeared behind Merlin who hid her face shyly. Cute, he thought, his mood brightened up by the cuteness radiating from the child version of Medusa. I am Anna, and I really am your big devotee, Lord Poseidon, she said, failing to tell her infatuation with him, choosing to rather regard herself as Poseidon's devotee. My lord's devotee, Jalter looked at Anna, and wondering who she was. Undoubtedly hailing from ancient Greece, you are none other than Medusa, right? Poseidon asked as he appeared beside her, surprising her. He opened her hoodie, revealing her cute face, and started patting her head. Cute, he thought, looking her blushing face as panic struck her. No need to panic, even if I am not the Poseidon who had gifted you the Pegasus. Fact remains that you had been gifted by another me, so for me to recognize you was easy, he said, and she nodded. He is so handsome and cool, she thought, stars appearing in her eyes as she looked at the figure whom she had admired since childhood. At beginning it rose from the crush her sisters held for Poseidon, later developing into gratitude when Poseidon gifted her with Pegasus when her life was at line. Unfortunately, she soon fell to become Gorgon, and in the end was killed by grandson of Zeus, Perseus. Just like Lily Medea, Anna too had the memories of her future self, and she couldn't even comprehend why her adult self changed so much. "So, Lord Poseidon, can I stay under your command?" she asked him, and he nodded, much to her happiness, while Merlin's eyebrows twitched, seeing how the girl that acted like a brat was now reeking with obedience. He shed a few tears before leaving the room. I remember the days when I used to be popular among kids," he said, expressing his sadness to the world. "Well, on this matter, I shall taste the sweet nectar of this fruit," he said joyfully, looking at the fruit he had just stolen. Phew, without any warning, Pho snatched it from his hand and gave him a cute smirk before running away. "Give me back the fruit that I risked my life to get," Merlin said angrily as he chased after the foe, making a scene in the royal castle of the Gilgamesh. "Mother dash," Kingu said in pain as he looked at the Gorgon, who ignored his pitiful state and said, "You disappointed me, Kingu." She looked at him with disappointment and shifted her focus away towards the brood of monsters. Kingu didn't care much about her. "I wonder how long it will take for Mother to be awake," he thought, looking at the Gorgon, who thought she had usurped the powers of Tiamat herself, not realizing she was but a pawn. Very soon, Kakik," she laughed creepily while Kingu gave her a deadpan look. "Pawns are sure amusing," he thought as he dragged his broken body towards the brood to absorb the vitality of some monsters to heal himself. A few hours later. "Oopsie, it seems I have stepped on someone by mistake," Quetzalcoatl joked as Ishtar, whose face was smashed on the ground, fumed. "How to dare dash?" She didn't got to say anything further as Quetzalcoatl smacked her out. Ishtar got to see her beautiful face, yet the creepy distortion formed on her mouth, as a proof of her being a dragon goddess. She punched her in the guts, and Ishtar was blown away in the sky like a rag doll. "Well, we can never have a moment of peace, can we?" Poseidon said as he appeared only to be attacked by Quetzalcoatl the next moment. Her leg hurtling towards him was completely stopped at it, struck by his hands. She punched him with his all might, only for Poseidon to dodge and punch her in the guts, causing a sonic boom as her figure was blown towards the sky. "Scat hack," he said as the purple-haired beauty appeared beside him, a bloodthirsty smile present on her face as she gazed at the Quetzalcoatl. He was having a nice chat with Anna when Quetzalcoatl out of nowhere dropped from the sky directly to his room. After that, rest was history. Their battle involved Anna, who wanted to show her might to mortals, and Poseidon, but in the end was played like a kid by Quetzalcoatl. "I want to battle with her," she demanded, and he nodded. The next moment her figure flew directly at the sky, breaking the sound barrier. Gi-Balg alternative appeared in her hand as she thrusted it at her. Both of them clashed above the city, causing everyone in the Babylon to hear sonic booms. Gilgamesh looked at the battle with an headache. King Siduri near him looked worried. "Leave it, they will handle it," he shrugged, leaving the responsibility to Skathak, who was more than happy to battle against a high god of a pantheon. Meanwhile, Ritsuka and his team weren't idle. They had evacuated the general area and even lessened the effects of aftermath. Meanwhile, Arjuna and Hector battled against the jaguar god. Poseidon used his divinity to teleport both of them a bit far lest they harm the city. Last thing he wanted was for Quetzalcoatl to accidentally wipe away entirety of Babylon by mistake. A high-ranking goddess, huh? Poseidon thought, amused as he looked at the raged Ishtar gliding like a broken kite towards the battle on her mana. He had a hard time holding back his laughter. Well, she is a pseudo-servant at the moment, so her full prowess can't be shown, but undoubtedly she is strong with her noble phantasm, suddenly the system said. And that power couldn't even kill or even hurt Tiamat properly, he replied as his narrowed, and he decided to see what were the limits of the noble phantasm that couldn't hurt Tiamat. It would give a narrow idea of what to expect from his future battle against the mother of all creation, and thus he quickly teleported to witness the battle with his own eyes. "You aren't half bad," Quetzalcoatl said as she avoided the relentless attacks of Skathak. Both were testing each other, especially Quetzalcoatl, who was more than joyful to test such a warrior of humanity, despite her abilities being bolstered by divinity she had acquired from Poseidon. She swung her Makana at Skathak, who deflected it using her spear. "What's the name of that weapon?" Skathak inquired, curious about the weapon. She had never seen such a weapon despite mastering many types of weapon. The reason she asked a question in the midst of a battle was simple. She had gasped the nature of the sun goddess in the midst of their clash, and as she had predicted, the dragon goddess gave a big sweet smile and replied, "Its name is Makana, and let me say it. Lucha Libra is the greatest." She boasted about her fighting arts shamelessly. Skathak meanwhile gave her a thanks and got ready for clash. Unfortunately they had to interrupt it as Ishtar flew above them. "That's it. I am blowing up, you bitch," she shouted, garnering their attention. Skathak frowned and Ishtar released her noble phantasm. "Fly, mana. Gate open. Hee, you should be honored. Behold my full strength." A spatial portal opened above the skies, and the concept of Venus started descending down. She quickly used her divine authority and loaded the concept as a bullet. Finally a purple haze appeared beside her mana as she shot it down towards Quetzalcoatl. The strike pierced through the air and shot at Quetzalcoatl, but the goddess simply swung her Makana acrobatically, and destroyed the attack. "Huh?" Ishtar couldn't help but scream in utter shock. Even if her noble phantasm weakened by her form, it still was an EX-ranking noble phantasm. She shot an entire concept on Quetzalcoatl, yet it was swung into nothingness by the dragon goddess. "As I said, Lucha Libra is the greatest," she said as she arrived near the Ishtar and punched her extreme hard on her head, shooting her away at a mountain, demolishing it away and knocking her out. "That was underwhelming," Poseidon said as he appeared beside her. Hee you want to disturb our battle as well? Quetzalcoatl asked with a glare, and he replied, first battle with her, she will go crazy anytime. She is used to holding back, you see. The goddess looked at Scathach, who flew towards them, breaking the sound barrier. She used no spells as she knew, only super magic or 10th tier magic was capable of hurting or killing Quetzalcoatl, and using them will only waste her mana. They clashed again, sending shockwaves throughout the place, clearing out the skies. They fought against each other for hours, neither them of showing any signs of exhaustion. Quetzalcoatl was a goddess with an EX rank divinity possessing threat to even Poseidon, while Scathach, even before, was an immortal being. She had infinite stamina, extreme healing powers, and rapid mana regeneration. Their battle continued, until their thirst was finally quenched, for now at least. Finally Quetzalcoatl decided to join the alliance between the Poseidon and Gilgamesh, bolstering up their forces, leaving the Gilgamesh have another iconic hearty laugh. Meanwhile Ishtar laid between the rubble of the mountain, unconscious. To be continued. Chapter 80, A Meeting. Poseidon POV. I looked at my status sheet, enjoying what I have gained so far. Status. Name, Poseidon. Race, God/Divine Spirit. Age, 13.9 billion years. Strength, A. Endurance, A. Agility, A+. Magical Energy, EX. Luck, N/A. Since Master is a singularity and free from time, space, and fate due to being the owner of the system, the chance is not applicable. NP, Noble Phantasm EX. Personal Skills. Transcendent Mana Heart, EX. Holy Attack Nullification, EX. Merciless, EX. Investigator, EX. Anti-Immortality Tuki, EX. Apostle Bestowal, EX. Divinity, A++. Water Battle God Aura, A. Mystic Eyes of Terror, A+. Amphitrite, Wrathful Wave C. Chione Tyro Demeter, Divine Lightning Falling into the Rough Sea B. Medusa Elope Demeter, 40 Days and 40 Nights Big Flood A. Flow, C. Water Slash, C. 100 Pieces Water Strike, B. Absolute Counter, A. Deprivation Sword Kingdom, A. Tier Magic, EX, up to 10th tier. Anti-Magic, A+. Silent Casting, EX, up to 10th tier. Multicasting, EX, can be used on any magic no matter its power as long as a user has appropriate mana and control. Maximized Magic, A++, up to 10th tier. Triplet Maximized Magic, C+, up to 4th tier. Super Tier Spells. Creation, A+. Fallen Down, A+. Shub-Niggurth, EX. Summoning of an Avatar of the God, EX. The End of the Time, EX. Dark Dream, A++. Megiddo God's Wrath, B. Water Fist Style, C. Noble Phantasm. World of Water, EX. Penetration, EX. Stravalos 2 Neru, A+. Current Class, Lancer. Undoubtedly it looked quite pleasing to eyes, the gamer inside me was screaming in joy of this spectacle, truly amusing. There was another good thing happened, which was meeting Anna, and well, she is too cute. I wonder if she reminds me of little sister, that's why I am affected too much, but well, I like her cheerfulness, and now she laid on my lap, happily swinging her legs. Lord Poseidon, it would seem that golden-haired guy demands your audience, Artoria said, as she entered the room and saw me pampering Anna. Slight jealousy flashed on her face before she hid it. So cute, despite being a MILF she isn't any less cute as well. Very well, let's visit him, I replied and patted Anna, who got off my lap, her face dropping a bit. We walked and reached to the meeting room, others were present as well. There were 3 groups who formed an alliance. First came my group with me as leader, and Jalter, Artoria, Scathach, Amara Jean, and newly joined Anna. Then came Gilgamesh's group, which consisted of him, Ritsuka's group under him, and the remaining of the servants he had summoned. They had been summoned to attend this meeting. Lastly came Quetzalcoatl's group, which only consisted of her and the Jaguar men. However, she was no small deal. She was the sole goddess here other than me to have her full prowess, and her divinity even surpassed mine, reaching EX rank. Gilgamesh smirked and said, "Good, with all of us present here we can commence the start of this meeting." "Wait a minute," Ishtar shouted angrily, and landed on the ground. "You all forgot about me, right? I had to sleep the entire night in middle of rubbles. How can you all do it to me?" she said as tears formed in her eyes. Gilgamesh held himself from laughing his heart out on misery while Quetzalcoatl commented, "Come on dear, sleeping among the nature isn't bad, rather it's a pleasant feeling." "You aren't making this any easier," she said, stomping her foot on the ground, creating visible cracks. "Please refrain from damaging my palace, otherwise you need to pay for reparations," Gilgamesh said shamelessly, and Ishtar surprisingly hugged me and burst into tears. "You bastard. It is all because of you. Sniff, I have been disgraced *********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** I sighed and glanced at Amara, who looked away. Undoubtedly it was her fault mostly. I decided to soothe this goddess. After all, she really had to bear a lot, and she wasn't the original bitch but rather the mixture of her and human, which was Rin summoned in this singularity. Her personality was very different from original Ishtar, otherwise the current Gilgamesh wouldn't have accepted to be in alliance with her. There, I said, ruffling her hair, and taking her into a proper hug. It would seem we really treated you bad. Forgive me for my negligence, but I had a lot of stuff going on, and I couldn't focus on you, I continued as I patted her back. She looked at me with tear-filled eyes, her face reminding me of an useless blue-haired goddess. She asked me in a nervous tone, "Sniff, can you promise me to not treat bad anymore?" "I will do my best to help you." I nodded with a smile and said, "Indeed, you shall get the respect you deserve for your efforts," and her mood became better. She broke the hug with a blush on her face. She pointed at me and said, "Good. Since we seem to have come to an agreement, I shall help you best of my abilities. Just remember what you said now." Her change in attitude left everyone stunned, and I just felt amused. TCH at Sundara, I was unable to stop myself from saying this. She blushed heavily and asked what that meant. I shrugged, and Gilgamesh laughed. "Ha ha ha, I like this gullible version of your compared to the haughty version of you," he said, and Ishtar glared at her. "Who the fuck asked you, bastard?" "Humph," she said, but quickly got on my side, showing that she belonged to my side, and insulting her would be same as insulting me, causing him to frown slightly. "Whatever, we shall return to our main topic, on who is our real enemy," he said, and a hologram lit up from Mash's shield. "Well, first I would like to explain about Three-Goddess Alliance. Although the Three-Goddess consisting of me, Ishtar and her were in a cooperative relationship, only her is the one who is attacking Babylonia with those demonic beasts created within a brood of her," Quetzalcoatl said, surpassing many. "Then this should be easy, right? We have so many servants on our side, and she is alone," Ritsuka inquired, and Mash nodded, his servants having the same line of thoughts. "Unfortunately it isn't simple, Ritsuka Fujimaru," Gilgamesh said, snapping his fingers. Da Vinci got the signal, being the universal genius, and a hologram of Gorgon appeared. "It's her, our enemy," Da Vinci said, and Anna beside me trembled, looking at the future her, one who fell from a goddess to a beast. "Should we have any fear?" "Our lineup is already an overkill," said Kyoheim, having picked up some modern terms. "Well, it would be, since she is but a pawn. Our real enemy is much stronger, grander, and terrifying," I spoke up, garnering everyone's attention. I used my magic to display a hologram of Tiamat, surprising everyone, the goddess of beginning, the mother of Genesis, the beast too of the humanity. "Tiamat," I said, causing shock to appear on Ishtar's face. "What? We will be fighting her," she shouted in disbelief. After all, Tiamat was the creator of all the gods of her mythology alongside her husband. "She is," Ritsuka like always was the most confused, having no knowledge of the Mesopotamia and its gods. "Well, Ritsuka she is like a big deal, I mean really big deal. You can consider her the mother of gods, or rather creator of all the gods in an entire mythological system. And her being beast, that's no way a good news," Romani said, shuddering. "Is being a beast big deal?" "I am a beast candidate, so she shouldn't be that strong," Amara said, surprising everyone. "What the fuck?" screamed several people. "You are a beast candidate?" asked Jalter with a frown, and she nodded. "Yes, though I lack the qualification of having some depraved form of love for insects called humanity. You. I won't want to become a beast. She looks ugly," she said, making my eyebrows twitch. After all, I considered Tiamat to be quite hot, except her beast form. Sigh, it would seem Greek genes inside me are quite strong, I thought, amused, and Gilgamesh laughed soundly. "Ha ha ha, amusing. Truly amusing. We have a beast candidate within our ranks, and a Grand Caster candidate. Future looks much promising now," he said with a big smile. Ritsuka and Mash being as confused as ever. "Well, Ritsuka, Mash, I will explain about them later on. For now focus on meeting," Romani said, and they nodded. Undoubtedly as a former Grand Caster he knew it about very well. "Daddy. Leave it to me. I will prove that I am a much better beast," Amara said, puffing her chest, causing Scathacka's hand to land on her forehead. "Ouch," she cried in pain, and Scathack said with a deadpan look, "Stop boasting about yourself, it's serious," Scathack said, and Amara nodded fearfully. "Truly a beast," I nodded to myself. "We first need to finish this pawn, who calls herself a goddess, and then battle against her," Quetzalcoatl said, and suddenly Leonidas said, "Sorry for interrupting, but I can realize that face anywhere. The third goddess is undoubtedly the monster that once threatened the entirety of Greece, the Gorgon." His words further surprised them. "It should be not possible, she is a goddess," Hector said, and I said, "Holy Grail was used on her to make her regain her divinity. On top of that, she is connected to Tiamat and can use a very small portion of her powers. One of which being ability to create these demonic beasts, but since she isn't real Tiamat she needs a medium, and it is human flesh." Ritsuka's team gasped, and even Ishtar was a bit surprised. "I don't get what is really going, it is so confusing," Amara said with a grunt, and I snapped. Another figure appeared as hologram. "They are the main reason for this advent," I said, causing Gilgamesh to grunt. Siduri meanwhile looked at the figure of Enkidu shocked. Solomon, the king of mages, used Holy Grail to bring forth Tiamat from her slumber and break free her from the shackles of the world of imaginary numbers. The mage Merlin summoned forth in this era by Gilgamesh made her fall in a slumber to stop her advent. They glanced at the Merlin as I said those words, though their faces turned weird seeing the scratch marks on his face. What's with those scratch marks, Merlin? Don't tell me you were fooling around with some women again, Artoria inquired, and Merlin's eyelids twitched. Cough, I plead. I am innocent, not to mention it would have healed by now if that was the case, he said. He glanced at Phew resting within Masha's arms with twitching eyes. You are saying this funny joker has the capability to pull that off? Amara questioned, and Merlin's eyelids started twitching furiously. It would seem he is destined to become the object of torture of beasts. I might be not a strong attacker, but I am a very much qualified supporter. Their attention once returned to me, I continued. Unfortunately Tiamat by then had used the Holy Grail on Enkidu's dead body, reviving him in a sense. The current Enkidu has a different soul, who believes they to be Tiamat's child, and they helped Gorgon to regain her divinity, and now wait patiently for their mother's return, various reactions appearing on everyone's faces. Lord Poseidon, does that means if we were to finish them, we can prevent Mother Tiamat's descent? Jean beside me inquired, and I shook my head, disappointing everyone, except the Gilgamesh and Merlin. You are calling her mother? Jalter asked her with a frown, and Jean nodded happily. Indeed, no matter how her current state may be, I can see she is a very loving mother, she replied. Jalter decided to not talk with her any further. Jean's common sense was different after all. But I agree with her statement. Tiamat is a wonderful mother, though a depraved one. Ha ha ha. Good. With this much information we can start our battle plans. Ha ha ha. Ah ha ha ha, Gilgamesh said, and suddenly his laughter stopped. I frowned as other gods present as well. We looked at Gilgamesh, who suddenly collapsed at the ground. King, Siduri ran to him and checked his pulse, and much to her horror she realized a terrifying truth. King Gilgamesh is dead, she said, and the silence reigned in the room. I decided to activate Investigator despite knowing what had probably happened, and well, as I thought the same thing had happened, though this time, he died laughing. To be continued. Chapter 81, Ereshkigal, the goddess of underworld. Poseidon POV. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, a laughter rang out, with Ishtar rolling on the ground. Bastard died laughing. He never saw this coming, did he? Ha 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 ha, Ishtar said, very amused with both King Gilgamesh's death and the way he died. Meanwhile Ritsuka's group panicked, and I asked Siduri, when was the last time he slept? The woman became stunned and she looked at me confused. Maybe yesterday. No, maybe last week. No, maybe a month ago. Yes. Last time I saw him sleeping was a month ago, she answered, and everyone became silent, of course except one who was having full fun of the situation. Ha 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 ha. I will save this moment in my memory. Ha 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 ha, said Ishtar, rolling on the ground, garnering disgust of many people. Seeing the look of people, Ishtar glanced at annoyed Amara, and quickly said, don't worry too much. That guy has a habit of going underworld back and forth. He should be revived by the next day's dawn, probably. She looked away nervously, obviously doubtful of her own words. It won't be easy this time though. Previously gods needed him so they tolerated his behavior, but with Age of Gods near the end they won't help him even if they can, and it depends on the decision of the goddess of underworld, Merlin added. Precisely, that's why someone needs to go underworld and get him back, Quetzalcoatl said, and the Jalter quickly came forward and knelt. Lord, give me your orders, I will get that golden-haired ***, I mean Gilgamesh alive and kicking, she said, correcting the way she called him. Yes, just order us, my liege, Artoria chimed in, and I said, well, I will be visiting the underworld then as well. Scathack, Jean, and Amara, you three stay here. Meanwhile Artoria, me, Jalter and Ishtar will get his soul. What? I want to come as well. Daddy please, Amara pleaded as she grabbed my arm between her breasts. I sighed and patted her head. Amara, be a good girl and stay here. Out of everyone here you are the only one who can keep this place safe if things go wrong, I said, and looked at Quetzalcoatl, who gave me a teehee and looked away, knowing well she had been exposed. Her Mac-Ena is an EX rank noble phantasm, and it can nullify any attack once in a year. I came to learn about this secret ability of that weapon due to the courtesy of my unique skill Investigator. In simple words, to prove her words of Lucha Libre being the greatest, she unleashed a decisive move against Ishtar's attack, which while couldn't kill the Tiamat, was enough to destroy her weaker form of femme fatale. Very well. I shall not disappoint you, Daddy, Amara said, very pleased with my praise, and Scathack rolled her eyes at her antics. She was childish, but I liked it. I liked my childish daughter Amara, she was just too cute. Lord Poseidon, please come back quickly, Anna said as she tugged my cloth, and I nodded, patting her head, and she melted with bliss. Do not worry, it won't take much time, I said, and looked at Ishtar, who looked at me hesitantly, not keen on the idea of visiting Underworld where her twin sister, Ereshkigal, resided. If I were to visit Underworld, I might rather make your situation worse. You see, me and my sister aren't on the best of terms, she said, fidgeting her fingers. I looked at her annoyed. Listen here, there is no need to be scared. We will be going with you, and each one of us is more than capable to handle us, I said, and she nodded, realizing what I said was true. Considering how Amara could actually kill her, it was very correct. In fate, gods lived in a higher dimension, so they possessed the similar type of immortality that heroic spirits possessed, but not to mention Amara, even Artoria due to her powers can kill any being, or at least version of it permanently. Finally, we left for the underworld. After reaching quite a distance from the Babylonia, Ishtar destroyed a part of the ground deep enough to create a path between the mortal world and underworld. Once we reached inside her, the body of Ishtar started shrinking. Damn it, she said as she became a chibi version. Haha, you look quite funny in this form, chibi goddess, Jalter said as she flicked her fingers at her, making her fly away. I don't like this, she protested, and I grabbed her. Enough of the banter, everyone. First let's find out Gilgamesh and then we shall meet Ereshkigal, I said, and she nodded, not minding my grip, knowing well I was actually the most reliable out of everyone here. I left the hold of her, and then used a spell to locate Gilgamesh. Third POV. So I have come to underworld again, Gilgamesh said as he looked around, then he erupted in a laughter. This time I died while standing as well. Ha 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 ha, he said and then paused. Damn it. I don't have time for such things. I need to return to world of living quickly. He stood up and quickly started walking. He had visited underworld quite a few times, so he wasn't unaware of paths. Gilgamesh looked at the beings approaching him and smile appeared on his face. Haha. To think you would miss this king's radiance so much. That you will descend to underworld the very next moment, he said, and Artoria looked at him with a disgust. You, who the heck missed your radiance? I am just obeying the will of my lord, and well, how was it? This time you died laughing, Ishtar mocked him. He grunted and said, it doesn't matters, I died because on top of not sleeping properly for past 1 month, Ereshkigal is sucking souls from Babylon. If not for my lack of sleep she wouldn't have pulled my soul that easily. A smug expression appeared on Ishtar's face as she said, really? For all I know you died because of laughing too hard, and you can't change it. Gilgamesh decided to ignore her, though he knew she had got him. But well, I guess dying of laughter isn't bad all things considered, he thought, and Poseidon said, it's time we meet Ereshkigal. Gilgamesh just nodded. Jalter meanwhile asked telepathically, my lord, is getting that goddess on our team really that important? Even if we don't have her, we still have quite a number of powerful servants. It isn't simple, Jalter. Tiamat is mother of life, and she wields the laws of the world at a terrifying degree, with an ability to alter the very laws of the world itself. The best place to fight her is undoubtedly in a world that will reject her very existence or rather weaken her. She is on a whole another level, thus even with our current prowess it is wrong to say we can surely kill her, he replied, and both of them understood it. Poseidon could have well revived Gilgamesh using his magic, but instead decided to venture into the underworld to ally with Ereshkigal, one of the beings that could be game changer in their entire fight. Protagonist aka Ritsuka Fujimaru is supposed to be lucky as hell, but with his existence his so-called luck is already pretty much in dust, and the chances of Beast 2 winning is higher than ever. Thus, they made their ways to a checkpoint, and then next moment Artoria pierced through it using Rangaminiad. It's done, my liege, she said, coming beside him, and then they continued, and destroyed all the obstacles that came on their path. Finally, they reached her palace and they were greeted by the wrath of the goddess of the underworld. You insolent beings, a huge skeleton appeared in front of them as her red eyes glared at them. How dare you trespass the underworld, she said, and Gilgamesh floated above them and then came a bit far. Who Ereshkigal? We are here to talk, Ishtar said, wanting to discuss with her, but it only fueled the anger of Ereshkigal. Vanish. You impudent sister of my own, she said. A huge golden lance appeared in her hand. The entire underworld trembled as if responding to her anger. She willed it, and several chunks of rock separated from the underworld and shot at the supersonic speed, but Poseidon simply walked forward and shrugged his arm at each of the striking rock, smashing them into pieces. Dozens of light covered his body as he casted one spell after another silently. Jalter charged at her, breaking the sound barrier, her flag tightly held in her fingers. She swung it at her, who blocked it using her own spear. Gilgamesh floated as dozens of golden portals appeared behind him, and a few weapons came out of those portals and struck at her supersonic speed. Ugh, she screamed as Jalter teared her limb off due to her attempt to block the invading projectiles. Ereshkigal, I am the Lord of the Seven Seas, Poseidon, and hereby I request you to grant us an audience. We do not wish you any harm, so cease your attack. Not to mention you should know better than anyone, you do not stand any chance against us, Poseidon said as he summoned his trident in his hand. Ha ha ha. Tell me. Tell me, she screamed, her amputated bony hand regenerating rapidly, her eyes turned blue as they burned with flames. Look around yourself. Desolate. Barren. Silent. Dark. That's the underworld. That's the place I have been given the reign for my freedom to ever this place snatched. The ones who decided were gods like you, I can see it. God from another land, you must be one of the rulers of your pantheon, standing above all the divine, deciding the life of countless on your whims, she said and then paused. Her spear made of golden light turned red. My life was decided the moment I was born, trapped within this place called underworld, my only companion being the souls that I can't even understand. For thousands of years, I have been living in this place, dying to see the flowers that she can see, she said as she pointed at Chibi Ishtar. She was given all the glory. All the riches. She could trample upon the lives of countless as she pleased, while I remained trapped here, dying to just see flowers that even lowest of beings walking above in the land of living could see, touch, and feel as they pleased, she said as the entire underworld quaked. Her figure floated a bit higher. But, this is my destiny, my duty. And I shall fulfill it wholeheartedly, for losing the chance of ever seeing living, the underworld had been granted to me. Even gods who decided my destiny can't do so within this land. So you who defiled these lands. Die, she said throwing her spear, and Artoria came in front of Poseidon and stopped her attack. Poseidon sighed, you do not make any sense, Ereshkigal, he said angering her further, answer my call, Meslamtia. Know the blessing of Kor. Appear, O scorching shrine. This is Kor Ki Galir Kala, she said unleashing her noble phantasm, she summoned her spear back and started rotating it above her, thunder cracked around her. The souls trembled seeing her divine wrath. Rangaminiad, muttered Artoria as her lance pierced through the attack of Ereshkigal, peeling the layers of the world, creating a gap within the underworld connecting to the world of living. The underworld stopped quaking as Ereshkigal fell from the big bony body. A blush formed all over the face as she looked at them embarrassed. Ereshkigal Ishtar tried to speak but Ereshkigal shouted, shut up. You all are the same. Same as them. Suddenly Poseidon approached her and slapped her. She looked at him again to find him glaring at her. Will you be quiet for a moment? We didn't want it to fight you. If we had, you would have been dead, he said. She became silent knowing it was the truth. She shared Ishtar's memories and thus she knew these gods were more than capable of killing her. That's why she decided to take souls of humans silently from Babylon. It was but a coincidence that Gilgamesh was pulled into, or rather he truly died. She didn't join the three goddess alliance as the original, but rather decided to stay low and silently observe till she could save the humanity by storing all their souls in underworld. Also, you are indeed right. I am a god that can decide the lives of countless, and I am more than willing to use these powers. I don't care about anything else other than me, my lovers, my daughter and my goals. I can doom the entire humanity if it is for any of those, he said as he grabbed her neck and lifted her. She choked as he glared at her. Right now, my goal is to save humanity from the extermination, and I need your help in it. If you are so weak that you can't disobey those gods, I will damn them. I will slaughter them if you so desire, but in return I demand your help, and if you are not willing, then we will leave. As long as you don't intervene in my affairs, you can do whatever, he said. Her face was covered with a blush and Poseidon left the hold of her neck, causing her to fall down. She looked at him with moist eyes. Tell me your decision, now, he said. She shuddered seeing his cold face. So scary. She thought, but then she pondered about his words. He will kill those gods if I want. She thought and blush spread all over her face. That's so romantic. She further thought, when she manifested at first, she had dreamed of having an romantic encounter with a man who will accept her for who she is. Unfortunately, she couldn't leave Underworld and could only search through Ishtar's memories, and he is the only person that came closest to it, but knowing he was a god, same as others, she decided to discard the notion of it. But now I look, isn't he charming? She thought and looked at him. His face wasn't cold anymore, though she could see annoyance on his face. Don't tell me he realized my feelings. She thought, her blush deepening, and she then sighed. No, forgive me for my outburst. Truth to be said, I was annoyed and just wanted an outlet for all my grievances, she said standing up. If there is anything that I want, it will be but to preserve humanity. But, I would selfishly take up your offer. Can I just once see the land of living? That's all I desire, and I shall assist you in return, she said trying to look majestic, but her blush on her face gave away. Great, master finally calmed down this sister of mine. Ishtar thought, then frowned thinking there was something wrong that she couldn't put up a finger on it. Unknown to her, she was being converted in a very subtle way. Chapter 82, Army of Summons. Poseidon POV. We returned triumphant from our visit from the underworld, with the likes of Ereshkigal added in alliance. It made all of us much powerful. Ereshkigal was a powerful asset for my plans, unlike the other gods who couldn't descend in the mortal world, and even if they were to descend, whether they will help humanity or will be strong enough to play an important role was another issue. Our current alliance held strong divines like me, Artoria, Amara, Quetzalcoatl, Ereshkigal and even Ishtar. Each one of us being a top divine spirit, capable of leading an entire pantheon by own, thus the help of the Babylonian gods, even their god-kings were of no need, they couldn't do more than we could do anyway. Now, we all have gathered on the royal hall, a visible tension present in the room. For obviously no other reason than the fact that Tiamat was soon going to woke up from her sleep. A flood of dark mud has struck the coastal areas turning all humans to llamas, and had started attacking the nearby towns and villages. Ritsuka's group which consisted of huge servants, and servants under Gilgamesh and Jaguarman went to those cities to rescue people. Even Jean and Scathach have went to save them, former obviously retaining her kind nature and latter simply wanted to do so. I sighed as I felt the rising aura. I knew it won't be her full strength at most, a fraction of true prowess, yet knowing how formidable she might be, she made me tremble with excitement. I wanted to fight with her, defeat her, rip her apart, show her who was the stronger here. After a long time would I engage in a fight where I could actually lose, despite the opponent being highly weakened or restrained. I could feel my heartbeat rising and barely contained myself from smiling. The others had no such expression as me, especially Gilgamesh, who had a solemn expression on his face. "Master, you told us she would only awaken when that Gorgon bitch will die, so to say, is that bitch dead?" Suddenly Ishtar asked me. I looked at her, and others as well, as if looking at an idiot. "What? Why are you all looking at me like that? Stop with that grin, bastard," she shouted as she glared at Gilgamesh, by whose right Siduri stood. "Ishtar," I spoke, garnering her attention. She snorted and shifted her focus on me. "Kingu has killed Gorgon himself, as the being who had the magical energy of the Holy Grail and anti-divine properties. Gorgon, whose main prowess was her divinity, fell before him. As for why he acted in such a rush, it is obvious," I said. Anna on my side looked a little lost hearing me confirming Gorgon's death. The reason she was summoned in this singularity was to stop her adult version, yet the latter died in anticlimactic way. I patted her, sensing her emotions, and she leaned on my hand to enjoy my head pats. It soothed her emotions, and I smiled seeing her expression of bliss. She is really cute. Suddenly, a wave of rush throughout the singularity. We all froze for a moment before moving. I summoned my trident in my hand, Jalter, Artoria, and Amara following beside me. It was obvious what had happened. "She has returned," spoke Jalter, trembling slightly. Her senses must have warned her about the sheer might of the beast. A bloodthirsty smile formed on my face, contrary to everyone's expressions. Although Tiamat hasn't fully descended, she has indeed returned to singularity from the sea of imaginary numbers in her femme fatale form. Her current form already was worthy of being a god queen. I have already decided to face her directly. I teleported to the direction of the observatory. Her attack was going to be totally in the opposite direction of the demonic front, where there was no barriers, but only the sea. Huge amounts of mana gushed out of me, making the entire singularity quake. My thoughts accelerated 1,000 times to my normal speed. I aimed at Uruk City, and started silent casting, triplet maximized magic summon 3rd tier angel, and then I started repeating the chant over and over at an inhumane speed. Under a few seconds, thousands of angel flames had covered the streets and skies of the Uruk, each one as strong as 4th tier angel. They were meant to protect the people of Uruk. There was a reason I chose the 3rd tier angel flames, firstly because they needed low amount of mana to be summoned, and they were combat focused. I summoned this small army capable of killing thousands of llamas every minute was to prevent the humans of Uruk dropping dead. In a sense, I had taken the duty of protecting them, thus it would be annoying to me if only few humans survived, as it was destined. The destiny was meant to be changed when Ritsuka and his group intervened. The future foreseen by Gilgamesh was altered for only him to a dozen of people surviving. It would only be fitting of my prowess if thousands of humans were to survive under the threat of llamas. I quickly ordered all the angels to protect the horde of humans against the threats and follow them if they were to move. This was just a measure to ensure more humans survived than Gilgamesh accepted, and I quickly started summoning the army that would take Tiamat head on. I began with the first chant, silent chant, triplet maximized magic summon 4th tier angels, and I spammed it, and in a few minutes the entire place below me was covered with tens of thousands of 4th tier angels possessing the strength of 5th tier angel, each one stronger than any Lamu. But they were but support, and a means to kill stray which were to escape under the massacre of main summons. I quickly began second silent chant spree, triplet maximized magic summon 5th tier undead, and soon tens of thousands of heavy skeleton warriors formed a line facing towards the sea. Then I began with the third silent chanting spree, triplet maximized magic summon 6th tier undead, and then again in a few seconds 1,000-strong army of mid-tier undead was below me. Then I began with the fourth silent chanting spree, triplet maximized magic summon 7th tier angel, and soon the place was brimming with 1,500 Dominion authorities. This was the lineup of the soldiers of the army. Now what I needed were the heavy damage dealers, beings which could rip apart the army of llamas with ease. I grinned before chanting, I haven't summoned these beings yet, and it would be first me to summon them. They were elementals, beings which could be designated as high-ranking fairies. Triplet maximized magic summon primal air elemental. I silent chanted and then repeated it a few times till there were 15 primal air elements hovering in the air. Their face was made of silver and their entire body being swirls of air except hands which were made of silver as well. They could manipulate the air itself and can shred apart the airborne llamas and give them a good surprise. Triplet maximized magic summon primal fire elemental. I silent chanted the next type of elementals till there were again 15 in number. They floated slightly above the ground below them. They had a wolf-like red face and upper body consisting of chest, hands, and big claws. It seemed to be made of solid flames itself. They could turn those llamas into ashes with relative ease. Triplet maximized magic summon primal earth elemental. Again with silent chants I summoned 15 of earth elementals. They were different from the first two, with having an entire body made of stone and bronze. They had 4 limbs and walked on the earth. Although they seemed to be made of weak materials, their sheer hardness surpassed of that of diamonds. Triplet maximized magic summon primal water elemental. I repeated the silent chants till their number reached 15 as well. The water elementals had a lizard-like face made up of blue gems, their upper body was covered with armor made of blue gems, while their lower water was completely made up of water. They floated on the air, with their hands having ice claws. Now came the final type of elemental. It was most special of all, and I was quite excited about it. Triplet maximized magic summon primal star elemental. I chanted and saw 3 primal star elementals appear. They hovered in the air. They were most unique looking, having a purple-colored feminine face, with long hair that seemed to shimmer with stars. Their upper body had a feminine build, with small breasts, thin hands, and long fingers with black nails. Their lower body on the other hand seemed to made up of some unknown fluid. It was full of shimmering dots as if they were stars. I whistled seeing them, amused of their build, looks, and their powers. They could harness the powers of solar, lunar, and stellar. They had quite the unique spells, which I decided to learn later on. By this time more than 2/3 of my mana had been used up, but I had no plans to stop. A large number of magic circles surrounded me as I formed one magic circle after another, joining them together, superimposing them, and weaving a spell. Pandemonium, I said the name of the super tier spell and a huge light flashed as 6 demonic monsters, each of various sizes and shapes appeared. This spell could summon 6 level 80 demonic monsters, which puts each of them into the same level as any average high-level heroic spirit. Then I chanted it again, building up the numbers up to 12, and then I shifted to another super tier spell, Pantheon, I said, and 6 cherubim gatekeepers appeared. Against the likes of llamas, they would prove to be more effective than demonic monsters, so I used the super tier spell 2 times more, summoning up to 18 cherubim gatekeepers. I took a deep breath, ready to use the final chant when Artoria appeared beside me. My liege, you should have let me summon them. I can feel it that you have used up an enormous amount of your mana. Please fill it up with mine, she said, her voice laced with a slight concern. No need. I dismissed her suggestion, and then I said, return to the hall, we will have a final meeting together. Before we begin our attack on her, she nodded and teleported away. Meanwhile I started weaving the last super tier spell, summoning of an avatar of the god, I said, and a bright light flashed in front of me. The figure that I had met in the previous singularity was once more present before me. It was an humanoid being, with 4 pairs of wings behind it. It had long wavy blonde hair, completely white eyes, a white robe covering his body, luminous white light clad on him. He was someone who could use 10th tier spell that could surpass the attacks of average super tier spells. He knelt before me, showing me his fealty. His voice sounded, give me your orders, m'lord. It sounded robotic, completely devoid of any emotion. Despite possessing any intelligence, he or she was an emotionless being, one that would disappear with due to time. I smirked, seeing the army I had summoned. It would be amusing to watch her see her so-called new humans being ripped apart before her eyes, I thought. Third POV. You gotta be kidding me, said the normally silent Ritsuka Fujimaru, seeing the formation of the army of Poseidon summons in front of him. They gulped, looking at the formation, which was completely capable of annihilating them. This is fucking crazy, said Merlin as he looked at the summons. He understood very well who had summoned it, and thus he felt even more crazy. He knows an completely unknown system of magic. Not magecraft but magic. These summons are unique, none of them being present in any of the timelines I had spied before. They also look weird and give a weird feeling, as if the reality had been twisted with mana to birth them, and just how humongous his mana supply is. He is a freak. Bona fide freak. Just like that Amaterasu. Michael. And those other beasts. Merlin thought as he gulped his saliva. The army of summons which were silently staying on their place suddenly moved, surprising the servants. They quickly formed passages to allow the refugees to pass through them, and seeing that Ritsuka took charge, everyone. Go towards the Uruk, he shouted, and people who heard him hesitated for a bit before moving. Senpai. T.S., it is dash, Mash stuttered as she tried to find the right words to describe the scenario in front of her. This is mind-blowing, isn't it? Da Vinci said from the comms. A holographic screen showing her and Romani appeared in front of them. Mind-blowing, you say? This is fucking insane, Hector grunted as he observed each summon. What he did is equivalent to creating an entire mid-sized pantheon of his own. The army in front of you is no different than having hundreds of divine spirits fight for you, said Romani as he wiped his sweat. The entire Chaldean staff looked at the miracle in front of them in silence. He is too strong, and now we are going to fight an enemy that is stronger than him, said Kyoheim, making all of them shudder. Whatever the case might be, master. I, Arjuna, son of Pandu, going to shoot down your enemies with my all might, Arjuna said. It was not like he didn't fear the enemy he was about to face, but someone in the past had already taught him lessons about it, and even if the enemy was someone as strong as him, he was not going to be a coward and face him. Yes. Husband. Don't worry. I will fight with you till end as well, Kyoheim said as she hugged Ritsuka's arm. Hector grunted and said, Kid, I am with you as well. In worst case I will be sent back to Throne of Heroes to rot for how many years God knows till I am summoned again. Hearing their words, Ritsuka became emotional and nodded. Let's go, I have received a message from the King Gilgamesh. We will have a final meeting before we begin our assault on Tiamat, said Merlin as he looked at them and smiled, though worry etched on his face. The involvement of Poseidon is sure to make unexpected developments. I hope it is for the better, otherwise I would have to somehow summon the grand servants. Even at a high cost, Merlin thought. All of them headed towards the royal hall. After the last of the refugees reached within the walls of Uruk, the city walls were closed after they entered while the army of Poseidon returned to their original position waiting for their master's orders. Skathak and Jean, who had returned shortly after them, were impressed with Poseidon's summons as well. He is using all his cards, isn't he? Skathak said as she looked at the strongest summon, Son of God, and she could feel that he could defeat her. Of course, it was only a probability, but Poseidon managed to summon something strong like him. Her. Baffled her. Lord Poseidon is amazing, said Jean while giggling. They quickly left for the castle next moment. To be continued. Chapter 83, Tiamat Unleashed. Poseidon POV. We looked at the holographic image of the Tiamat projected from Masha's shield. It not only displayed her image, but also her parameters, which were already insane. However, it didn't mean that she couldn't be destroyed. Of course I knew it was because it was her femme fatale form. In simple words, a weaker form of her weaker version. It isn't as high as we expected, right? Ritsuka broke the silence, and his servants nodded. A single shot of my noble phantasm will be enough to get rid of her, said Ishtar as she puffed her chest with haughtiness. It isn't that simple, I said, breaking their dreams, and continued, it is her weaker form, or a duplicate. Once we kill it, will her real self would descend. It is her weaker form, some servants shouted, and Gilgamesh nodded. Indeed, that should be the case, as in my first vision she destroyed the entirety of Babylon, and if it was to be her actual strength, then that should have been impossible, not to mention other servants. I alone would have been enough for her, he said with a hint of pride. But you aren't, said Ishtar with a grin, and Gilgamesh's smile fell. He glared at Ishtar, who looked away. In my eyes they looked like typical brother-sister bantering with each other, which was actually ironic. Anyway, Dr. Da Vinci, any plan we can use? Asked Hector, and the two hesitated. There is no need for a new plan, we already have one, I suddenly said, garnering everyone's attention. We will destroy her femme fatale form as quick as possible, so that her real body could descend as far as possible from the city, and then we launch in full-powered assault, I said, and my wives and daughter nodded, Anna as well. This plan is too crude to deal with her, said Merlin, only to receive glares from my side. He laughed wryly, and I said, there is an addition to the plan as well. I snapped my fingers and a holographic projection appeared. On the screen everyone could see Ereshkigal, who suddenly blushed on finding that we were looking at her. Lo, Lord Poseidon, she said, blushing slightly, and others looked at her. Sister, Ishtar said, only to receive a glare from the goddess of the underworld. Once unleashed, Tiamat's prowess will be off the charts. You can expect her every parameters except her agility to be above, most likely 2 of her to be EX. At her beast authorities and personal skills, you will get a monster, I said, making everyone except a few gulp their saliva. Indeed, defeating Mother of all creation isn't going to be an easy task. It won't be wrong to say it is nearly impossible to defeat her. There is where she comes in the plan, I said, pointing at Ereshkigal, who blushed seeing everyone's attention on her. She took a deep breath, and then confidence appeared on her face, and she looked at everyone on her side of projection of us. In Underworld, whether are you king of men or god of gods, you are equal before me. Even my father, when if we're to fight in Underworld, considering that Underworld and mortal world are still physically connected, as long as you can create a gap on the ground and let her fall, she would fall under my authority, she said, her demeanor completely changed. Everyone sighed in relief on hearing her. It still won't be easy, I said, and saw Ritsuka and his servants barely holding themselves from saying, what now happened? Or something along the lines. I nodded to myself, satisfied that they have long understood to not interrupt me, and I said, her skill can let her create a new world that could overwrite the present one, but it takes time. So to say, in Underworld we could only get her weakened enough to actually kill her. In a battle of attrition we would lose. I could see despair appear on their faces, realizing how hard it would be to kill Tiamat. While I was amused, is there anything else? Asked Gilgamesh, and I shook my head. Then he looked at us and said, that's it. We have made our plan. Siduri, he looked at his attendant and said, I want you to evacuate all the people of Uruk to the demonic frontier. Then he looked at his servant and said, Ushawakamaru. Leonidas. I want you both to assist the evacuation and protect the people, deal with any llama that the summons can't take care of. Both of them knelt and replied, as you command. Quetzalcoatl smiled and said, Jaguar, you are to assist them. The Jaguarman looked at her master confused. Budash, a single look from Dragon Goddess, which was blooming with her smile, was enough to earn a reply. Yes, ma'am. I looked at Anna, and rubbing her head I said, Anna, you go and join them. She looked at me with reluctance hearing my words, but I want to fight as well, she retorted, and I said, you help with evacuation. Once finished you can join us, and she nodded. All of us three knew that these servants could hardly play a part against the mother of creation, thus it was better for them to assist in the evacuation. Not to mention, even if my summons were huge in number, they were only equivalent to higher end of weaker servants. Thus they might not be able to deal with stronger llamas that easily. Now, it means Poseidon and his subordinates, Quetzalcoatl and Ritsuka Fujimaru and his servants will engage in the direct battle with the Tiamat. Hey! What about you? Asked Ishtar, and Gilgamesh said simply, there are cannons on the wall of city, they are connected directly with my treasury. In simple words, it is a noble phantasm that I have made, thus I will command the evacuation and also wait for the Tiamat to come. I can also launch my noble phantasm from far away if required. A noble phantasm that launches other noble phantasm, said Ritsuka with a bit of surprise, and Merlin nodded sagely and said, using noble phantasms as projectiles is the favorite of the king of the heroes. He even made a second noble phantasm, only the range differs. Gilgamesh clicked his tongue and said, Merlin, you are to fight in the front lines. As a great caster candidate, your abilities will be required. Merlin's face became pale as he heard his order, and seeing the smirk on Gilgamesh's face he knew he fucked up. Whatever, she had begun approaching, we will begin our assault, I said, and Skathak said, finally, I will be able to fight a strong opponent. Even others were excited. Humph. I will show that I am the stronger beast, Amara said. Finally the battle had begun. I quickly teleported all of us to the shore in the air, where Ritsuka and his servants became dumbfounded seeing the dense crowd of llamas. My mana had recovered long ago due to the courtesy of my transcendent mana heart. I had to fasten my heartbeat to a few thousand per minute though. Triplet maximized nuclear blast, I said, and shot a few magical balls at them, which when got on the ground released a nuclear blast engulfing everything within them, annihilating thousands of the diamond-hard llamas. Ritsuka and his servants looked at my attack speechlessly, which was equivalent to AA rank noble phantasm. Well, now that I think, what will others do who can't fly? Asked Ritsuka as he still floated on the air due to my courtesy. Mash, Hector, and Kyoheim became silent, realizing the severity of the situation. Master, you want to give me you a ride? Asked Arjuna, and Ritsuka looked at him awkwardly. Quetzalcoatl suddenly whistled and a few of her flying mounts suddenly came flying. Hop on them, she said, and Ritsuka and others hopped on it. Is it done? I asked Ishtar, who was gathering mana from around her. Yes, then she began her chant, gate open. I'm counting on you from the heavens, to the earth. Jabal Hamrin Breaker. She unleashed her noble phantasm, loading the very concept of Venus as a bullet and shot and Tiamat, who roared seeing it. Boom. A huge blast shook the sea and vaporized all the water near her, revealing the seabed underneath. The waves ebbed and filled the gaps. Suddenly the entire singularity shook as a bigger Tiamat came from underneath the sea. She is finally here, Quetzalcoatl said as her smile deformed, revealing her draconic teeth. A bloodthirsty smile appeared on my face. Can I go first? Asked Jalter as she looked at Tiamat with desire to destroy her. I nodded, and Skathak alongside her launched their attacks on her. Waves of spells flew at her, destroying all the llamas, while she remained unscathed. Quetzalcoatl too launched an attack on her. It would be best if we can defeat her right now, said Artoria as she came beside me, and I said, indeed, but it is fruitless. Their attacks at most will only slow her. I didn't stop them from attacking as I knew it would be useless. They wanted to fight her despite the difference in their prowess, even I was same as them. So I let Skathak and Jalter fight her. Angig. Suddenly Tiamat screeched as she received the attacks. Out of nowhere a few orbs of light manifested around her and shot beams at Skathak, Jalter, and us. I quickly manifested a barrier around us, dispersing her attack. Though my eyes now narrowed, because she had never done such an attack in anime or manga. It wasn't a mere difference from a show and reality, but rather, she is stronger than in anime or manga, I concluded. It was obvious, our previous three-sided confrontation had led to her descent, and this time she held back less than she was supposed to be. It only made me excited though. Oh holy spear, removing anchor. Thrust and feast. 13 fangs. Rangaminiad, said Artoria as she released her noble phantasm. The singularity trembled as a beam of red light shot at the Tiamat. The mother of creation quickly manifested barriers around her, but it was futile. The light ripped apart the layers of the world, shredded space into pieces, and piercing the layers of barriers it directly hit her. Aghh! A soul-wrenching scream rung throughout the place. Everyone looked at the scene disbelief while a smile rose on my face. You have become really strong, I praised her as I looked at the spectacle in front of me. A hole was visible in between the breasts of the Tiamat. The mother of creation howled in pain as she swayed her body in an attempt to throw the servants away. The llamas around her went crazy as they heard the painful cry of their mother. They attack at us relentlessly, to which I simply used my own noble phantasm. Stravolos too narrow, I said, and pointed my trident towards the approaching llamas. Beams of dense water infused with divinity and magical energy shot at the llamas, annihilating them. The beam divided into thousands of beams and destroyed thousands of flying llamas. It wasn't over as my noble phantasm didn't stop and the beams changed direction, continuously reaping the lives of the llamas. Finally, when after a few dozen of seconds when tens of thousands of llamas were annihilated, did I stopped. Many looked gawked at the display of my noble phantasm, while I thought, noble phantasms are indeed wonderful. The attack of this one is simply among one of my favorites. Ang! Tiamat screeched and glared at us. Her wound suddenly started healing, and in a few seconds she had completely healed. She is indeed troublesome. That attack should have peeled off the layers of her regeneration, yet she recovered, Artoria said, a frown visible on her face. This was without any doubt her strongest attack. Roarer, suddenly we heard another roar and looked at the source. I smiled seeing the huge figure of the Godzilla. The land trembled as she walked straight forward towards the figure of Tiamat. Daddy. Let me the power of the daughter you're raised, she sent a telepathic message. I sighed and looked at the figure of Tiamat. Suddenly she released a wave of aura destroying my spell. I fell on the ground and looked at Tiamat. I know us could feel it, that her danger level has increased. Master, suddenly the system called out and I replied, yes, I can feel it, she has gotten stronger. Then the system replied, Master, she is approximately thrice as strong compared to what her strongest was supposed to be or was shown in the anime or manga. A grin formed on my face. To be continued. Chapter 84, Amara v/S Tiamat. Third POV. The staff of the Chaldea and their acting commander looked speechlessly at the screen. For a moment no one knew what to do. After all, for them the scene was extremely ridiculous. They can see Godzilla walking towards Tiamat and Romani can swear he feels like he is in a cinema sitting on the front seat and watching the movie Godzilla v/S Tiamat. Now with extreme CGI and 3D display all he lacks is popcorn and he will be good to go. Is that Go Godzilla? A fat staff member broke the silence and murmurs spread throughout the room. Ha ha ha. What the fuck is that? Said Romani clutching his head, doubting life. It is a Godzilla, a kaiju. Isn't that exciting? Although it is known that Throne of Heroes often creates fictional characters, it seems the limits of what it can create must be revised, said Da Vinci with an excited smile on her face. Romani took a deep breath and slapped his cheeks. That's it. Everyone continue with your work. Despite the incredulity of the situation, we must remember that fate of the mankind depends on it. Thus, we need to provide whatever meager support we can, he said, regaining his calm. He has seen many weird things and had gotten used to it. It's just seeing a freaking real Godzilla had stumped him for a moment. Everyone nodded and continued with their work. Then Romani suddenly looked at Da Vinci and asked, wait. How do you know about Godzilla? Da Vinci smiled looking at him and replied, you don't know. We have vast database of famous movies like Godzilla. You can watch it on 4K. Isn't that exciting? I have been watching them to find out if the technology shown in them can be achieved or not. Romani looked at her speechless and decided to shift his focus back on the screen for his own sake. Babylonian singularity. Amara released a roar as she walked towards the mother of all creation. Tiamat for a moment froze, feeling an extremely familiar aura. She was mother of creation responsible for creating all the monsters and demonic beasts, thus in a way she was mother of Amara. However, Godzilla cared nothing about her concerns and opened her mouth. A blue light shined in her mouth as well as in her fins as she released her atomic breath. It pierced through the air and hit Tiamat, who hasn't made a shield against it. The next moment Tiamat came out of her stupor, and she screeched, recognizing Godzilla as her enemy. Tens of thousands of llamas moved towards Godzilla intending to kill her. Meanwhile, mounted on the back of Quetzalcoatl's mount, flying in the air, Ritsuka looked speechlessly at the scene below him, wondering what the hell was happening. Doc. Godzilla is real, he asked Romani, who coughed and said, I will tell you about it later on, for now focus on the battle. Hearing his words, Ritsuka nodded and said, Arjuna. Kyoheim. Hector. I want you all three to release your noble phantasms simultaneously at Tiamat. They nodded, hearing him, and Ritsuka continued, from what I have observed, Tiamat generally forms shield only at a single direction. I want you all to take advantage of her in Godzilla's battle and attack her where she lacks a shield. Meanwhile, Mash. You will protect us from the llamas. They nodded, impressed by his commands. Yes, senpai. You can count me to protect you, Mash replied, and then Kyoheim said with a smile, don't worry, husband, I will turn your foes into ashes. Though I demand a kiss for when everything is over. Her words caused Mash to blush while Ritsuka just nodded. He left the problem for his future self to deal. The servants quickly took their stance, waiting for an opportunity. Godzilla meanwhile released several atomic breaths in a row, annihilating all the llamas approaching her, and even fired a few at Tiamat, who easily blocked it with a shield. Jolter also kept attacking Tiamat with one spell after another, but most of them didn't do any damage and at most scorched her skin, which healed in a second. Witness heretic. The wrath of my lord. Tremble forth before his might. Wrath of the Seven Seas. Jolter used her second noble phantasm and the sea became turbulent. Suddenly the sky rumbled and rain started pouring down. The wind swirled around Tiamat and waves reached hundreds of meters, struck Tiamat's figure. Arning. Tiamat screeched and shot beams of plasma all around her, evaporating the waves. Her mere divinity broke the tornado that was rotating at a strong speed of thousands of meters per second. Jolter clicked her tongue as she flew away, quickly avoiding her attacks. It seems you are facing the same problem as me, said Scathach as she flew beside her. You aren't using your noble phantasm, asked Jolter, and Scathach replied, my noble phantasm bestows curse of death to the target. However, the very concept of death doesn't apply on her. Even if I were to somehow use the curse, she will wash it away. It will be best to use it when she is weaker, thus it makes no sense for me to use it now. Jalta realized what she said indeed made sense and clicked her tongue. Only if I can get attack powerful enough to harm her, then using my first noble phantasm I can reflect the attack on her, she said, and Skathak suggested, how about taking Artoria's attack and reflecting it on Tiamat? Jalta grunted and said, no need, I don't need her help. Suddenly they shifted their focus on Amara as they sensed an extreme amount of mana being mobilized by her. She released her magical nuclear breath. Her magical nuclear breath was a condensed purplish-blue in color, its temperature reached millions of temperature and the space twisted around it as it pierced the atmosphere and moved towards Tiamat. Tiamat, sensing the extreme danger, quickly created several shields behind her shield, focusing on defending herself. Amara's attack quickly broke through several shields and Tiamat tilted her body forward and strengthened her shields further. Arng! She screeched. Meanwhile, seeing the chance, Ritsuka's servant quickly used their noble phantasm. Target confirmed. Position fixed, said Hector as he held his spear, a burst of magical released from behind the spear as if it was a thrust of a rocket engine. He aimed it on Tiamat, ready to release it with the others. Tragedy is what will save the living. O Aura of Shiva, descend, and bring destruction. Begin implosion, said Arjuna as he prepared his noble phantasm. Blue waves started swirling around him, a blue crescent moon appeared above a few meters of him, and the blue waves swirled together forming a blue orb on his hand. I will now exterminate the runaway liar, said Kyoheim as she prepared her noble phantasm. All of them looked at each other's eyes, they nodded, understanding their role. Durindana. Blow, M away. Hector released his noble phantasm and his spear shot at Tiamat, breaking the sound barrier. At the same time Kyoheim released her noble phantasm, Tenshin Kasho Zanmai. Kyoheim transformed into a dragon made of blue flames and swirled towards Tiamat behind the Hector's spear. Hector's spear hit Tiamat's back, making her screech a bit, but she could shift her focus as Amara continuously released her magical nuclear breath with no intent to stop. Kyoheim struck Tiamat after Hector's spear, and her flames scorched her skin, then using her full prowess she thrusted the spear into her flesh, gouging out a small wound. Pashupata. Explode and fall. Arjuna released his noble phantasm in her small wound, and the moment the blue orb exploded Tiamat screamed. Her shields broke and Amara's magical nuclear breath struck her and pierced through body. Her huge horn suddenly cracked and her figure stopped. Her eyes lost their shine as she fell down. For a moment there was silence and then disbelief. We killed her, said Ritsuka in disbelief. Even the entire staff in Chaldea was shocked by the turn of the events. Jalta was stupefied. Impossible. How can they kill it? She said, and Skathak looked at Arjuna and then at Amara and said, Arjuna's noble phantasm gives moksha or death to the divine, and its damage is stronger depending on the divinity of the opponent. But there should be a limit like with the chains of heavens, she questioned Skathak, who replied, it isn't about the limit, it's about its origin. The origin of that noble phantasm is something extraordinary, even if due to being an A rank it shouldn't have been able to instantly kill her. Amara's attack finished the job. Then she looked at the dead body of the Tiamat with a serious look. Meanwhile Artoria was floating beside Poseidon, and looking at the Tiamat's dead body she said, fools, they shouldn't have done that. Her voice contained seriousness, and Poseidon nodded and said, even if the origin of that noble phantasm is noble, and Amara's attack is second only to yours, there is a reason she is called Mother of Creation and Life. Boom. The entire sea evaporated, huge shockwaves hit everyone. Ritsuka and his servants fell of their mounts. Arjuna barely managed to save them all and Ritsuka only survived due to Mash giving him cover at correct time. Jalta and Skathak were thrown away by the intense shockwave. Luminosite Eternel. Jean manifested a huge barrier diverging the shock, managing to save the Uruk from experiencing the terrific shockwave. The previously fallen figure of the Tiamat suddenly slowly stood up, the cracks on her huge horns filled up, her body injuries healed instantly. Her figure didn't grow bigger, but this time her oppressive aura skyrocketed. Even Gilgamesh and other servants back at the Uruk could feel it. The humans felt a primal fear and started trembling in fear. If not for the angels radiating holy light and a calming aura, they might have went crazy. 18%, 36%, 45.78%. Yup, Master, she is currently at her full power, System said to Poseidon, who frowned and then asked, her full power? That means she is only able to use 45.78% of her true power, and the System replied, she isn't a mature beast. All beasts have power to destroy entire universe at their peak prowess, and even then they have potential to surpass that. She is currently using the full power of her current maturity. That makes everything clear, Poseidon thought. He wasn't much disappointed as he knew that he couldn't possibly defeat the mature Tiamat at his current strength, but he could possibly kill the Tiamat in front of her, and he became more excited, as he would fight a stronger opponent. On the other hand, contrary to his feelings, the other had despair etched on their face. Senpai, said Mash worriedly as she looked at Ritsuka, who was trembling in fear. Husband, Kyoheim said as she came beside him and hugged him, his figure still trembling, his eyes widened as tears rolled down his cheeks, and no. Ag-HH, he screamed, and Quetzalcoatl quickly came near him and used her divinity to dispel the effect of Tiamat. No, the aura of a beast. Ritsuka fell unconscious much to his servant's worry. Mash, Hector and you girl, you three return with your master back to Uruk, she said. a holographic projection appeared and Romani wanted to say something when Quetzalcoatl glared at him. He took the aura of a beast directly. You should be glad he isn't dead now. He can't stay here anymore, retreat back to Uruk. Also boy you can still fight right, she said and looked at Arjuna. Yes goddess. My mana is still half remaining, he replied and Quetzalcoatl nodded. Mash and Kyoheim didn't go against her and her mount started flying back to Uruk. Devi, what should we do now? Asked Arjuna helplessly as he looked at Tiamat who has descended with her full might. Ha! Your noble phantasm won't work on her any longer, and if it was previous her then I could have possibly killed her, but now. I need to at least descend as a god to even hurt her, she said. Arjuna looked at the black mud pouring from Tiamat's horns, and he understood why Quetzalcoatl preferred him to stay as he could fly and could deal with Lammas at least. Amara suddenly attacked Tiamat again with her magical nuclear breath, but this time it could not hurt her. Even her lotus flame mod was useless. Tiamat started floating forward, this time no attacks could stop her. To be continued. Chapter 85, Poseidon v/S Tiamat. Poseidon POV. I looked at Tiamat who moved forward unaffected by the attacks of Amara and others. Her endurance had further increased by several times at least, and her divinity as well. Her beast authorities have become stronger, testament of her ability to shrug off attacks that previously dealt damage to her. Her self-seal has broken as well, making it harder than to kill her. Essentially, she dealt damage to herself every turn of her attack or defense, making her actual vitality weaker than it was supposed to be. Previously it was 90%, meaning she only had 10 to 20% of her actual health at any given moment. Such self-harm stemmed from her motherly instincts. The gods of this era were fools to abandon such a gentle and loving mother, I snickered, absolutely disgusted of them. If in future I was to meet them, then I will kill those useless maggots. I looked at Tiamat who had been degenerated to her current form, a beast who only knows to destroy humanity for the sake of being not getting abandoned again, for not dying. Truly laughable, I thought as I glanced at my army of summons who have arrived here. Tiamat's agility has been boosted so she had covered more than half of the previous distance between herself and Uruk. She had already poured extreme amounts of black mud which continuously birthed new llamas. Artoria, Jean, it's time I begin my fight. Don't try to foolishly die, especially you, I said as I looked at Jean who pouted. I am not foolish. Lord Poseidon, that's mean, she retorted, and I flicked my finger on her forehead. Ouch, she looked at me with teary eyes, and I said, you could have avoided it, but you didn't. You are a fool, a lovable fool, she rubbed her forehead and nodded with slight blush. My liege, do you require any help? Artoria asked with eagerness in her voice. She definitely wanted to fight alongside me. I smiled and said, well, I tell you if I need any help. Seeing her slightly sad, I gave her a pat before diving down. My army of summons marched towards the millions of llamas, and I commanded, annihilate them. My voice resounded through the ears of my summons whose speed increased. A torrent of spells were released from behind me, moving towards the coming army and struck the llamas. The summons limited to the mobility on the ground went against the crawling llamas, clashing against them. Sound of slashes filled my ears like a melody as llamas' blood spilled around. The flying llamas were burned either in the holy light of the angels or under the attacks of the elementals. Anghai. Tiamat screeched as her eyes fixated on me. Our eyes met. Her pink eyes looked into my blue eyes and I looked into her pink eyes. A familiar feeling seemed to come to me, reminding me of a vague figure in my memories. I knew whose it was, mother, I said with a voice filled with so much emotion that I myself felt a tad shocked. Tiamat's movement stopped hearing my words. I closed my eyes recalling everything, how we brothers and sisters were born to Kronos and Rhea, on how our father hearing a prophecy ate us, and we were saved by Zeus later on. My experiences made me extremely apathic to everyone, except Rhea. At first I had no emotions to her whatsoever, but she crept into my heart and told me the only way for us to survive was to unite together, that gods should trust together. She was a fool, for she was betrayed by the very goddesses she trusted and killed. I hated the very thought of depending on someone because of it. Maybe it was the promise she made me do it, that I never went against Zeus, more so after understanding he was just a battle junkie fool, and due to Hades. I opened my eyes, barely a tenth of the second has passed, and Tiamat's movement which had halted for a brief moment began again. It was for barely 2 seconds, but for us it felt like dozens of minutes. I looked at her and washed away all the thoughts I had. She indeed reminded me of my mother, maybe because of the sheer motherly love she held, but she was my enemy and in the end I had to kill her. Maximized magic protection from the evil, maximized magic lesser mind protection, maximized magic quick march, maximized magic rabbit foot, maximized magic hawkeye, maximized magic rabbit ears, maximized magic lesser dexterity, maximized magic lesser strength, maximized magic protection of energy negative, maximized magic haste, maximized magic lopsided duel, maximized magic aspect of titania, maximized magic elemental form. I silent chanted weaker spells one after another. With maximized enhancement and stacked their buffs on me. My all parameters increased rapidly too, reaching EX, but I wasn't finished and continued chanting, maximized magic body of effulgent beryl, maximized magic body of effulgent aquamarine, maximized magic body of effulgent heliodor, maximized magic greater strength, maximized magic greater dexterity, maximized magic greater haste, maximized magic mercy of Sharia robusta, maximized magic greater luck, maximized magic greater full potential, maximized magic shield, maximized magic greater luck, maximized magic false data life. I finished with the final chants. My body was bathed in a plethora of colors as all the spells I chanted activated and took effect. With every preceding one I could feel myself get stronger, each enhancement stacked on top of each other further strengthening me. My all parameters reached EX, and I felt huge amount of strength. All of it happened within a few seconds due to the courtesy of my thought acceleration. I took a battle stance and summoned my trustworthy trident, which was by now an A+ rank noble phantasm. I held my trident as I coated my body in water god battle aura, which further enhanced my step further, and then I charged. My body reached the speed of thunder as I appeared in front of Tiamat. Penetration. I activated my noble phantasm, while at the same covering my trident with anti-immortality 2 key, and then I thrusted forth my trident. My attack ignored her defense and pierced directly inside in her body. A wave of anti-immortality 2 key hit and I continued thrusting my trident. Amphitrite. I started thrusting my trident at the speed of thunder in a circular pattern. Her flesh was pierced by my trident repeatedly. It riddled the huge body of the Tiamat with thousands of holes. She screeched, and then with releasing an evil aura she threw me away. Tisk. I clicked my tongue. While her move did no damage, it managed to throw me away, and her wounds started healing again, however this time at a slower pace. My anti-immortality 2 key should render her very immortality useless, negate it, but Tiamat managed to wash it away, get rid of it even if it was slower than before. Rangaminiad. Suddenly I heard Artoria's voice as a red pillar of light pierced through Tiamat at the very same place where her body was riddled with her holes. Tiamat cried in pain as she launched several beams of magical energy at us. I didn't dodge them, I simply spun my trident negating them. After a while, when she had stopped firing off beams, Artoria appeared behind me. Forgive me, my liege, but I can't let you fight her again. I admit you are stronger, far stronger than all of us combined. But our help isn't useless, however meager it might be. Please punish me later on, but for now. We shall fight with you, said Artoria as she held Rangaminiad in her hand. Jalter, Jean, and Scathach came beside me as well. Lord Poseidon, please let me protect you this time, said Jean as she looked at me with determination. Forgive me, Lord, but I need to use my body to be help of you. Even if it's meager, Jalter said, gritting her teeth, and Scathach said, come on, I am your wife. Do you think your wife will like you fighting alone against such an opponent? As for why Amara and Ishtar weren't with them, let's just say the former used up a lot of her mana and latter simply couldn't participate to fight in such a dense group of llamas. I chuckled, amused of them. They went against my decision, but I wasn't angry but felt touched. Maybe my brother would be struck with Zeus lightning the moment he hears my thoughts. It will be funny indeed. You can die, I bluntly stated as we again avoided her attacks. It's fine. At most we will be sent back to Throne of Heroes, said Jalter, and I knew she was indeed correct. Fine, then accompany me and don't disappoint me, I said as we charged forward attacking. This time I wasn't fighting alone, and it felt weird but pleasing as well. Third POV. Damn it. That fucking big-breasted horny monster, shouted Amara in anger as she kicked on the floor with anger. The floor cracked due to strength of her stomps. Anger was visible on her face and her horns glowed in red. She was fuming in anger, as despite her strength being among the best, she was forced to return by her mothers considering the low amount of mana she had. Meanwhile, Romani coughed in embarrassment hearing her words. After all, while she just referred to Tiamat, who had big breasts and big horns, her words were very misleading. What? Tell me, insect. What the fuck you want? Amara shouted as she looked at Romani, whose face became pale. It isn't his fault, Lady Amara, the words you spoke just right now were very vulgar, Merlin said. Amara glared at him, but thinking on how her mothers might get angry on hearing she said something vulgar, or worse her father. She quickly looked away, and decided to forgive the insect *** Romani and Merlin, and shifted her focus for them. Ishtar meanwhile slumped with teary eyes. It was so scary, so big, so black, so many, she muttered out loud. Gilgamesh almost fell off from his throne hearing Ishtar's words and shouted, you idiot. Stop saying those misleading words. Ishtar glared at him and said, huh? What do you say, coward? Do you know how many llamas were there? It was completely a black swarm and there were so many llamas. It took my entire strength just to return here. Meanwhile Romani and Merlin wondered how Gilgamesh knew modern references. Could it be? Merlin suddenly had an idea and a mischievous smile came on his face. Truly king of heroes, to use his omniscience for such matters, he nodded as if enlightened, though barely holding it from blurting it out. Why do I feel familiar with Merlin, said Romani as he looked at Merlin. He hadn't focused on it before, but seeing Merlin gave him an uncanny feeling as if he had seen him before. Whatever, Mash. How is Ritsuka? He asked and Mash replied, Master is fine. He nodded and Da Vinci said, we see no abnormality in his bodily functions. He should regain his consciousness soon. Her words relieved Kyoheim and Mash. Suddenly Siduri came and said, "My king, the evacuation has been finished, all the people had been transferred to the demonic front." Gilgamesh hearing her words nodded and asked, "Any sign of llamas?" Siduri shook her head, "We haven't encountered any llamas, and even near the Uruk there are none." "Humph. Be glad. It must be because of the summons of my father, otherwise your city would have been overrun with them long ago," said Amara with pride. Gilgamesh just nodded. It was truth, though he knew his summons couldn't hold back the llamas for an infinite amount of time, not when Tiamat has completely descended in the world. "Siduri, Mash, Kyoheim, Hector. I want you all to take refuge as well. Fall back to the northern wall," he ordered, and they nodded, while Ishtar said as she summoned her mana, "Now that I have recovered my mana, I will be returning to the battlefield. This time I will show her the wrath of the goddess of the Venus," she said haughtily before departing, and others departed as well. Amara meanwhile teleported back to the battlefield to observe their battle. "They are gone now, won't you reveal yourself?" Suddenly Gilgamesh said as a figure walked from the corner. "That girl, she knew about me," the figure said. Their green hair swayed as they walked. "She had no interest in you due to her frustration, more so when you are injured," he said as he slowly stood up, then looked at the person. "It had been a long time, Enkidu," Gilgamesh said, looking at Kingu, and the wound on his chest which had almost healed. "My name is Kingu. I am son of Tiamat." "Don't call me Enkidu," they retorted, but Gilgamesh ignored his words and asked, "Why are you here? Wouldn't it be more beneficial to attack the refugees now when they aren't with them?" "My memories, the memories I have. I am here to find out the meaning of them," they said in a slight painful voice, and the next moment they attacked. The battle between two friends had begun. To be continued. Chapter 86, I lost. Third POV. Poseidon released waves of attacks, his trident leaving afterimages as he attacked at Tiamat at rapid speed. He was also being assisted by his wives. Skathak released waves of debuff spells she had learned at Tiamat, although working barely they made her weaker by 0.5%. Jalter was using holy spells and undead spells, as well as her borrowed divine authority at Tiamat. Artoria simply used her divinity, causing most harm to Tiamat. Jean was mostly defensive, as despite her newfound strength, she simply lacked powerful attacks to cause harm to Tiamat. However, whenever she got the chance, she used her noble phantasm to shield him from Tiamat's attacks, and others as well. However, in a few minutes they realized fighting her was useless. She had an infinite supply of mana and could regenerate infinitely as well. "Need any help?" asked Quetzalcoatl as she looked at the Poseidon, who had a scratch on his cheek. He had a bloodthirsty smile as he touched his hair and said, "Indeed, it will be fruitless to fight her here. We need to isolate her within the underworld. While her prowess won't weaken significantly, it will halt her regeneration and weaken her connection to the chaos tide or even break it." "Is that so? I must admit, we can't beat her above here, but you said she can change her form into a stronger dragonic one, right?" "Won't be it hopeless then," Quetzalcoatl said. Though her words despair, there wasn't any despair on her face, since for her she had just spoken the cruel truth. Poseidon glanced at her and replied, "She has modified her Saint Graph enough, and she is no longer a servant but a true goddess herself. Changing her form won't make her any stronger now." "Good, prepare a hole below her and I will dump her in," said Quetzalcoatl, smashing her fists, her mouth transforming into draconic. "King Gilgamesh has said he will help as well. After all, it is the only moment he will get to use his new noble phantasm," Merlin said as he appeared beside them. Poseidon looked at Merlin, who quickly vanished, fleeing back, and gave a message to his wives to keep Tiamat busy. "Get ready," he said to Quetzalcoatl, who nodded and flew away. Suddenly a torrent of noble phantasms coming from the Uruk rained on Tiamat. She screeched as thousands of noble phantasms fell on her. Poseidon floated on the air and said, "Creation." Using the super tier spell, he manipulated the entire earth below Tiamat and created a hole. Tiamat, seeing the earth below her sinking, and then rupturing, creating a wide gap below her, quickly increased the thrust from the back of her horn. "The past is here. The present is here. The future is here. Come winds, come lightning. When the morning star shines, let all know the sun's light reaches every corner of the earth." Quetzalcoatl chanted as a circular disc manifested above her and turned into a swirl of flames and thunder. Then a ball of flame descended on her palm, and then breaking the sound barrier, she flew towards Tiamat. Anghai. Tiamat manifested several circular shields around her, taking the attack, but it gave the chance for the Poseidon to act. Black hole. He chanted. A small black dot manifested several hundred meters below her, and started sucking the air from above. Due to the extreme pressure, Tiamat fell through the hole, landing in the underworld. Poseidon, his wives, and Quetzalcoatl quickly dived in the hole, falling to the underworld. "Finally. You guys are here. I have been waiting for so long," said Ereshkigal as she appeared, and then looked at Tiamat and shouted, shocked. "She has descended as a true god." Her face turned into one of horror. All the top divine spirits generally had EX rank divinity, even though there was difference in between them, but Tiamat already had EX rank divinity, and after turning into a true goddess, she simply had too much prowess. Ereshkigal gulped and suddenly felt the entire underworld trembling. "Damn it. It is draining too much of underworld and taking a lot of my authority to suppress her. In few minutes the entire underworld would start crumbling," said Ereshkigal. "A few minutes would enough," Poseidon replied and patted her head. Thanks for your help, he said, a smile visible on his face. He smiled. It looked so good on him. Ereshkigal though blushing and replied, it's okay. I am doing this just because you defeated me, though she instantly regretted on her choice of words, is Ishtar's habits rubbing on me? She thought. Achoo, Ishtar sneezed as she looked at the big hole below her, which idiot is complaining about me? It must be that Goldie. Whatever. I guess they have already enacted their plan, she muttered and then quickly dived in while mounted on her mana. She gulped her saliva as she entered the underworld, being reminded of the horrific experiences she had. Poseidon POV. I launched myself at Tiamat, now in underworld with her connection severed with the chaos tide. She could no longer birth infinite monsters, nor could regenerate or resurrect infinitely. As long as I manage to kill her, this will end her for good. With a bloodthirsty grin on my face, I again coated myself with Water God Battle Aura and my weapon with Anti-Immortality 2 as well as Water God Battle Aura, increasing its rank from A+ to EX, Kione Tyro Demeter. I quickly used one of my trident moves, and then jumping to the sky I dived towards the underworld. I released a barrage of trident attacks, the speed of my attacks being faster than thunder itself, and simultaneously used penetration. My attacks blew off her horns, and riddled holes in her body. She screamed in pain, swaying her body and shooting off hundreds of beams towards me, trying to kill me. However, I quickly dodged them. It barely took any effort for me as the speed of those beams was even slower than thunder. Then I quickly began my next attack, Medusa Elope Demeter. My muscles contracted as I used the full potential of my body. At a speed faster than thunder, I released a barrage of attacks at Tiamat from every possible direction. Millions of my strikes hitting her body every second. With the combined power of my penetration, they easily broke through her defenses. Once I had stopped, I looked at the sorry state of Tiamat, her horns cracked, her body riddled with countless holes, healing slowly due to the effects of my Anti-Immortality 2. Suddenly my wives released a combined attacks as well, Rongaminiad, Gi-Balg Alternative. I heard the voices of Artoria and Skathak, and then looked at them to find them using their Noble Phantasm simultaneously. However, they used it on Jalter, who used her Noble Phantasm, La Grandement du Haine. Jalter used her Noble Phantasm, Pillar of Flames burst out of the ground. The attacks on the Artoria and Skathak were absorbed by her flag, though as they were attacking with full power, she barely managed to pull it off with wounds appearing on her body. She quickly reflected the attacks at Tiamat. A black pillar of light shot at her. It shredded away the space and had the effect of bestowing the curse of death. It pierced through Tiamat defenses, completely annihilating 1/3 of her body. Then with a powerful throw of my trident, I separated her head. It's over, I heard the voice of Ritsuka. It didn't need for me to look to know Ritsuka. Arjuna and Mash were here, alongside Anna, Amara and Merlin. Ignoring them, I summoned back my trident. As Tiamat resurrected, her all wounds healed rapidly as I launched my attack, Medusa Elope Demeter. Again, with an omnidirectional attack, I destroyed her body. This time her aura vanished. I stopped quite drained, though I remained alarmed, as it could be possibly a feint from her, and I was right, as the next moment she resurrected. But this time, my eyes widened as her figure transformed into a size of a human. She had 2 large horns behind her, her eyes having a red iris, and she had 2 large claws. What form is th-? I thought as she appeared in front of me. My pupils widened as I used my trident to block her claws from ripping me apart. She then appeared beside me, and cleaved out a piece of flesh from my shoulder. I quickly chanted a healing spell while counterattacking on her. She appeared a few meters away, and mustering up all my strength, my speed barely exceeded speed of thunder. Boom. Our weapons clashed, her claws and my trident, creating shockwaves. I launched a barrage of attacks which she easily blocked with her claws. A creepy smile formed on her face as she revealed her long, slender and twisted teeth. My heartbeat fastened up. I could feel blood rushing through my veins as we fought each other. Her speed surpassed mine, much to my surprise, but I managed to repel her attacks and even counterattack through my sheer experience and heightened senses. At this time I had put my body to limits. I could feel my muscles tearing with my every move, and I had to continuously use my divinity to hold my body together, till I used another healing spell. The perception of time around me was considerably slow. We both fought off each other at an inhumane speed, our clash leaving shockwaves that would kill if not injure them greatly once it hits them. Tiamat suddenly used her authority Negagenesis, creating a bounding field dispelling all the shockwaves, much to my relief. But they weren't made to dispel shockwaves, but rather to strengthen her. She rewrote the laws of the world. The space around us started expanding, her speed further increased while the light around us started dimming. A malicious smile formed on her face as her eyes fixated on me. Her lips formed, releasing a word, son. I was surprised and almost made a mistake in my movement that would have costed my life, though I got myself together as she started repeating the words, son. 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 This time her words had no effect on me, but as we fought, I immediately realized that I was at very big disadvantage. As her authority rewrote the laws, it only became worse, and I had to start teleporting to avoid her attacks and counterattack her. 2 draconic wings suddenly sprouted from her back and her speed further increased. The next moment my hand holding the trident was ripped off, and then my neck. I felt a déjà vu as the world spun around me. Her bounded field suddenly started getting weaker and then broke, revealing the outside world. I looked at my wives running towards me and I knew I had lost. The next most I was unconscious. Third POV. We are here, Kingu said as he and Gilgamesh landed on the ground. They watched as Poseidon killing Tiamat for the second time since they have managed to get her in the underworld. Suddenly Gilgamesh's eyes constricted as he took out Kingu. Quick dash, he wanted to say, but the next moment Tiamat's new form appeared and then both the figures of Tiamat and Poseidon vanished, being replaced by a black sphere. What happened? Ritsuka said, shocked. Gilgamesh quickly released his and Numa Elish. The red beam struck the black sphere but it failed to break it. His eyes narrowed while Poseidon's wives started running towards the black sphere in an attempt to break it. Their experiences told that whatever had happened was extremely serious. The next moment, the black sphere vanished, revealing the new form of Tiamat, who had the body of Poseidon minus his head and a hand within her grasp. The head of Poseidon rolled towards his wives, who became horrified seeing his beheaded head and body. Jean caught his head, but it vanished into golden particles. The next moment, she froze. Silence. The entire place became silent. Many couldn't even get the gist of what happened, and stood dumbfounded, while for Poseidon and Tiamat several hours or days had passed. In a sense, for them it was barely a few seconds that had passed, and in this few seconds the entire battle had reversed. Tiamat hugged Poseidon's dead body, covering it with her mud to stop it from discovering. Then she licked and said, Son. Son. Love you. Love you. Love you. Love you. The entire underworld echoed with her words, sending chills to the spines of everyone. Kingu gulped his saliva as he looked at his obsessive mother. Gilgamesh didn't reply as he released his noble phantasm, and Numa Elish, his attack hit the dazed Tiamat, and while it barely scorched her skin and a bit of her flesh, it managed to vaporize Poseidon's dead body. Her figure froze. While everyone quickly took a battle stance, they knew the situation had turned into one of pure despair, as Poseidon had fallen. Meanwhile in the black void, Poseidon opened his eyes and muttered, I lost, his voice filled with complex emotions. A holographic screen appeared in front of him. Notice. You have failed in the quest. A bad mother needs some punishment. You receive the penalty. Penalty, you won't get the dragon god race. Poseidon ignored the screen, still shocked by the turn of the events in the Babylonia singularity. Then he gritted his teeth, seeing his failed quest. The quest had a condition that he can't die till he completes the quest, and unfortunately, he died while doing the quest. Thus even if he kills Tiamat now, it won't fulfill the quest. He took a deep breath. He was reintroduced to the taste of the defeat, and then he erupted in laughter. His voice echoed in the endless darkness. To be continued. Chapter title, I lost. Chapter 87, Mother, it's time you rest. Third POV. Every servant could feel chills in their back as Gilgamesh obliterated Poseidon's dead body. Artoria glared at him wanting to kill him, but seeing the situation, she refrained from attacking Gilgamesh. Meanwhile, the King of Heroes had a solemn look on his face. Merlin suddenly said, Do not fear. Lord Poseidon, while had lost, managed to pave the way for us. Her mana is almost empty, and she has sacrificed her endurance to boost her strength and speed. Some servants looked at him with, Are you fucking serious? Even Gilgamesh wanted to skin off the mage alive, as just a moment ago Tiamat's skin barely got scorched from a half-powered blow of his Enuma Elish, but on looking at Tiamat again and seeing a transparent sphere around her body he understood. That's a bounded field, he said, garnering everyone's attention. Hearing his words they saw a sign of hope. The next moment Tiamat finally made a move, her bounded field disappeared, and torrents of attacks rained down on her, Rangaminiad, Agni Gandhava, and Numa Elish, but they simply missed her. Avoiding all the attacks, Tiamat came near the Gilgamesh. She swiped her claw with the intent to behead him. Blood spilled out in everyone's view as Tiamat's claws cleaved through his arms. Gilgamesh managed to protect himself in time as he was the servant with the highest reaction speed here. Thus he managed to block her attack, but his arms had major wounds. He quickly covered his arms with golden armor, which decreased his speed a bit. The next moment Kingu attacked her with his chains, that surrounded her and wrapped around her, but she simply moved and they broke off. Her divinity was so strong that it simply surpassed Kingu's very concept of reigning over gods. Others weren't idle. Skathak flew towards Tiamat. She manifested 2 spears and threw one at her at the speed of thunder. Tiamat easily avoided it, and appeared next to her the next moment, and her claw went through Skathak's chest. The queen of the land of shadows' red eyes narrowed as she thrusted her spear forward, making Tiamat retreat. Blood spilled from her wound and mouth. She quickly used a healing spell. Amara quickly attacked Tiamat, but due to her low combat experience her both arms were easily ripped off by Tiamat. Ag! She wailed in pain. Artoria and Jalter simultaneously attacked Tiamat, but Tiamat easily ripped apart Jalter's left arm and Artoria's right arm. Anna sent her sickle spinning through the air. Her attack barely touched Tiamat, but it made a wound on it. Everyone's confidence boosted due to this. Quetzalcoatl arrived next to Tiamat. Their eyes met, and their weapons clashed, but Quetzalcoatl's both arms were ripped apart the next moment. Kingu, son of Tiamat, will show you the power of the chain of the heavens. Mother's fury is a thing of the past. Now I will awaken the breath of the planet. Kinga started chanting for his noble phantasm. Hearing his chant, every servant focused on keeping Tiamat busy, though the Hector and Jaguarman died in a few seconds and the left leg of Ishtar was ripped off. Enuma Elish, Kinga quickly used his noble phantasm. His entire body turned into a chain, and dozens of chains appeared. They struck Tiamat and somehow managed to coil itself on her. Gilgamesh had no time to mourn his friend nor he needed, they had already discussed it. Thus Gilgamesh, unflinching of his friend's second death, used his noble phantasm. Enuma Elish, a red pillar of beam shot at her. Rangaminiad, Artoria too used her noble phantasm. Both the noble phantasms shot at her from opposite direction. If they were to meet, then a space-time distortion will form, strong enough to kill fully powered god kings, in their god form in one blow. The chains of heaven disintegrated as Tiamat broke free and was hit by both the attacks. Next moment the space was torn off, with almost half of the body of the King of Heroes and King of Storms missing. Anghai. Tiamat screeched much to everyone's horror. Gilgamesh fell on the ground, barely alive, while Artoria managed to heal herself, but she was too horrified. Ho-how, Ritsuka uttered, his face full of despair. In a very short time, almost all of the servants have lost to her, when Tiamat barely had 5% of her mana, and her endurance was reduced to B+. It's not good. Underworld has started crumbling down. In another minute she will regain her connection to the Sea of Tide. Suddenly they heard Ereshkigal's voice, whose face was pale. She was holding her lance using her divinity to keep the underworld together. Die bitch, Ishtar suddenly shouted as she released a barrage of jewels, which exploded, but Tiamat simply avoided them. Jean meanwhile shot her holy flag at Tiamat, hitting her on the leg, making Tiamat cry in pain, and the next moment Jean found her legs missing. She fell on the ground. Do it. Old man. What are you waiting for? Shouted Merlin, garnering everyone's attention. Tiamat stopped in her tracks as a voice of a bell rang throughout the underworld. A servant with huge stature, his face covered with a skull mask and blue flames poured out of his eyes. Canst thou hear this bell? It tolls for thy destiny's end. Accept it, and unbind thy so dash. The first Hassan's words stopped as he looked below to find a huge hole in the chest, then his head and limbs separated, and his brain burst into golden light. Ang! Tiamat screamed and stopped. Merlin fell on the ground, his face full of disbelief. That was a fucking grand servant. He died just like that, he said. Everyone who understood his words too fell into despair. They have lost, no matter how hard they tried to deny it. Poseidon's wives took a battle stance. Amara growled, her hands healed, she was ready to transform. Gilgamesh barely stood and looked at Tiamat while gnashing his teeth. Tiamat again moved and every servant got ready to receive her attack. This time she attacked Anna, and as she appeared in front of Anna, the goddess despaired and thought, lore, her thought interrupted as a trident passed through Tiamat's chest, her movement coming to a halt. Poseidon. Everyone's eyes widened as the figure of Poseidon appeared behind Tiamat out of nowhere. Mother, it's time you rest, he whispered into her ears. Son, Tiamat whispered as she looked at him. Her body started turning into ash and she moved her hand towards in an attempt to touch his cheek, but her body turned into ashes, and she was unable to touch him. Poseidon POV. I looked at my surroundings. It was pitch black. I hadn't returned back to the throne of the heroes. As for why? It was simple. I had used a spell that could resurrect me. Its name is Mercy of Sharia Robusta. It is a 10th tier spells. It has 3 effects, and I haven't experienced its last effect yet. I casted it as a measure, and I think it worked. Correct, Master, your spell has worked. Yggdrasil spells modify the existing reality permanently. That's why even if it's the weakest spell it comes under the category of the magic in this world's definition of magic. Your spell has worked, however it is taking time for you to resurrect, the system said. It meant I hadn't lost the war. She had won a single battle against, but she hasn't won the war yet. However, I have failed in one of my missions. It meant I wouldn't get the dragon god race. I won't deny I was disappointed, as despite being mortal and divine, I am still bounded by my racial limits. My parameters when I first came in this world were already among the top heroic spirits, as generally having a rank parameter or above is mostly impossible. My physical parameters can get weaker or stronger in my servant form, but in my true god they are fixed. However, they can get permanently stronger, as well, but I have not received any result despite training so hard for the past few years. It made sense as I have been training for nearly over 14 billion years, yet they not increased. Sure, I can temporarily enhance them using spells, my water god battle aura, and even divinity, but it's only temporary. Thus, I was looking forward on getting this new race. Unfortunately, with failing the request it wasn't possible anymore, though I wasn't discouraged as I should get similar quests in future, though it must be of a threat equal to Tiamat or stronger than her for me to get another such quest. I became silent and waited for my resurrection. Master, there should be a time delay between your death and resurrection in the material world, system said. I had expected it. Now it depends on the situation of when I resurrect, I said. I had faith in my wives that they could at least hold Tiamat for a few minutes. She had wasted more than 95% of her mana and had modified her Saint Graph again, this time sacrificing her endurance for speed and agility, and let's just say her endurance was really monstrous. They might be even able to kill her if they get lucky, and let's just say their luck status is pretty high. Master, do you remember the reward? Water stream rock smashing fist, suddenly System asked me. Yes, I replied, wondering what it wanted to tell me. You haven't practiced its breathing method. If you practice it then your physical parameters should get stronger, even if not by much, System explained to me. My eyes narrowed a bit. It was unexpected, since that breathing technique only increased strength temporarily or so what I knew, and even then it shouldn't work due to my divine physiology, unless I had some assistance or it was modified according to the needs of my body. I felt glad with this information. I had been neglecting my physical parameters since they don't increase easily and I haven't got any suitable quest for it, also because I can increase them to EX temporarily. My current rank of the martial arts is only C. I will be practicing it for a while. Suddenly, I felt a tug, and the next moment I appeared back in the material world. Time stop. I used the spell and all the time came into a halt. Pain assaulted me as I checked my body. There were injuries visible all over the body. It was the limitation of this spell. While it could resurrect the user, his health won't be full after being resurrected. Thankfully I had a transcendent mana heart, which while damaged as my body, simply held an absurd amount of mana even in this state. I looked at the figure of the Tiamat frozen before Anna. I quickly used a healing spell to heal myself, and summoned my trident. I couldn't use time spell for long and nor I had mana to stack up a lot of enhancements. I simply used my water god battle aura on my body increasing my physical parameters and coated my trident with a dense anti-mortality Tuki. I came behind her and pierced her divine core with my trident and destroyed it. Then the time once again started running. Tiamat's figure stopped and I said, Mother, it's time you rest. Son, she whispered, her voice humane and twisted her body towards me. She moved forward her hand in an attempt to touch me, but it was in vain as her body turned into ash before she could touch my cheeks. The next moment I was in a pure white place. I knew it was her mindscape, or rather the manifestation of her soul. She was in front of me. Unlike her deranged forms I had seen till now, she looked pure with two big horns, her body size a bit smaller than mine. She had big breasts indicating she wasn't the larva form. Son, she stuttered as she looked at me with guilt. Forgive me, as a mother I hurt my own child. I had committed the greatest sin, she said. You have paid for your sin. I had killed you myself, I said, my voice nonchalant. Tell me, is it wrong for a mother to be loved by her children? I had tried so many times, yet they always abandoned me, whether it were the gods or the humans, she said, her eyes dim. Children grow, they must leave their mothers when they had grown, but they shouldn't abandon her mother, I said, getting her attention. Why do you still love who have abandoned you? Isn't it same as them denying being your child? I asked, a bit amused of her mother complex. They are my children, she suddenly retorted. She was full of panic. They aren't, I said, denying her, and continued, for a child mother is someone who hadn't simply born him but rather had cared for him, showered him with love, and it's same for mothers. Their true children might not be given birth by them, but they love them, as they would love their mother. She looked stumped. She wanted to deny me, and remained silent in deep thought and soon realized, you are correct, I was wrong all along. They aren't my children anymore, as I am not their mother anymore, she said. I have no children, she came to the conclusion on her own. I didn't try to cheer up, after all she had just killed me before. It was just she reminded me of her mother, and just a foolish mother at her heart did I made an effort to rectify her thinking. Tell me, are you my son? You called me mother, she suddenly asked me as she looked at me with nervousness. You killed me, I snickered and her face became pale. Forgive me. I won't do it again, she said. Her words were amusing to say the least. Your son, huh? I am in dash. I wanted to say something but remembering about Jean I got a déjà vu, and said anyway, I am not your son. Then she said, but you can be. I became speechless. I sighed and looked at her. She looked at me with anticipation, her desires being pure. No one could deny the appeal of having such a loving mother. Perhaps, but it's time we part way, I said, and started walking away. We shall meet again, son, I promise. By that time I will be a good mother to you, she said. I just remembered her words. After all, the future is unpredictable, at least in my case. Though I had a feeling we will meet again, and just like that my consciousness returned to my body. To be continued. Chapter 88, We Shall Meet Again. Third POV. Everyone looked at the figure of Poseidon. They were surprised to see him alive. They have seen themselves his head roll into the hands of Jean, and his figure vanishing into golden particles. It wasn't an illusion, it indeed happened, and Poseidon was dead. Lord Poseidon. Jean pulled Poseidon into an hug. Tears poured down her cheeks and made Poseidon's chest wet. My lord. Jalter also hugged Poseidon's chest, and unlike Jean, who was simply crying, she started rubbing her cheeks against his chest and sniffing his smell. Naturally, Artoria hugged him from behind as well, her bountiful breasts pressed hard against Poseidon's back. Amara too had the idea of joining their hug and wanted to leap at Poseidon when Scathach stopped her. Why? Amara grunted, and Scathach simply smiled. You will ruin their hug, she said, making her jealous. She wanted to hug her daddy as well. Receive his head pats. And maybe mate with him as well. Alas, they remained as her mere wishes, as Scathach had a firm grasp on her hand. Scathach was most mature of Poseidon's wives, thus she was least worried about when Poseidon died, as she knew he had just returned to throne. However, she was angry at the Tiamat as well. After all, the big-breasted bad mommy had hurt her lover after all. Thus, she had decided to fight with Tiamat even if it meant dying. "My lord, I was so worried about you," said Jalter as she looked at Poseidon. Jean looked at him as well, and Poseidon felt as if a pair of twins were looking at him, as Jean's and Jalter's faces were mostly the same. He rubbed their heads, soothing them and said, "It would seem my death affected you more than you thought, but do remember that was only a vessel." He consoled them, but Jean retorted, "Even so. I can't see you dying. After all, even if you are immortal, it hurts, right?" "When you die," Jalter nodded and said, "My lord, I would rather let myself die than you. Please forgive me for my weakness, I couldn't protect you." "Indeed, my liege, we are your wives, but your subordinates as well, and it's our duty to protect you from the harm, even if you are stronger than us," said Artoria, and then she planted a kiss on Poseidon's back. Many people blushed seeing her, but the King of Storms didn't care. She was shameless when it came to showing affection to Poseidon. Poseidon finally had to calm them before breaking hugs, after which he received a hug from Skathaka's body, experiencing the joy of embracing a near-perfect body again, and then he was hugged from Amara as well. "I was so scared, Daddy," Amara said as she hugged Poseidon like a koala and rubbed her cheeks on Poseidon's. "Amara, you are indeed a strong girl, I am proud of you," he said. He knew that Amara didn't falter after his death but charged at Tiamat despite the despairing situation, and even lost her arms, but she was unfazed by it. Hearing his praise, Amara started giggling. Despite having an adult body and somewhat mature mind, she was only a few years in the end, and Poseidon didn't forget it, so he hardly ever reprimanded her unlike her mother's. "Master. You are all right. I was so scared when I saw your dead body." "I mean, how dare that bitch do it," Ishtar said, making Gilgamesh chuckle. "What? Goldie, you are half dead and yet have strength to laugh," Ishtar taunted him. Gilgamesh's body started turning into golden particles much to the shock of Ritsuka and his remaining group. Gilgamesh made himself dead and then ascended to Throne of Heroes and then descended into the underworld, explained the white-haired half-incubus. "Fucking bullshit," Ishtar spat. Even she was shocked by the outrageous feat of the Gilgamesh. The King of Heroes just laughed and said, "Haha. See you above, Ishtar," and vanished. "Damn it, master. Once I get the chance I will kill him," growled Ishtar. Still she felt something weird about her words, which others noticed but didn't comment. "Lord Poseidon, I am happy you are okay," said Ereshkigal as she came near him and fell on his chest. "You have drained your divinity completely," Poseidon said, his face unchanged. "Indeed, I am barely persisting in this state. It will take years for me to recover naturally, and once the end of Age of Gods has met its conclusion." "We will die," Ereshkigal said, sadness filled in her voice. Her words made everyone silent. "Is that so?" Poseidon said and grabbed her back, and then Ereshkigal moaned, "Ah," though she blushed the next moment. "My divinity is recovering," she said, surprised, and looked at the men who had performed the miracle. "Create greater item," Poseidon said, and a bouquet of the flowers appeared in his hand and he gave it to her. "FL flowers. They are so beautiful," she exclaimed, and the next moment she felt her cheeks becoming moist. I am crying," she said to herself, and Poseidon again chanted, "Create greater item." Then a bag of seeds appeared in front of her. He placed it in her hand, her body already separated from his. He said calmly, "You helped us, and I know you like the flowers the most, so this is my reward for helping us," he said. She looked at him with a blush and then at the seeds. "Fill up the underworld with flowers. These will grow in underworld, never rot, and blossom forever. Let your twilight be a joyful one." Poseidon paused and then, smiling slightly, he said, "After all the gods had passed away, let's meet at the throne of divine." His words made her heart flutter. She blushed heavily, looked down and managed to muster up to whisper, "Thank you," and then teleported away. Suddenly, Merlin came in front of the Poseidon and said, "I thank you for saving the humanities. I have but a humble request. I have a question. How did you return back into singularity?" His words spiked the anger of Poseidon's wives and his daughter. Even Jean looked at him with unkind eyes. Artoria summoned the divine lance in her hand and pointing it at Merlin, whose face became pale, she said, "Come here, bastard. Let me Rongominiadize you, fucker." Her lance started glowing and Merlin quickly said, "Please stop. Let's be civilized, shall we? I am just asking of curiosity. I didn't mean anything else," but Artoria didn't listen to his words. Merlin, knowing he had fucked up, quickly hid behind Ritsuka, who shouted, "What are you doing?" Merlin shamelessly replied, "Saving my ass. Get away from Senpai." Mash shouted, but Merlin quickly used a spell, creating a barrier around him, Ritsuka letting Mash and Kyoheim being unable to help Ritsuka. "Leave it," Poseidon said, and Artoria stopped. Then he came next to Merlin. His hand casually broke through the spatial barrier erected by Merlin and he grabbed his neck. "Wizard, I don't like jokes. Immortal or not, next time you antagonize me or my wives, I will send you to Throne of Heroes." Then he left the hold of him, letting Merlin fall on the ground. Cough. Merlin coughed out saliva and said, "Thank you for your me dash." His words stopped in middle as a trident passed through his chest. Poseidon said with a grin, "You can return to Avalon now," he said, and took out his trident. Merlin's visage vanished into golden particles. Ritsuka and his servants gulped. Quetzalcoatl said, "Cold as ever, huh? Are you sure you are not god of death and cold?" she joked. I am not, my brother Hades is god of death and cold, Poseidon replied amused. Quetzalcoatl laughed and said, well then it's time I depart, till we meet next time, she said and vanished. Anna came beside Poseidon despite his casual killing of Merlin, she waited till now, as she felt it would be rude for a devotee like her to interrupt Poseidon and his wives. Lord Poseidon, she said and Poseidon patted her head, you did a good job Anna, he said and Anna nodded happily. She didn't care if she wasn't the cause of Gorgon's death, but since she got Poseidon's praise she was full of mirth. Hee hee, big sister Stheno, big sister Euryale, now you both will be jealous when you heard about it. You big bullies just you wait. She thought mischievously. Take this, the next moment Poseidon threw a grail at Ritsuka who caught it. This is, Mash said and Kyoheim completed her sentence. Holy Grail, Ritsuka looked at him gratefully and bowed, on behalf of humanity and Chaldea, I present our gratitude, Lord Poseidon, he said. Poseidon didn't care much about him, and just nodded. I guess it's time we leave as well, Scathack said, and Poseidon nodded, then he looked at Jean and said, System connect her to my throne as well, and the system replied, it will take 0.69% of your merits, and ahem it's really a nice number. Poseidon gave a nod and suddenly Jean felt a connection to another throne. Lord Poseidon, she asked worried. I have created a connection between our thrones, this time you will return to my throne, he said explaining her causing her to be relieved and joyful, finally. I will be able to stay with Lord Poseidon forever, she said, her voice sounding a little dark in the end, but others ignored him, and Poseidon didn't care if he got another Yandere lover. The next moment they vanished, leaving the singularity. Ritsuka and his servants decided to leave as well, only if Sir Hector had survived, Ritsuka said with sadness and Da Vinci replied, do not worry, we might be able to resummon him, now that his data is stored in Chaldea. Her words caused a glimmer of hope to appear in his eyes. After that, he left to the surface, where he met King Gilgamesh, and they enjoyed his hospitality for a while, it would seem since except for Tiamat, everything was the natural course of history, so once this singularity repairs, it won't cause them to lose their memories, at least for a few of them, Romani concluded, ha. I won't forget you, or Poseidon. I had question to ask, alas they left quickly, anyway let me ask you, how was the Uruk, Gilgamesh asked. It was wonderful, they replied making him erupt in laughter, after enjoying the hospitality of people, they left. Uruk and his people were unharmed due to Poseidon, suddenly the distorted reality recovered, the next moment Gilgamesh was standing on the edge of his palace. My king. Is something the matter, Siduri asked. Gilgamesh looked at the sky with a smile, his eyes narrowed slightly and he said, it's nothing, he knew that it was best for this incident to be buried forever, as it might result in formation of a parallel timeline. At the same time Ishtar vanished, her heart slightly empty, while in underworld Ereshkigal looked at the Valley of Flowers, plucked one and inhaled its scent, we will meet again, she whispered. Poseidon POV. We returned back to the throne, and I had to forcefully let Jean follow my other's wives to show the place. Amara naturally returned to the sea, I sighed and said, System I claim all the rewards, then a holographic screen appeared before my eyes. Congratulations. You have completed the special quest, restore the singularity. Objective, you are free to act in the singularity as much as you can to restore the singularity, and in the end, you will get a special reward depending on your performance. Your divinity has increased to EX. Congratulations. You have finished the quest, God and Amun. Objective, help Gilgamesh against this adversity, not as his servant but someone as his equal, I mean this guy won't admit you are superior even if you are. You have received 1/4 of the piece of the divine dividing gear. Notice you all the pieces of divine dividing gear. Do you want to fuse them? I replied, yes. Congratulations. You have obtained divine dividing. Notice. You have completed the secret quests. Do you want to see their reward? I grinned seeing the rewards, system wanted to make me excited so did it ask this question, I laughed, interesting, I muttered. To be continued. Chapter 89, Tainting the Saint, R18, bonus chapter. Poseidon POV. You have completed the secret quest, slay the beast. Completion condition, kill one of the beasts of the humanity at their full prowess. Reward, denial of the authority. Function, at the decrease of any of your parameter by a single rank for a temporary amount of time, you can negate any of the beast's authority. Advantages, you can decrease powers similar to authorities, or authorities from the other versus up to universal peak as well. In simple words it works on all abilities similar to authorities or authorities, not limited to the beast's authority. You can also choose to decrease your desired parameter. Disadvantages, your single parameter will be decreased by a single rank for using it once, and time will depend on the difference between the prowess of the master and the prowess of the authority. Congratulations. Your merit has increased by 3 times. I looked at the rewards with enjoyment, my merit has tripled and despite the disadvantages of the denial of the authority it was quite useful especially against beings with the authorities of instant death. If their authority is derived from them then if they are weaker, my divinity will automatically dispel it, but if their authority is derived from the world, then I need to be stronger than the world to dispel it. But with this I will be able to negate the beast's authorities, and let's just say they take a considerable chunk of mana for them to activate their beast authority. Although it had disadvantages, it was still viable, and I won't be using it other than the opponents with authority either. My haul was done, and now came the next part of my plan, which was obviously to return back to my world. It has been a long time, at least for my human perception of time. The biggest worry for me was Hades' destined death. I won't let him die, thus with clear intention I asked, System, how much it will take for me and my wives to travel between the worlds. Master, it will take approximately 11.2278% of your credits, which includes multiversal traveling of you and your all wives, Amara and Jean included, and also the cost of returning back to here, System said. It's too much, I replied, my eyes narrowed. This was the price after my merits had tripled on top of that. It was simply absurd considering the huge amount of merit I had accumulated by now. I asked System, it will take this much. My distrust visible. Yes, Master, it's not traveling between two universes or parallel timeline, but between two multiverses, and do remember for all the inhabitants in this multiverse, even its creator, this multiverse is all of the existence for them. They are incapable of breaking through multiversal walls, only a few complex multiversal beings, and hyperversal beings are capable of doing that. I sighed, as I knew it made sense. It would seem I need to take some miscellaneous quests to regain my quests. The battle with Goetia remains, however he is too weak for me now that I have a counter for his beast authority. I guess I will have to do with the pseudo-singularities, I thought. Well, I was ready to travel and all, but before something very important remained. Third POV. Jalter and Artoria's expression looked down. Scathach looked at them and asked, what's the matter? Both of you look so down. Jalter gritted her teeth and said, Jean had been sticking like a glue to Mlord for past few days, and they had been mating like animals. Although he had been affectionate with us, he haven't slept with us since that day he became one with Jean. Artoria nodded, her face looking as if she had lost the will to live. Scathach erupted in laughter, garnering both of their attention. Why are you laughing? It is a serious matter, Artoria grumbled. Scathach smiled and said, seriously, you two are so much childish. You think that Poseidon will now love Jean more and forget about us. Listen up, we all have a place in Poseidon's place, and he loves all of us, equal or not. We all have a special place irreplaceable by the other. But, Jalter looked dismayed, though Scathach's words gave them a glint of hope. No buts, listen to me both of you. Personally, I am not the one to judge you, as I myself am quite new to this topic of love, but being the elder one I must give you both suggestions. Listen up, Poseidon loves us and no one can change it, and we love him and only, no one can change it either. Poseidon is just giving the starved Jean the love she deserves. Soon we will be drowning in his love and lust as before, she said. I know, it might take time for both of you. Jalter, you had been technically born only for a few years, and the world you mostly know revolves around Poseidon. I am not saying to change how you love him, but don't be so scared. He loves you and you know it. And Artoria, seriously, you are centuries old and still so childish, Scathach said. Artoria retorted, I am still new to love, okay? I love Poseidon, and it's like if I am loved even a little less than others, it breaks me. But you are correct, our current behavior is not right, and I shall fix it slowly. Scathach nodded, while Amara at a different place laughed creepily. Just you wait, you old hags. I will become daddy's number one, she muttered. Whether her dreams will come true is unknown, but it was time for Poseidon to return back to his home. The god of seven seas was ready to return to the place of his origin, the world he had lived for 14 billion years. Unknown to the world of record of Ragnarok, a change was going to happen that would completely break the original trajectory of fate.